Over the past few years, I've spent over $8,000 on custom portable consoles from places like AliExpress, eBay, and Etsy. And man, I have seen some crazy consoles. Anything from a portable GameCube that's shaped like a GameCube controller to a portable PS2 that's literally inside of a Wii U gamepad. So in this video, you'll see the full countdown of my top 16 favorite custom portable consoles. So sit back, relax, and let me know if you agree with my list.
Number 16. I bought a portable Nintendo Wii from AliExpress for almost $600, and in this video, we're going to take an in-depth look at it and see if it was worth the money. So we have our classic AliExpress packaging here with the orange tape all over it. Let's go ahead and open it up and see what they sent us. Alright, so inside the box, I got a big block of bubble wrap, power supply. Let me go ahead and unwrap this and see what's in here. So inside the block of bubble wrap, we have this little small black case with a carrying strap. Let's go ahead and unzip it and reveal the portable Wii. I'm excited to see this because this is the first portable Nintendo that I've purchased from AliExpress. We've got our nice cloth here, and oh, that actually looks really interesting. It's like a Game Boy Advance, and at first glance, it's like not bad at all. The Wii NGC, Wii and GameCube, kind of cool. And it's probably because it's been sitting in that package for so long, but this thing smells very strongly of paint, which you can clearly tell. To me, it looks like they made a 3D printed case and then painted it blue, light blue. I guess I decided on this color. I don't know how, but what is this down there? It looks like we got a Band-Aid on the bottom. But let's just go ahead and take a closer look and see what we have here. So clearly looks very similar to a Game Boy Advance, but this is a portable Nintendo Wii. We should have real hardware inside of this. But yeah, so here on the front we have, it appears to be Nintendo Switch joysticks, which are nice. We've got a very large D-pad, got some buttons. I believe these are from a Wii U. They appear so at first glance. Now these buttons down here are definitely from a Wii U. You got your TV button, your volume button, I would assume, and then your home button, or I guess start in this case. We got this kind of cool looking trim on the outside with 2 screws there, 2 screws there. Same thing on this side. I mean, that kind of resembles a Game Boy Advance, which we'll compare to in a second. We also have our L and R buttons here on the back, and of course our Z button. And then of course we have some ventilation there. You can see a heat sink kind of just laying inside of there sideways. You got some more ventilation there. It looks like there's a fan. Then you have your SD card right here where they put all the games. Now, I'm very curious what... can I even remove this? How do I take this out? It's just like stuck there. I'm really curious what software they're using on this because the most recent portable Wii software I'm aware of is RV Loader. Essentially, it's like an overhaul of the Wii menu so that you can play Wii games, GameCube games, and stuff from an SD card. There's also BB Loader, and there was one more before that. I can't remember the name, but I'm curious to see what they did here. But let's go ahead and do the big reveal. Not really a big reveal, but get this little screen protector out of the way. Oh yeah, I'm actually impressed so far. The buttons all feel nice. It looks pretty cool. Let me go ahead and grab a Game Boy Advance. I'm gonna do a comparison real quick. So we got a few comparisons here. First of all, Game Boy Advance, which is the most obvious comparison since the shape and just like how it's built looks very, very similar to the Game Boy Advance. It's clear that's where they got their inspiration. You have a speaker grill here on the Game Boy Advance. You actually have 2 speaker grills on this portable Wii. Then on the side, you even got the trim here like I showed you. You also have that trim here on the Game Boy Advance. Now, flipping over to the back, obviously that's, pretty drastically different, but the overall shape is basically the same. And in case you haven't seen this before, this is a portable GameCube. It actually has a Wii inside of it, but of course, Wii's can play GameCube games, and it looks like a GameCube controller. So I just wanted to do a quick size comparison so you can see this thing's actually smaller than that. A lot thinner, to be honest. And then one more comparison. This one's kind of out there, but it's a DMG Game Boy shell with a Nintendo DS inside of like a Game Boy Advance SP that was morphed into this. Pretty cool. I'll throw the link for that video up on the screen. But let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on. Actually, one more thing. I want to see what's underneath this little like Band-Aid thing. Like that looks just like a Band-Aid. Oh, that's the power button. Oh, I forgot we were missing the power button. I don't know why they covered it up with Band-Aid tape. Interesting. But let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on and see what it does. All right, 3, 2, 1. We got life. It's a good sign. We'll see if it turns on. There it is. All right, so we got RV Loader version 1.6, which is good to see. I'm actually surprised. Usually AliExpress is kind of behind on this kind of stuff, so I thought they would have put BB Loader or the one before that. I can't remember the name. And I think is this an IPS screen? It's got like pretty solid viewing angles, so I think it might actually be an IPS screen. Well, we'll see if RV Loader will load anything up. That's the first step. All right, so it's not looking good so far. Oh, yes, there it is. It loaded up. Okay. I was getting worried because I've used RV Loader before. This console right here uses RV Loader version 1.6, and it does not take nearly that long to boot up. Maybe it's just because there's so many games on here. One other thing to note is these buttons are very close together. I guess that's all the room they had to fit them there. So they're pretty close, but not the end of the world. But we got GameCube games here, 18-wheeler, Bloody Roar, Mario Kart Double Dash, Mario Superstar Baseball, Medal of Honor, just like a bunch of random games. Oh yeah, and then if you use the right stick, or in this case, I guess it's considered the C stick, you can select all these different things. So you can go to Wii right here. All right, yes, this console is very slow. I'm not sure, maybe it's just because there's so many games on here, but we got our Wii games now. GoldenEye 007, Kirby's Epic Yarn, Mario Kart Wii Custom. What does that mean? Resident Evil Archives. And just like, by the way, you can technically plug this SD card into your computer and put any ROMs you want onto it, and they shouldn't work. And now it's not officially supported, so there's going to be bugs with games. There's certain games that won't work, especially once you get to like virtual console stuff and Wii channels. Those things are notorious for having issues on RV Loader. Some of them work, some of them don't. So yeah, we could load up Wii channels and we could load up virtual console games and try those out. And some of those work, but honestly, in my experience, most of them don't. So I'm not even gonna bother with it, to be honest. But let's go ahead and just try to boot up a game. We'll start with the GameCube game. GameCube games are honestly the easiest to play on one of these things. Oh, we got more games. I didn't scroll all the way to the right. We got more games here. Yeah, GameCube games are obviously the easiest to work here because we don't have to deal with a Wii remote that has to point somewhere. Well, I'll get into that later, but it gets a little bit complicated with the Wii. Let's go ahead and boot up a game here. I'll do Soul Calibur. I find it funny how on all of the portable consoles that come from AliExpress, they always use these same type of triggers. It's like these 3D printed triggers they make that are, that was loud, that are like, they look glow in the dark. I don't think they are, but that's just how they look. Dude, these speakers are insanely loud. I turned it up to 100 and it almost blew my eardrums. All right, so we're on Soul Calibur. We'll just do a quick arcade match right here and test it out. And like at first glance, like using this thing, it's actually pretty solid. Like it's a lot better than most of the other handhelds I've gotten from AliExpress. Most of them are very janky. I mean, it's janky in its own right, but like it's the buttons. The worst part of the buttons is how close these are together. It's not like the end of the world. Let's just play a little bit and see how it is. All right, so button smashing worked there. I had no idea what I was doing, but I won. I will say the Z button is kind of an awkward place because you gotta like reach around like that, or it's just in a weird spot. You know, obviously most games don't use the Z button all that much, so it's not a huge deal. But I think it would have been nicer to have the Z button like maybe, I don't know, here, or you know, basically anywhere except right there. That's like honestly just really far away. The game runs really well, very smoothly. I've seen no hiccups or anything, which is pretty typical. Usually RV Loader on these portable Wiis runs GameCube games just fine. I am curious to see how Wii games. I think usually Wii games run fine as well, but like I said earlier, the issue with Wii games is obviously most Wii games you're using the Wii remote, you got to point at the screen and stuff. There are some ways to get around that with RV Loader. You can basically make your C stick essentially resemble the hand that points to the screen, and you can use that. It's obviously very difficult in certain games, but luckily most of the really popular Wii games, you don't really need the Wii remote to point at the screen. There's just like there are ways around it with RV Loader. So I was messing around with this thing a little bit and taking a look at the fan on the back, and I think they're actually using this fan as an intake fan, and then the air is coming out the bottom and top, you know, not very well because it doesn't look like there's any kind of like shielding or routing for that air to actually get pushed out. It's just kind of hoping it goes out the top and bottom. I'm not sure how big of a deal it is because, like, have you ever heard of a Wii overheating? I'm sure it's happened, but you know, I don't know if it's a big deal or not. This thing is getting a little bit hot. It's not that hot, but just something to note. I thought they would, you know, make the fan blow out there, but I don't know. We'll take a look at the inside soon. But let's go ahead and just try out. I'll do Mario Kart Wii. And here in the configuration settings, you can go to GC2 Wiimote, and that's essentially where you can configure your buttons and map your buttons to a Wii remote. And somewhere in here, you can map the, you know, obviously pointing at the screen too. I'm going to leave that off and just see what it does by default to start with. All right, so this boot screen right here is pretty confusing. First of all, I don't know why they didn't just put the American version of Mario Kart on here. Like, they always do this. They put like random Japanese versions of games and random US versions of games, sometimes Chinese versions of games. I'm not sure if this is a Chinese version or Japanese version. We did try to use Google Translate, and it seems that this is Japanese, and that right there translated to @ Chinese group, which I don't know what that means. Maybe that's the custom part of this thing. Like, if you remember earlier, it said Mario Kart Custom. I don't know. They already got a player built in. I guess we're going to find out what the custom means. But so far, it looks like normal Mario Kart. I'm hoping they have some sort of like crazy mods on here. And something else I didn't really point out, but this right, they kind of got this like cutout around the screen for it to have a you know, like a shielding right here on top of the actual screen, but they don't. Not a big deal, but you know, would have made it look nicer. So obviously I got first place. It was 50cc, so it's kind of embarrassing if you don't get first place, to be honest. But I don't know what's custom about this, just like normal Mario Kart. No issues there. Now, one more thing real quick before I open this up. I wanted to talk about the quality of the console and just like the materials and the 3D print. And it's better than most of the other 3D printed consoles I've seen from AliExpress. Clearly, they 3D printed it and then sanded it down and painted it. And it's not bad. I mean, it's kind of what you expect. It's obviously not perfect. It's not professional, but I'd say it's solid. So I have the console opened up now, and I've been taking a look at it for a little while to kind of familiarize myself with it. And I want to show you a few things here. Now, first of all, this console, at first glance, looks better than most of the AliExpress consoles, and you can actually open it up pretty easily and not stress the cables. But this right here is the top part where the screen is. So this PCB board right there attached to the screen. You've got some power and data lines going back and forth between the two sides of the console. Just by the way, the bottom of the console is right here and has the Wii motherboard. We'll get into that in a second. But they also have this, appears to be a custom board, kind of around the outside. The interfaces with all of the two joysticks right there, your buttons, your D-pad, your speakers as well. You got one speaker down there, one speaker down there. They just tie into there. And everything looks fine and dandy there. But we go over to the Wii motherboard, and I noticed something after I looked at this for a while. And that's the fact that there's a loose wire. So right down there's a white wire, and you'll see if I lift it up, yeah, it's just wiggling around. And there's a big pile of flux right there, and I can't zoom in far enough. I'll try to take a picture, but there's a little tiny solder ball on a pin right there, and it looks like it just came loose. They just didn't, make the connection well enough. And I'm assuming this wire came loose once I opened it up because it was working before I opened it up. Now, I'm not too surprised it came loose. These little tiny wires, if they don't put quite enough solder, and there's just like, you got wires going back and forth everywhere, they come loose. These are custom portable consoles that are honestly not really made to be opened up again. But the good news is I can probably solder that back down, and it should be fine. But just something to point out. Now, the Wii motherboard is right here, and it looks a bit different than the Wii motherboards I've seen in the past, the trimmed down ones. Usually it's kind of like a shape like that right there. I don't know if it's a different revision of the Wii motherboard or if they just didn't trim it down all the way. It doesn't really matter, just an observation, and I'm not sure of all the nuances of the Wii motherboard because I have not trimmed one down before. So feel free to let me know down below if you have any more info on that. But we're going to go ahead and take the screws out here and take a look underneath the Wii motherboard so you can see the fan and the heat sink and kind of just see what's going on down here. So here's the other side of the Wii motherboard. We have our fan here, our heat sink here, and like I mentioned earlier, it does appear they're intaking air here and then expecting it to kind of come out the top and bottom, those two directions. Now, I thought they would have put like a little tunnel or something to actually direct the air that way. It seems to work okay. Like, it's probably a little hotter than it should be, but it is a Wii. I don't think it's going to overheat. It's not like a 360 or PS3. Now, the other thing I didn't talk about yet is the battery life. So we have two battery cells right here, and these appear to be the same type of cells I've seen in a lot of other portable consoles, and most of those other Wii portables and PS2 portables get like 2 to 3 hours battery life. So I would expect the same thing here. I haven't, actually played it for 2 to 3 hours to get that battery life exhaustion there. Something else to point out here on the inside is that the tactile button for the trigger is actually at an angle from the physical trigger button. So it's a little bit odd, and there's not much else stopping the trigger there except for the solder that's soldered to the tactile button. So a little weird. It does work, but not sure how long it'll last. But overall, it is a really cool console. I like the design of it, and the execution was pretty good as far as AliExpress consoles go. And in terms of AliExpress custom portable consoles, I give it like an 8 or 9 out of 10. And because there's a lot of other ones that are just not good, and this is one of the better AliExpress ones I've seen. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to comment down below and let me know what you think about this console, and check out the links down below in the description to check out my other portable console videos. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.
Now, by the way, guys, I am selling a bunch of these custom portable consoles on my website. I'll put the link down below, or you can scan the QR code on the screen. I'm keeping some of my favorites, but honestly, I don't need 16 custom portable consoles, and I'm selling them fairly cheap, so go check them out down below.
Number 15.
I bought a custom PS2 portable from AliExpress with 2 screens, and in this video, we're going to unbox it, test it out, tear it down, and see if it's any good. This packaging is kind of a nightmare, but here it is. Oh my goodness. There's no way it is that large. Holy crap. This is unreal how large this is. Oh my, what on earth? All right, putting the rest of this to the side. Came with a power brick, of course, one of the cheap ones. It also came with a couple memory cards that have 64 megs on them, and a little Bluetooth adapter or something. I don't know what that's for. Now, taking these things out of the packaging, we've got our little dongle, which again, I don't know what that is for yet. We've got our BitFun X memory cards. Hopefully they have some, I don't know, something interesting on them. Ooh, this one's got an SD card in it. Okay, so we got a 64 gig SD card in there, SanDisk Ultra. This thing is interesting. Let's go ahead and, first of all, we gotta take the screen protector off here, or screen film, whatever you wanna call it. So we have the screen film off. Let's go ahead and just explore this console some more and figure out
what is going on here. So let's first take our tape measure and see how large the screen actually is. Yep, definitely 8 inches. And then, guys, look how wide this thing is. It's a foot wide and 6 inches tall. That just insanity. I mean, I have this other PS2 portable that I bought from AliExpress about a year and a half ago, and this one I thought was really large, but no. I mean, look at the difference here, guys. It's like not even close. So guys, I actually want to do a few more comparisons here, and these are gonna blow your mind. So we have our PS2 portable. Let's go ahead and first compare it to a PS2 Fat. And dude, straight up, the PS2 portable is just as wide as a fat PS2. This is unreal how large that is. And then next up, we'll compare to the PS2 Slim, and you can see that the PS2 Slim is actually smaller than the PS2 Portable. So I think you could straight up take a PS2 Slim, slap a controller on top of it, like tape it up, and it'd be smaller than this monstrosity. Just breathe. And now this part is where your mind will be blown. We'll start with the PSP, and guys, look how small that is compared to this monstrosity. Just, you could take about 10 PSPs, stack them up together, and they'd still not be as large as this thing. And then of course the PS Vita, which this thing is clearly modeled after, just a monstrosity. Now looking at all these buttons, I think they're from a DualShock 4 if I had to guess. The D-pad definitely is. The X, triangle, circle, and square feel like they probably are, but they do feel deeper than I would expect. Now the thumbsticks are definitely from a DualShock 4 as well, but probably not OEM, probably a third party. And of course we have our start and select down here, which appear to be 3D printed. And down here is our second screen. No idea what they're gonna display here, but we'll find that out later. Now flipping to the bottom is where this thing gets really interesting. We have an Ethernet jack, optical out, AV out, a charging port, an on-off switch. Now flipping to the top, just as weird as the bottom, we have L1, R1, L2, and R2, all clearly 3D printed. They don't look too bad, but they're just, clearly 3D printed. We also have 2 memory card slots, like real memory card slots, 2 USB ports, a boot button, I guess that's to boot the PS2, and then we also have some buttons right here, assuming that's for the screen, and just some ventilation as well. Now, if I had to guess, it appears that they just took a PS2 Slim motherboard and literally slapped it down inside of this thing and built a case around it, because I doubt this thing is trimmed at all, considering we have the memory slots on here, we have all the, the ports in the back here. Just very, very interesting. And wait, hold on, flipping to the back. Dude, this thing is, something in here is loose. I don't know what is loose, but something is a lot more loose than it should be. Flipping to the back, it says P8P. It's almost like PlayStation Portable, but instead of the S, they put an 8 for PlayStation 8-inch screen portable. But let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on and see what it does. So we'll start with the switch down here. That'll at least turn on our screen, and oh, it turns on 2 screens. We got our screen here in the middle. We also have this little tiny screen on the edge, which I guess that's our battery percentage, which is pretty cool. Let's press the boot button. Maybe that'll boot our PS2. Honestly, I'm not sure if it will because of stuff bouncing around in the inside. Flashback to when I bought this PS2 and I had to actually fix it myself for it to work, and great, we can't find config loading hard-coded paths. I don't know what that means. I would assume that maybe one of these memory cards needs to be put inside of this console for it to boot properly. So let's play around with that. Okay, well, I put in the one with the memory card and that does not do anything. Let's try again, I guess. Great, this memory card does nothing either. Finally, something's booting up. Hold on, what is that? Now, something I haven't mentioned yet is the fact that this console ran me about $450, which for 99% of people is not reasonable, but for the amount of time and effort it takes to build a custom one-off console like this, I don't think it's out of the realm of being reasonable. But by the way, I had to put in this USB device and both memory cards for it to actually boot. But guys, we are finally booted into OPL, and in case you don't know what OPL is, it's essentially an open source software where you can load homebrew, ROMs, that sort of thing. So clearly we have a bunch of preloaded ROMs. The funniest part to me is when I buy stuff from AliExpress and they have ROMs on them. A lot of times they abbreviate the names. Like, I don't know what ATM3 is, but then we got Call of Duty 2, it's all spelled out. We also have Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto 3. Guess let's just start by playing a game. We'll do the classic GTA San Andreas and see if it runs. All right, well, this thing has been loading for a good 2 minutes and it's just on the straight black screen, so I'm assuming it's not gonna work. And I'd also like to point out that we're already down to 74% battery. We started at 80 when I booted this thing up and it's been on for like 5 minutes, so it's gonna die pretty quickly. So we'll try out Call of Duty 2, because why not? Maybe that'll work. Oh my gosh. Dude, these speakers get ridiculously loud. But looking at the screen, it's not too bad. It's decent. We are in a dark scene right now, so it's kind of hard to see. But let's do a little bit of gameplay here and see how this thing runs. Now, I gotta say, the precision on the thumbsticks is horrific here, which is not surprising given the ergonomics, but it's hard because your thumb feels so awkward when you're trying to reach for the right stick there, and even the left stick or any of the buttons, frankly. But just taking a 360 controller here, for example, typically your hands are so close to the thumbsticks, it just, I don't know how to explain it, but it gives you very nice precision on what you're doing here, whereas this thing, like, it's bulky, heavy, your hands are far away, and it's just it's not right. Which you could assume that by looking at how large this thing is, but I don't know, man. This is a novelty. This is not something you're actually going to want to play competitive games on. I mean, you could try, but you can see how it's going here. I can't even try to aim. Just yeah. Now, of course, the next game I pick is also very dark, so you can barely see it. Some sort of street fighting game. I don't know what it's actually called. But this game's actually not running that well. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but there's a lot of screen jittering. So I'm going to try a different game one more time. All right, so finally on a game that's not quite as dark. We're on Tekken Tag Tournament, and it's running without an issue. And in case you haven't figured out yet, this thing doesn't actually have a disk drive, although it is real hardware. Basically what it does is it runs off of the USB stick. Actually, I'm not sure. It depends which one of these has the ROMs, but either way, it's basically running the ROMs off of an SD card or a memory stick. The PS2 has like USB 1.0 or something, 1.1, I don't remember exactly, but it's super slow speeds, so it has trouble with loading times, but otherwise I haven't really had many issues. But yeah, loading times take forever, and then you saw GTA San Andreas when it not even load up. But yeah, this thing is working. Let me take you back to the main screen and show you a couple more things. Wait, you know what I just noticed? This thing just said 70, but when I was playing a minute ago, it said 64, I think, and now it's just dropping rapidly. So this thing is not accurate at all. I'm not sure how it's measuring the capacity left. And something else that I haven't really talked about yet is, can we talk about the fact that not only is this thing 12 inches wide, 6 inches tall, but you also got to add in the extra 2 inches in the memory card, which has to stay in apparently all the time to even run. I mean, like, what happens if I pull this out? Will it still work? Yeah, this still works. But this one right here actually holds all the ROMs. I just went and plugged this SD card into my computer. So yeah, all the ROMs disappear. Plug it back in, it should pull them back up. But either way, you basically need at least one of these memory cards in at all times, which takes it from Goliath to a Goliath 2.0. I don't know what that means, but guys, one other thing you can do here is you can go to options and you can mess with cheat settings, game settings if you want to tweak things, mod things, stuff that I'm not going to mess with, stuff that I don't even know how to mess with. But let's go ahead and I guess our next step here is to turn this thing off, open it up, and see what's going on the inside of this thing, because it feels pretty sketch. As you can hear, there's just stuff bouncing around. So typically these custom consoles from AliExpress use just random tiny little Phillips head screws all the way around the outside. So we got 2 there, we've got 4 on the back, and then 2 more on the top. So yeah, let's take all those out and see what happens. All right, screws are out. Let's see. Maybe I should flip it over and take this top piece off first. Usually there's a bunch of wires straddling from one side of the case to the other, and oh, actually not quite as bad this time. Hold on, that's actually decently clean. All right, so I undid one ribbon cable and one of these cables right here, and now I can lay them flat side by side and take a look at this thing. And yeah, it actually is a little bit cleaner than usual. Honestly, probably because there's so much space in here. There's just, you can see there's a lot of empty space because the case is just massive. But clearly looking at this is our PS2 motherboard right here, which, yeah, everything on here is stock. Those are the stock USB ports. Those are the stock, Ethernet jack and everything on the back. Our stock memory card slot. Usually we would have our disk drive over here, but this thing is kind of sketchy. Honestly, let me show you something I'm looking at right now. All right, so here on the PS2 motherboard, if we zoom in on this chip right here, you can see these sketchy wires that appear to be just, I don't know, bridging some contacts on that chip, I guess as part of the mod to hard mod it. Don't understand what they're doing there. Like, I don't understand why those wires are just laying there. That's actually what caused my issue on this PS2 portable when I bought it back like a year and a half ago, and I had to open it up and troubleshoot it. There was basically a wire somewhere that was laying across multiple contacts, shorting it out and causing it not to work. I'm worried that that's going to happen at some point here. We also just have random wires going all over the place, obviously, to mod this thing. Now, the other thing you'll notice up here is that our triggers just kind of fall out of place, which is kind of expected, and yeah, they're kind of cheap triggers, which is not surprising. We also have these little 3D printed pieces that hold the batteries in place, and honestly, these batteries might be what were banging around when I was shaking it a little bit. Maybe? Yeah, I think so. Pretty sketchy because the batteries are heavy. That's actually what makes this thing so heavy. Now coming up to the other side, it's the side with the screen. As you can see, screen and controls. This piece right here is obviously your screen with your board in the center where you have like an HDMI port and you get power and all that good stuff. We also have some custom PCBs on the left and right side for your analog sticks right there, all of your buttons, your D-pad, your speakers, and basically these buttons are all ran via this ribbon cable over to this little board down here. Right there. And remember I told you earlier there are some controller ports down there. So basically this board is communicating with these custom PCBs to communicate back to the OEM controller pins right there, so that it, the PS2 thinks you got a real controller plugged in, which is clever. So despite the fact that this console works fine, it actually looks decently clean on the inside, I'm still going to give it a 5 out of 10 because frankly, this thing is unusable. Like, it's so comically large that
even in my decent sized hands, like you gotta have Shaq hands for this to be comfortable in your hands, honestly. Like thinking about that, that would actually be hilarious to see it in Shaq's hands, and even he would probably think it's large. For 400 and something bucks, like I honestly, it's not a terrible price because of all the custom work that goes into this, but I don't think anybody should actually buy this. It's just too large. But guys, thanks for watching. Let me know down below what you think, and I'll see you next time.
Number 14. So I bought a custom portable GameCube from eBay, and it looks pretty sweet, so let's go ahead and open it up. So it's in a pretty large box because I believe it comes in some sort of Pelican case. There it is, which is a nice touch. So it's not quite a Pelican case, but it is still in a nice little briefcase type of deal. Let me see if I can, there it goes. All right, open this bad boy up. We've got our charging cord. We've got our charging brick. And then here is the custom portable GameCube. And man, this thing looks really cool. I mean, like you can see, it looks just like a GameCube controller. It's got the same exact form factor and everything. Got the legit buttons. Actually, I'm not sure if they're legit or just third party, but they look legit. And yeah, this thing looks sick. So I actually went ahead and messed around with this console for a while. So let me go ahead and show you the features and kind of what's up with it. It's a pretty dang cool console, so I'm excited to show you. So I feel like it's only right to do a comparison to a GameCube controller since that's clearly what it's emulating. And as you can see, the dimensions are like right on point. As far as I can tell, they're right on. They could be a little bit off, I don't know. But, you know, all the buttons look legit. There's a possibility it could be remade buttons and not harvested from a real GameCube controller, but I'm not sure. They look and feel legit. The C-stick looks like brand new compared to this one. But anyways, as you can tell, these proportions are exactly the same. The triggers look good. Everything looks good. It's a pretty cool design. So in terms of hardware, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little tour of this console. So it's a 5-inch IPS screen. Got two speakers, your left and right up here, which sound pretty good. You've got, clearly all your buttons. This analog stick and the C-stick, I don't know, feel a little bit different maybe than the original. I'm not sure if it's harvested from an original GameCube controller or not, but that's kind of besides the point. Everything feels really nice. Feels like when you have it in your hands, it seriously feels just like a GameCube controller. Pretty awesome. And then if you look at the bottom, you've got your volume rocker. You have a port for your auxiliary port so you can plug in headphones or whatever. You have your on and off switch. You also have two buttons. This one right here is a start button. This one right here, I'm honestly not sure what it is. I think I figured it out a while ago, but I couldn't remember now. But it's something else. And then if you look here at the top, we have our left trigger, right trigger. We actually have two Z buttons. I believe one acts as the Z button, and the other one is something else that I haven't figured out yet. We also have a USB-C port, which is how you plug into your computer and manage the file system. Through this little hole right here, you have some ventilation. That's your heat sink, as you can see. And then looking here on the back, you've got some more holes. I believe there's a fan back here. You can hear it whir up a little bit when it turns on, but it's not too loud. And then, everything just looks like it was planned out nicely. It looks pristine. It's a 3D printed case. I'm not sure what material was used, but it looks pretty nice. I mean, if you look at it from an angle, you can see the grooves of 3D print, which is just how it is with 3D printing. It's, it's improving every year, but, it's not like it was assembled and manufactured in like a real manufacturing plant. But everything looks cool. Everything looks nice. So before I turn it on, I just wanted to let you know that the design of this specific portable console is called the Ashita. At least that's how I think it's pronounced. And the design was collectively created by a group of modders on a website forum called BitBuilt. And I'll throw a link down below if you're interested. And let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on. So when I first got it and turned it on, you actually have to charge it up first or plug it into a charger because it's in shipping mode, which means it won't turn on unless you plug it in. But when you boot it up, it shows the VGA screen for just a brief moment, and then it goes to RV Loader, which is the software that it basically uses to run like basically a custom portable software to run all your homebrew. And then it just picks up with the last screen I showed. As you can see, I have Super Mario Galaxy in the background. It's just like a custom theme I downloaded. So let me go ahead and go to my settings. I'll change it to the main theme so you can see a little bit better. So that's the restart, and here we are. So here's the settings page where you got some cool stuff. So this is kind of standard with RV Loader 1.5. So you can change your theme. I downloaded a few themes by SciFrame on BitBuilt. So shout out to them. Background image. You can change to solarized gray. I'll just leave it gray. And then controller, you can test the buttons and you can adjust your stick's dead zone. I'm not sure how to configure that, to be honest. You got triggers mode, analog or digital. Leave it on analog. Rumble intensity, which I don't believe there's rumble in here because I've tested that out and nothing's happened. This is a cool page right here. You can see your power details. So you have your battery capacity is 9,900 milliamp hours. Your charging current is 1024. Your charge voltage is 4,200 millivolts. Now TREG, I'm honestly not sure what that stands for. Temperature regulator, probably. I'm not sure what it's measuring at. I'm assuming it's probably measuring. That's probably the current temperature. That's probably like the high temperature before it overheats of maybe the main chip. on the Wii motherboard. And then of course you have power button type, so toggle, like you saw on the bottom, is toggle back and forth, and then some other just basic stuff. And another cool thing is you can see the current, battery voltage and current. All right, so let me show you some other stuff. So basically, to cruise between the menus, you have your C stick. You've got settings, home. I've tried home and it honestly doesn't really go anywhere. Like I just accidentally did it there and it just kind of disappears. Not sure if it's supposed to be like that or not, but that's just how it is for now. And then other than home, you have GameCube games, Wii games, virtual console games, which apparently I select. Basically, if you hold it on that page for long enough, it'll select it. You also have this, which I believe is just a placeholder. That's what I read on BitBuilt. You got homebrew, you've got your Wii channels and settings. So if you go to, I'll kind of show you what I've loaded up so far. So under channels, I've loaded up Sudoku Challenge just to try it. It's a WiiWare. So if you have WiiWare, you load it up on the Wii channels. You got homebrew, which will show you a few different basically apps that we have. So Nintendo and BB Loader and RV Loader. I'm not gonna mess with any of that right now. VC, we have virtual console games. So basically old games that are on the virtual console, like on the Wii U. Now, I've tried out most of these games and some of them work, some of them don't. But apparently the RV Loader is kind of in beta mode with virtual console games, which is, it's fine. So let's try Super Mario World, and I don't think I've actually tried that yet, so we'll see if it loads. And we have this kind of cool custom graphic when it loads. To me, it looks like a Super Mario Galaxy kind of Earth with a few dinosaur type of things sticking out with a GameCube controller, Wii controller, and a nunchuck. Not sure if that's what's supposed to be, but let me know down below what you think about this graphic. I think it's pretty interesting. Awesome. So it is loading up. This game appears to work. One issue I've had is I noticed one of these speakers kind of gets a little bit of staticky in some games. Like right now, I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it gets a little staticky, which is annoying. I'm not sure if there's a loose connection inside or whatnot. And also, I'm pretty sure I need to configure my buttons because I don't have them set up correctly now. So let me go back and show you that. So back on Super Mario World, you press B to configure game. Go to configure GC2 Wii Remote, and basically you can assign these buttons to a Wii Remote so that you can customize it basically. Then of course you got a bunch of other stuff here. You've got Punch Out, Super Metroid. I tried out Soccer and Starflex 64 and I don't think they worked at all. And if they do work, they should run, about the same as they would on the Wii U Virtual Console. We have a few Wii games here. Now Wii games are a bit hit or miss on compatibility. I tried Pajama Sam, it did not work. These other two games did work though. Same kind of deal here is you can configure GC2 Remote, a Wiimote, which I actually already did for Super Paper Mario. So I'll go ahead and show you that game. And the other thing to mention about Wii games is it can be kind of hit or miss. If you need sensor bar functionality, it's not the best for that because clearly there's no sensor bar here. You could set a sensor bar, plug it into another console, and then use a sensor bar with a Wii Remote, but then you have to connect a Wii Remote to this, which I think there's a way to do that, but I have not tried that yet. You could do that in the past. I'm not sure if you can do that in RV Loader or not, but yeah, once you get it running and you get the controls right, it works pretty well. So apparently I assigned the up and down incorrectly because when I go up, it goes down and down goes up. So I'll have to fix that. But so far, any Wii games and GameCube games I run and virtual console games, once I get them booted up, they seem to work fine. It's kind of just a matter of if they boot up. I'm sure there's some other issues here because it's not perfect. But, as you can see, the screen looks pretty nice. Honestly, the video does not do it justice. Just looking at it straight on right here, it is a very nice screen. It's very vibrant. Definitely more so than a CRT TV, at least in my personal opinion. I know some people are not going to like the aspect ratio you're looking at here, but honestly, I don't mind it. And I'm pretty sure there's a button combination to go back to this main screen, but I have not looked it up yet. So right now, I just turn it off and go back on. So now the GameCube games, this is probably what a lot of you guys are here to see. So we got some games on here. We got Chibi Robo, Def Jam Fight for New York. We got Super Monkey Ball, and we have Super Smash Bros. Melee. I played Melee for a little bit, and it works pretty dang well. And so I'll show you some. So here we are in the main menu. And let's go ahead and load up a match, and I'll just show you some gameplay. I have it on super easy right now so I can beat this guy up, but frankly, I'm still not beating him as well as I should. I haven't played Melee in a long time. So like I said, the camera doesn't do the screen justice. The screen actually looks very good. And yeah, so far, this console is pretty awesome. Really, the only complaint I have so far is that one of the speakers seems to be a little bit staticky. But other than that, this is a pretty sweet console. So I've showed you most of the features of this console. Let me go ahead and turn this off, and we'll go ahead and open this bad boy up and take a quick look inside. All right, so here we go. Got it coming apart, and this thing is actually laid out very nicely. So if you've seen my other recent handheld videos, most of the layouts of these things are not great. They're just, have wires kind of strapped across, and it's hard to open these things up. But this one is very nice. Clearly the wires just hang right here, so you can open this up nicely and see both sides. Now this one battery had fallen out when I opened it up, but it should snap back in. Now that's back into place, but we have 2 batteries here. I'm not frankly sure what the capacity on those 2 are. I think I mentioned it earlier, but we got our Z buttons, which is kind of cool just to see the insides, and it's always cool to see the springs on these buttons right here. And if you didn't know, on these trigger buttons, that little loop right there actually connects to this piece right here, and that's how it triggers the button press. And just some other things, this is the screen right here. We have some custom boards. I would assume they're custom, just looking at the controller boards. They appear to be custom, laid out very nicely. And then I believe this is the trimmed down Wii motherboard, which is amazing how small they can get this thing, considering how large a Wii is. That thing is tiny. And then there appear to be some more custom boards down here, which I can't really see without taking it apart, but probably for like audio processing, getting video to the screen, power management, all that good stuff. And right here you can kind of see it. There's like a USB drive, and so that's the USB drive that essentially supplies all the data to this thing right here. But I mean, I'm impressed. This thing looks really good on the inside. I'm not going to try to mess with it too much because there's a lot of really small wires, and frankly, I don't want to mess it up. As you can see, I'm already dropping the buttons around. I'll put those back after I close out the video. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more portable consoles, go ahead and check out my channel, and thanks for watching.
Number 13.
I bought this 100% custom portable NES from eBay, and in this video, we'll test it out, we'll open it up, and we'll see if it was worth the small fortune I paid for it. Now, this custom console looks pretty cool from the outside, but it has a few surprises inside, so let's go ahead, rewind, and do the unboxing. Now, as you can see, the box is pretty beat up. I mean, there's an entire corner just completely missing. Not sure what happened in transit, but, you know, hopefully the NES is still in there, and hopefully it's intact, but we're about to find out. So let's go ahead and slice this open. Like I said, I got this from eBay. Spent about 200 bucks on it, which is actually not too bad considering how much custom portable consoles usually go for. This is by no means like an official piece of hardware or professional piece of hardware. It looked very just kind of done in somebody's basement, but that's okay. That's what we like to see. Now opening it up here, let's see what we got. Okay, we do have an extra bubble mailer in here. I don't see anything else in here. By the way, this is, like I said, completely custom. It supposedly has USB-C charging. I don't know if it came with a charging cord or anything. It appears that it did not. Alright, so here it is, guys. And this thing is actually very small. Looks really neat and actually pretty well done for like an amateur portable. You know, the 3D printing looks pretty solid. So I wanted to zoom in here and kind of show you the 3D printing pattern here. So, you know, it's not super smooth, but I actually like the pattern. It's pretty cool. Got some cool designs front and back. And like, I don't think that's intentional. That's just how a 3D printer runs. Like it runs back and forth different directions. That's just how it ended up. But honestly, I think it kind of adds to the aesthetic and looks kind of cool. So first of all, apparently the NES is 10 inches long, so about right there. So just for size comparison, this console is about half that width, and then the depth is about 8 inches. So about the width of my screen here, and this one is only 5. So definitely significantly smaller than the actual NES console. As you guys know, the NES console is pretty big, pretty boxy. But here it is. Let's take a look at this thing. So we got obviously our A and B buttons here in the front, start and select. Got our D-pad, and these buttons actually all feel nice and clicky. I'm not sure where they came from. They don't look like official NES buttons or anything. And actually, just quick comparison, it appears to line up perfectly. So I wonder if they're using an actual NES controller in there. Actually, hold on. I think the description said something about this. Let me check real quick. Yeah, so I just checked the description, and apparently it actually does use... That's the one thing he said in the description, is that this console does use a real NES controller inside. So the buttons look different. Like, this is not the exact same start button. It might be. It might just be a brand new one. But the piece right here, they feel different. The buttons are obviously different. These are like concave. These are convex. I think the D-pad is actually the same, though. But they must be using a new membrane inside, because these buttons feel so much better than these, or else I guess these are just really old. And then here on the back, as you can see the 3D printing design, but it actually, I mean, it looks good. Like, not gonna lie, it's got sharp edges and stuff, but it looks pretty solid. Now the top here, it does look a little bit rough, as you can see around here. I don't know if they took a knife or whatever to cut those holes out, but that appears to be, I don't know what that is, a headphone jack, I guess. And then that's probably volume. That's a USB-C charging port, which actually that looks pretty solid. And then here's your button, I assume, to turn it on. And then of course, looking to the sides here, nothing crazy, just some more screws. And then looking at the back, this is where you have the cartridge slot. So you stick your cartridge down in there. It's got some little, I don't even know what you call these, some bumpers to hold the cartridge in place, I guess. I actually have a cartridge here, so we can try to slide one in. We got glove ball. Let's just see how it fits. So the only thing is, taking the game out of here is actually very difficult. Not sure why. Okay. I mean, I guess it's a good thing we have a tight 72 pin connector. That means it should work better than the original one. But let's go ahead and turn this thing on and hopefully it works. Oh, yep, that was definitely the power button. So when I turn it on, it shows me a bunch of nonsense on the screen, which makes sense. I don't have a game plugged in, so I don't know what's going on there. Just some random pixels showing up. Let's put a game in, and we'll see if it loads up. All right, so we got glove ball in there. Let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on. And there it is. Pretty quick. Oh, there's actually, so this is interesting. There's actually no speaker grills anywhere, but you can hear the sound pretty well. It gets pretty loud. There's a speaker somewhere inside of this thing, and it kind of vibrates the entire console, which is, I guess that's what what happens when you don't have a speaker grill. Or maybe it's actually here on the back. Let me check. Okay, so here it is. There actually is a speaker grill back here. Not sure why they put it here, because obviously the cartridge kind of blocks it, but it's kind of cool. It kind of creates a vibrating effect. Not sure if that's cool or not. Maybe. You're basically just like playing ping pong with yourself almost. But yeah, D-pad works great. A and B work great. I actually like these buttons better than the original NES buttons. Not that the NES controller was great or anything. The screen looks pretty good. I don't know if it's like an IPS screen. So usually on an IPS screen, you can look at it from an angle and still get a pretty good look at it. And it's actually got pretty solid viewing angles. So it might, yeah, that might be an IPS screen. All right, so clearly Super Glove Ball works. Let's go ahead and check this out. And I want to try out one more game, just for testing sake. So I have this copy of Zelda 2: Adventure of Link, and don't you like the nice custom black color? I guess it's some sort of oxidation or something happened to it. I don't know what happened. This is supposed to be fully gold. It's clearly not though. It's gold and black. Now let's see if it works. I know the game works, so we'll just see if it works. All right, cool. So there it is. Speaker is very loud. So like I honestly have not played this thing very long, but it's honestly not too bad in the hands. If you hold it like this, like straddle these two fingers on both sides, it kind of gets rid of, oh, and I'm getting destroyed by some people right now. It kind of gets rid of the pointiness of the console, and it actually does not feel too bad in the hands. I mean, it's honestly no worse than the original NES controller. All right, so I played 2 games. They both clearly work great. All right, so I tried plugging in my USB-C cable I have here, and the USB-C charging port might be an issue. It's kind of jiggly down there, and honestly, I don't think this cable fits all the way in because like it doesn't go quite all the way down. I might have to open this thing up and mess with it a little bit. I was planning to open it up anyway, so I guess let's go ahead and do that. So there were 6 screws here, got them all out now, and it looks like the top just pops off. I mean, it's coming apart a little bit. I want to be careful here because obviously I don't want to break anything. All right, yep, there it goes. All right, cool. So the top is popping off, and first glance, oh, well, that's not good. We have a loose wire. Wow. Not sure what that's for or if that just came off, but yeah, upon opening this up, that wire was just loose. We also have some glue that fell out. All right, well, we'll try to figure out this cable later, but yeah, so we got our controller right here. As you can see, got all our buttons right there. We have our screen up here. Got a little circuit board attached to the screen. Got obviously your ribbon cable that goes to the screen. Then obviously we have some wires going to the main board over here, to the controller and the screen. And yeah, it's kind of a mess in here. This is kind of what I expected though. This is what you get with a amateur custom portable. It takes time and effort to route all the cables, and when you're doing this on your own, that's a lot of work. So not surprised here, but we can see it appears that we have our main board down here, which then attaches to the cartridge slot. Just looking at this does not look like a real NES board. I'm assuming it's some sort of knockoff. I actually do not have an NES with me right now to compare. I really wish I did, but like obviously an NES console is in a pretty big box. The motherboard is pretty large. You know, all that space is not taken up, but the motherboard is definitely a lot larger than this. So this does not look trimmed down. It just looks like a knockoff board, which whatever, I guess that's fine. Would be cool if it was official hardware in here. Obviously we have our battery here, not in the best spot, but I guess it works. And then you can kind of see if we zoom in here, or just down there, there's your speaker back there. This is the one that's blasting out the back. You know, you saw those grills, that grill right there. Kind of an interesting spot for the speaker, but I don't know, I kind of like it. And then this is cool. We actually have AV outs. I wonder if that works. I'm gonna have to try that out and see if the AV out works to the TV. Obviously, you have a board up here. This is like our sound amplifier board. Oh, actually, that's a Sega board. So I used a Sega board from something for our volume and output. I wonder if that's from like a Sega Game Gear or something. Not sure. Just making assumptions here. So we also have another board down here. I think that is our power management board. Like it connects to the battery and prevents overcharging. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what it looks like to me. And then up here in the top left, we have our USB-C port that's supposed to be used for charging. Of course, it's kind of just flexing around and just hot glued down, which is why it's not in the best spot. Probably need to unhot glue it and then push it further up in there. I don't know. I'll have to mess with that. But pretty cool. Yeah, I'm not sure what this wire is to. Actually, oh, this wire's not even used. All right, so I should have noticed that earlier, but we got obviously our connector here. It's actually cut off there, and this one is not cut off. So I probably should cut this one off, but this one's actually not in use. That's good to see. I thought we were about to lose something, but yeah, it's always just interesting to take a look inside of these things. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to plug this thing into my TV. I have an HDMI to AV converter here. I've never actually used it, so we'll see if it works. So the problem we might run into here is the ports are like really far down in here. Oh man, this is not gonna work without me taking the hot glue off. Man, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, we can maybe at least try the white cable here. We won't get any video, but we'll at least get audio here. Let me go ahead and plug this into my TV and see if it works. So not surprisingly, my TV is not showing anything. I think it might have an issue with the fact that it doesn't see any video, so it doesn't want to give me the audio. I don't know, but honestly, this board might need some power to it, but I would assume this board is already getting power from somewhere here because they're using this board for something. Actually, just looking at it, it looks like we've got AV going from our IPS screen, assuming it's IPS, back to this board, and then I guess we're getting power to this board from our power management circuit right there. And the console is on right now, so we do know it's still working, which is obviously good to see. Oh, and there's your very loud speaker. I gotta say, these speakers are very loud, so this Sega board right here is working pretty well. All right, guys, so honestly, I think this thing is pretty cool. I like the aesthetic of it. You know, it is a little bit disappointing it's not actual NES hardware. It appears to be Famiclone hardware, but it's still just cool to have it in this form factor, and a custom console. It's just like I love it, man. Sometimes I sell these on my website. Check it out down below. I probably will not sell this one just because I like having it. It's cool. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and have a great day.
Number 12.
So there I was, searching through AliExpress for some Cluck and Bell apparel to honor my main man, Big Smoke. Now as I was scrolling through AliExpress, I was recommended a very interesting looking product. In the words of AliExpress, 5 inches IPS screen, 32G mini arcade game console modified by PS2 motherboard, no Raspberry Pi, not simulator, double joystick. Now after some deciphering, I figured out that it was literally a portable PlayStation 2, so I knew I had to buy it and play some GTA San Andreas on it to honor my man, Big Smoke.
Ah,
Crap.
here we go again.
And here it is. So in this video, we're going to unbox it. We're going to take an in-depth look at this console and see what kind of junk AliExpress sent us this time. All right, so the big reveal, we have styrofoam. Nice, that's new. And then of course, once we remove the styrofoam, we've got our classic power brick and then a big blob of bubble wrap. Power brick is pretty standard. I'll put that to the side. And then here's the big bubble wrap. Got made in China on it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 5 made in China's on here. Oddly enough, they did not put it on this side. Slacking. In classic, they gave us a nice little carrying case. And oh, we got made in China, made in China, made in China, made in China. Let me know down below if you count how many times it says made in China in this video. Probably still got some more to go, but let's go ahead and open this bad boy up and see what's inside. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, there it is. And that thing looks very interesting. I don't even know what to say. It's like such an odd shape. Got some random styrofoam packed in there. And here it is. This is a big boy. All right, so let's take a closer look at this thing now. First of all, got another made in China sticker. And I also want to give you guys a quick comparison just how it matches up with the PS2 Slim. There's the PS2 Slim, there's the PS2 Portable. As you can see, that's how it matches up. So it's definitely smaller, but it's actually about the same weight, which makes sense because I'm assuming there is a PS2 Slim motherboard in here. If you didn't know, this has real hardware in it, which is why it's so expensive and why it's custom built. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at it though. So first of all, you've got your buttons on the front, and these appear to be PSP buttons, I think. Got your X, square, triangle, circle. These joysticks maybe came from a Wii or Switch. These might be Switch joysticks. We have a select and start button, which actually appear to be the exact same ones from like a PS2 controller. If you take a look at those pretty similar, maybe not quite the same. And then down in the left corner, you have DIY mod with an M, minus, and plus. I'm assuming the minus and plus are probably volume, the M, no clue. We also have an LED up here. There's some sort of writing under the made in China, but I want to leave the made in China sticker on here for authenticity. And then up here we have some custom L1, L2, R1, and R2 up here, which they're actually pretty solid, not gonna lie. Like they're clearly 3D printed. Obviously this whole entire thing is 3D printed. I mean, you can see like the ribs and lines. It's definitely 3D printed. So are the buttons. And up here we have what is a little SD card. So this SD card is what plays the games on this thing. Supposedly, basically you load up game files to here, you plug it in and you can play. We'll get into that later. And then here on the top, you've got some holes for ventilation. We have a little button here that says PS2. Assuming that's the on button. I don't know. We'll find out. Here in the back, we got 2 more made in China stickers, and conveniently, they are placed directly over a vent, I believe. That looks like a vent. Maybe not. I saw some holes there, so I thought it was ventilation, but it might just be another design. But it's actually got a kind of cool design here on the back with the little ribs. Time. Not sure why it says that, but all right. And just looking at the bottom, I can already see that the motherboard is sliding around, which is awesome to see. Kind of classic AliExpress. We got an 8.4 volt jack. We've got our on and off switch and some more ventilation. And basically, yeah, I saw this motherboard. You can see the motherboard in there. And when I kind of tilted it one direction, I saw it slide back and forth, which is kind of funny. Another made in China sticker. None of there. The right joystick doesn't click quite as well as the left one, but it does still click. Hopefully it works. Kind of cool that they used PSP buttons. I think they're PSP buttons. Let me check real quick. Now I pulled up my PSP from the depths of my shelves, and they do appear to have the same buttons. So you can see the directional buttons. You can see all these buttons over here on the right match up as well. Interesting. Not a bad choice, honestly. And this console seems to be right side heavy. Like if I hold it, it starts falling down to the right because it's heavier over here. Probably has batteries on that side. I don't know. We'll find out. Now, one more size comparison. I have the OG PS2 portable that I bought from AliExpress a few months ago. As you can see, it's much larger. It has a 7-inch screen. This one only has a 5-inch screen. But yeah, obviously this one is a whole lot larger. And now it's game time, guys. Let's go ahead and boot this bad boy up, see if it works. I'm assuming the first thing we do is turn the on button on. And we do have life. We have a green light up here. It is on one of the inputs, no signal. Now let's try this button up here. All right, cool. I hear some noise. All right, guys. So I was a little scared there for a second. It took about 15 seconds to load up. Thought I was not going to load up at all. But here we are. We are in OPL. So basically, OPL is a way to play PS2 games off a USB drive. So we have our USB drive up here. It's actually a USB drive with a little SD card inside of it. You load your games onto it, and then you can play them on your PS2 using real hardware. It's a little bit slower than a disc, but obviously it would have been a pretty big pain in the butt to put a disc player in this console. Would have been massive. But here we are, and up and down seems to work. The down button's a little, you got to press pretty hard on the down button for it to work, but it's nothing crazy. I guess we'll just try out one of the games they have on here. So we'll go with Tekken 4. Oh, I gotta press circle to run. Sorry. And just something interesting I noticed looking at this thing. Let's see if I can show you guys. If you look over here on the right side, it's hard to tell, but the circle button is a little bit more recessed than the square, triangle, and X. And it's kind of tilted a little bit. Not sure what's going on there. Still seems to work, but it's a little bit janky. And indeed, you do press the minus and plus to change your volume. And these speakers are loud. I might have just blown the speakers because I turned it up too high. But I think when I turn up the speakers too high, it makes the console glitch. So there's been twice now where I tried to turn it up to like 90 or 100, and it basically glitched out, went black for a second, and then kicked me back down to 50. So I think the speakers are literally too loud. The amplifier is trying to push out too much power and somehow messes up another part of the console. That's an interesting discovery. But minus and plus does change the volume. If we press the M button, we can adjust. Okay, cool. So we can adjust our color, OSD, function, sound. So all the standard stuff. All right, so we're playing some Tekken 4 now. Getting destroyed because I was trying to mess in the menu. The directional buttons work. X works. Square works. Triangle works. Circle works. So all the buttons are working so far. Now I'm going to see how we can go back to the OPL menu. If I press the PS2 button, I think it just resets. So it should go directly back to the OPL menu. And I forgot. So I guess this is a Japanese PS2 because circle is select and X is basically go back. So it's opposite of usual, at least what I'm used to in the US. And you've got plenty of settings in here that you can configure, like game settings, cheat settings, configure GSM, VMC, not even sure what those are. I'm sure I can look them up and figure it out. Pad emulator, so I guess you could somehow use a different control scheme here with a different controller, but obviously we have the controllers that are built in here. Save changes, test changes, and remove settings. So let's go back to the games list. And what I want to do next is I want to plug this SD card into my computer and put on GTA San Andreas so we can really honor my boy Smoke.
Big Smoke!
My boy Big Smoke, like you saw at the beginning. So let's go ahead and try that out. So I'm back now, booted back into the console, and I had some issues getting GTA San Andreas to download and play on here. That's more of a PS2 and OPL thing than it is this console.
Like it says in the book, we are blessed and cursed.
So what I ended up doing is using a USB drive from the old PS2 portable that I bought a few months ago, and we're going to play some Scooby-Doo and NBA Street, which are games that I downloaded months ago to play. And I wanted to show you a couple things. So first of all, we're back on the actual PS2 menu, not OPL. First thing you'll notice is that the circle or the dot right here is not moving, so the clock is not running. So either they don't have a clock battery in here or it's disconnected or something, but I want to show you something. So this appears to actually be a Chinese motherboard, like a Chinese PS2, which I guess makes sense since it came from China, but like if you come in here in language, your only options are English and traditional Chinese. And when I first selected this, it looked like this. So it took a while to figure out how to get back to English. I don't know, just interesting. I'm not too familiar with what that means for the PS2 in general. Let me know down below if you do. So we're back into OPL now. I'm just gonna boot up a couple games. So like I said, got NBA Street and Scooby-Doo on here. We'll go ahead and try out Scooby-Doo, loading up the config, and it is booting up now. All right, cool. So our game is working, and we'll just play around a little bit. And these fans are really working overtime right now. We got a lot of air blowing out the top, and it smells odd. It smells kind of like solder or flux. Like they probably left some burnt on solder on the board, and now it's just blowing it all out. It doesn't smell the best, but it's just weird, honestly. So playing around with this game a little bit. The controls are not too bad. They work pretty well. Analog sticks work well. My main complaint is this square button is so close to this raised screen that like if your thumb overlaps to the left any, it's kind of hard to press the square button down. It gets kind of annoying. So not a huge fan of that placement there. Otherwise, it's not too bad. You know, the feel in your hand is not the best. It is pretty jagged around the edges, and you know it's kind of compact, so it doesn't have the best feel in the hands, but I've definitely used worse. So despite the flaws in the controls, they're at least all working, which is not the same. I can't say the same for a lot of other consoles I've tested in the past, but let's go ahead and open this thing up and take a look at the insides. I'm curious to see what they messed up this time. All right, so taking a look at this thing, it appears that there's only 2 screws holding this whole console in place. I can't even really see them, but I'm assuming they're Phillips head. Let's go ahead and take them out. All right, I have the 2 screws out, and it should just come apart now, I believe, unless there are some more screws hiding, but I don't see any. Okay, so it's just stuck together a little bit. It is coming apart now. I want to be careful because a lot of times these cables are kind of straddled across the console, and yep, here it is. So first thing you notice is that these buttons just kind of fall out of place, which is fine. And you got your tactile buttons up here for the triggers. You've got, as I suspected, you have both batteries on one side. So the right side is very heavy, and that makes sense now that I see both batteries on this side. They're kind of like glued in there with, it almost looks like tar to me, just black super glue, I guess. And then they have these little 3D printed pieces holding it in place, just barely. You also got a little circuitry right here, which I'm assuming is the power management circuit. But we're definitely straddling some wires here, so it's kind of hard to hold open and look at it. I'll flip the console around so I can see it a bit better, but a few things I've noticed at first glance. So first of all, obviously on the top half, you have your screen. You've got your analog sticks that are held in with these little 3D printed bars, which is kind of cool. There's some clever stuff up there. A bunch of custom circuitry. And then down here, obviously you have a fan on your main chips, blowing air out the top here. And then over here we have a custom board. I'd have to trace that out to see what it's for. Not sure exactly how that's working, but the thing I really noticed down here is you have some random wire sticking out. Let me zoom in. So we're zoomed in here, and hopefully you can see. Let me try to get a screwdriver to point it out. But there's just some wires flailing around right there, and there's like a little plastic piece right here between the chip on the board and then this board right here, and then there's just some copper wires just flailing around right there. They don't look like they're connected to anything. I'm not sure what they're doing, honestly, and it's kind of hard to tell because I have to lift this board out of the way to look at them. But they just appear to be there. Like they're dangerously close to touching the pins on the chip on the board, which would cause an issue most likely. Not sure what they're trying to do there. And then something else pretty sketchy that I've noticed is that this the main board is not even screwed into anything. Like as you can see, I can lift it up from the side. I think it has a couple points that are super glued to the case, but there's literally no screws holding it down as far as I can tell. Oh, never mind. I found one screw. There is one screw right here holding the entire motherboard down. The rest of it is just flailing in the wind. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here that holds it in place, but still, it's a little bit sketchy to only use one screw to hold down an entire motherboard inside of this case. So I'll put it back together, and it does still work, which is good to see that I didn't mess anything up. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and have a great day.
Number 11.
I bought a portable Dreamcast from AliExpress for over $500, and in this video, we're going to take an in-depth look at it and see how it works. So it came in the classic AliExpress packaging, just a big bag with like a case inside. Let's go ahead and slice it open. All right, so inside it is in this little box package thing. This is really large, but I don't really know much about this thing. Like the description was pretty bad, didn't say anything. All I know is it has real Dreamcast hardware inside of a custom portable console. All right, so opening it up, we got some more of the classic purple or pink bubble wrap, whatever. Got a power supply in here probably. So after about 100 layers of bubble wrap, we're finally down to the console, and ooh, here it is. I am excited to see what this thing looks like. I've purchased tons of portable consoles in my day, but I have not seen this one yet. And that one, oh, okay, So from the back, it looked really slick. And then I got to the front, and the screen is tiny. What on earth? That is a little disappointing, I guess. But like the back, it looks super clean. You got some, oh, those triggers feel pretty nice too. Got your ventilation here. Then I flip to the front and I see that screen, man. That's a little questionable. So to be fair, I just looked at the listing and it did say it was a 3.5-inch screen, which that seems about right. Let me just give you a comparison to my phone and like how much larger a phone screen is. That's an iPhone 13 Pro. It's like double the size. So that's definitely really small. Now let's go ahead and peel the screen protector off. Oh yeah. But let's go ahead and just do a rundown of this console and see what it looks like. So first of all, you do have your authentic A, B, X, and Y from your Dreamcast controller, at least it appears so. We've got our D-pad. Now this control stick right here appears to be from a PS4 controller, which is kind of random. I don't know why they wouldn't use a Dreamcast button there or Dreamcast analog stick. You've got a Dreamcast start button. You've got your Dreamcast logo here, which is kind of bulging up a little bit, a little weird. Got a couple, I guess, speaker holes right there, left and right channel. Then of course your 3.5-inch screen right here. Now on the top, we've got some ventilation. We've got a little rocker right here, which I'm assuming is probably for volume. We've got our 8.4 volt power supply plug. We've got our spot where you put in the SD cards. So what I'm assuming they're doing here is using a GDEMU to run the games. So just like a rundown, if you don't know what a GDEMU is, it's essentially an assembly that replaces the disk drive in your Sega Dreamcast and runs games off of an SD card. Supposed to be able to run games faster than a disk drive will anyway. You got your left and right triggers there, which actually feel pretty nice. And of course, you got your power switch right there, which I did not mention yet. Now here in the bottom, we got some more ventilation. So I wanted to interject here with a portion I'm filming after I made the rest of the video, but there's a few things I missed that I want to point out here. Now, first of all, this is clearly a 3D print. Like the whole case is 3D printed if you didn't notice. It's got some like ridges and stuff, and it doesn't look bad by any means. It's actually better than a lot of 3D prints I've seen. Now, second, it's kind of odd, but a lot of these buttons, like the buttons over here, the start button and the D-pad, are all a little bit dirty. I'm not sure why, but this seems to be a common theme across all of the custom portables I buy from AliExpress. They're all just like have some buttons and stuff that are just a little bit dirty. I don't know why, but yeah, just a couple of things to point out. And yeah, pretty basic. Let's go ahead and turn it on and see if it works. So flip the on switch, and it's booting up. Whoa. There we go. Retro Dream. Okay. All right, I think I just accidentally booted into a game. So let me turn this off and back on one more time. Yeah, I think this changes the volume. It doesn't pop up with anything on the screen. But we got some games here. Let's go ahead and run through them. We got DOA 2, F355 Challenge, Headhunter A, Headhunter B, Resident Evil 2 A and B, Sonic 1 and 2. But let's just go ahead and boot one up. We'll do a classic. We'll go with Sonic here, Sonic 1. And yeah, this D-pad is not the best. You can see there it's shaking around a lot. I mean, like it works, but it's just not not the best. Okay, so I kind of gave the D-pad a little too much credit in this video. It's really bad. Like it moves around a whole lot. You can actually click down on the D-pad, which makes no sense, and it just doesn't feel nice at all. It's really bad. The buttons in general are pretty bad. The analog stick is bad, but I just wanted to mention that the D-pad especially it's really bad. Now, the first thing I notice here on the screen is that the image is kind of shifted all the way to the left. A little bit odd. I'm not sure if that's a software thing or something to do with how the screen assembly was installed. A little bit odd, though. And I guess this is the Japanese version of Sonic Adventure because clearly there's Japanese writing on there. Let's just go ahead and boot it up and try to play. So the game's working fine now when I'm playing, but when I was booting it up, it took a long time for it to boot up. And then every once in a while, the cutscenes kind of flash a little bit like they were having issues. Not sure if that's normal with this game or if that's just because of the GDEMU. Like I said, I thought GDEMU had faster load times than an actual disc version, but maybe not. And whatever match I'm doing right now is not going well. The console is working though. It does have this, if you like smell the output, and I don't even have to smell it, you can just kind of smell it from a distance. It has this distinct smell from stuff that was manufactured in China. Like at least all these portable consoles I've purchased from them always have this distinct smell. I don't know why, but it's just kind of funny. Now let's go back and we'll try out another game later, but I do want to do some comparisons first. And then of course a Dreamcast controller. And as you can see, the buttons are the same placement, same color. It does look like they indeed did actually harvest buttons from an actual Dreamcast controller. Either that or they used some really good knockoffs. Actually, they might be knockoffs. They look close, but the dimensions actually look like they might be a little off. So maybe I'm wrong here. Unless the Japanese version of a Dreamcast controller or a Chinese version of the Dreamcast controller has slightly different buttons, these do actually look slightly different than these here. And this is an authentic controller, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Now the D-pad, Oh, actually, I think the D-pad is different as well. The D-pad looks really similar. Like that one looks really similar to this one. But first of all, it feels pretty bad because it's just kind of loose in there. And I think it actually is a completely different D-pad. Now the start button looks about the same. Actually, I don't know. Start button looks a little bit off there too. Looks close, but just off. And then of course they used a PS4 analog stick instead of a Dreamcast, which I don't know why. Dreamcast joystick's pretty good. Now the triggers they actually made look really similar. They're clearly a third-party print though, or a 3D print rather than a original analog stick there. And honestly, like the Dreamcast controller, the original one, is a pretty good controller. So a little bit disappointing they didn't use all of the authentic buttons and that sort of thing. But let's also compare to a real Dreamcast here. So we got the Dreamcast console, and the Dreamcast console is definitely heavier than this portable, which is a good thing. Probably mostly because of the disc assembly in here. So when you open this up, we've got a game in here, and essentially what this does right here, I mentioned there's a GDEMU, and the GDEMU essentially replaces this whole assembly right here, so you don't have to put a disc in, and because obviously we did not put a disc into this console right here. It's just an SD card that runs the games, and yeah, you can kind of see the sizing difference there. This one's a good bit smaller, but it's honestly not that much smaller. Like it's a pretty big boy. But then when you compare it to a behemoth like this portable PS2 that I got from AliExpress about a year ago, yeah, this thing is really large. The screen, the biggest difference here is the screen is actually reasonable. Like this is a 7-inch screen, very nice for playing. This one's just tiny. Like it's way too small. I actually bought another Sega Dreamcast portable back like, I don't know, last summer, and that one was pretty good. Like it had a pretty large screen. I ended up selling that one on Whatnot. Unfortunately, I might buy another one because I kind of want one again. But this one, just off the bat, doesn't seem quite as good as that one. So I wanted to chime in here kind of after playing with this Dreamcast some more. And I want to revise my statement I said where this one's only a little bit worse than the previous Dreamcast. No, that's not correct. The last portable Dreamcast I had was a whole lot better. Like it felt better. It worked better. The screen was better. Overall, it was just a whole lot nicer to play with. I'm not going to say it's super nice because it is a janky portable console. They all are. But it was much better than this one. This one is like super top level, 100% jank. And it doesn't even have a VMU, which I didn't realize while I was making this video. Didn't even look for it. Did not see it on the inside either. But there's no VMU in this console, which is pretty lackluster for a Dreamcast portable. Let's go ahead and boot this one back up, and we'll take a look at it some more. So whatever Dreamcast startup it has when it boots up is different than what I'm used to. I'm not sure where it's from, if it's the Chinese version and the Japanese version, whatever, I don't know. Let's go ahead and try. Oh, here's Daytona USA. That's a classic. Something else to note is there seems to be like a little, I don't know if that's burn-in, but like there's a little bit of a ring there in the middle of the screen versus the outside. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera, but just a little bit odd. All right, so it looks like it is still the Japanese or Chinese version, and it does look like it actually has the VMU built in, which is nice. Playing some Daytona USA. This is an absolute classic. I never really played it on the Dreamcast, but I played it all the time in arcades. Just like an absolute classic. If you guys remember from the 90s and early 2000s, this is probably early 2000s, and such a fun game. And I kind of take it back. The screen angles, the viewing angles actually aren't too bad. They're not the best, but they're not quite as bad as I thought they were. But yeah, my main gripe with this thing is just how small the screen is. Now, to be fair, one thing I didn't mention earlier that's actually pretty cool is the circular design of this console does very well mimic the Dreamcast controller here. So like if you take a look at it, you can see this circular piece that kind of wraps around the entire console is mimicking this right here. It's a cool looking device. Just, you know, obviously not the most practical thing, but let's go ahead and open this thing up and just see what the inside looks like. We got, I think, 8 screws to open it up. They usually keep these things pretty simple to take apart. So let's go ahead and take it apart and see what it looks like. So I have all the screws out. I did have one casualty. The screw hit the ground and bounced. I don't know where it is, but I'll find it later. Now let's go ahead and see how this opens up. And wow, that is a mess in there. That's definitely the messiest one I've seen from AliExpress. There's not really a good way to open it up. The wires are flailing everywhere. I gotta figure out a way to situate this so we can actually look at it. So I think I have this thing kind of situated so you can see it now. Clearly there are a lot of wires in the way of your view, but we have this board over here is for the buttons. And you can kind of see a bunch of wires going there and just kind of soldered down, and then a bunch of hot glue. That goes over to another custom board over here that houses the, that should be the analog stick and D-pad. Yep. And then not sure what that board is. Probably for power distribution. We've got our screen back there, which you can kind of see. Yeah, we got our speakers, right? One there, one there. Again, trying to show you this, but it's a little bit difficult to see with the way they place these things. And then of course, we do have our volume rocker right there, which wires into the speakers. You can see those white wires going to the speakers, which is nice. We do have an HDMI input or output on the screen. You probably can't see that, but it's down there. You're gonna have to trust me on that one. And right here, it looks like we have the Sega Dreamcast motherboard, or at least part of it. And then let's see, I think I have a couple screws here I can take apart, and maybe we can go a little bit deeper into this thing. Might not go so well. There's still a bunch of wires down there, kind of strapped, so I can't really take the board out without taking a bunch of wires out. But you can see, I think I see a heat sink there, a few heat sinks, maybe a fan. Is there a fan in there? I can't tell. There's all your batteries. We got 4 little battery pack cells right there. All right, yeah, that piece right there is a fan. And I'll show some pictures on the screen as I'm showing all this stuff because obviously you can't see it very well. Now, indeed, you do see the Sega logo. It's 1998, so you know that's a Dreamcast board. And yeah, such an interesting assembly. They clearly make these things so they're not meant to be opened again, which I get. I mean, it's a custom portable console. You can only do so much with it. But this one is definitely very messy compared to some of the other ones I've seen. So now I got to rate this console, and honestly, I'm going to give this thing a 3 out of 10 because, I mean, it's a cool concept. I think it actually looks cool. Like, I like how it models after the controller. It's got the Dreamcast logo. It works, which is bonus points because not everything from AliExpress works. But overall, the execution is poor. You know, it's got a small screen. The buttons kind of suck. Got a PS4 joystick. The internals are messy. It's just not the best execution, but at least it does work. But in my eyes, that gives me a 3 out of 10. Now, let me know down below what you guys think about this console. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Number 10.
I bought this 100% portable PlayStation 2 from AliExpress, and in this video, we'll take an in-depth look at it and see if it was worth the $500 I paid for it. So here's the box, and of course, the first thing you notice on these packages from AliExpress, it says Made in China all over it. So let me know down below at the end of the video how many times you count Made in China. I'm gonna guess 15, but might be more or less. Now let's go ahead and open it up. All right, good old styrofoam everywhere. Got this little package right here, which I'm assuming is the console itself, and then here, I'm assuming is the power brick. Of course, a bunch of Made in China's on it. Now let's open them up. We got our power brick here. Now let's go ahead and open this portable up. Dun, 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 dun. Holy crap, this is mad. Oh my goodness. Dude, this thing is humongous. Oh my gosh. Dude. I don't even, this is a mammoth. It's bigger than like a fat PS2. Holy crap, this thing is huge. I'm gonna have to give you guys some size comparisons. Obviously on the screen, it doesn't look that big, but this thing is an absolute beast. It's humongous. Oh my gosh. So I went and gathered a bunch of stuff to compare this thing to because this thing is an absolute beast and it's got so many just weird aspects that need to be compared. So first of all, we're gonna weigh this thing and just see how heavy it is. All right, so this thing it's almost 2 pounds. And now just for a comparison, I'll weigh the PS Vita. PS Vita is almost 10 ounces. So this thing is 3 times as heavy as the PS Vita, just absolutely insane. So next we need to pull out a measuring tape. So we got 12 inches long and it is almost 6 inches tall. Just absolute mammoth. And then next up, we got another PS2 portable that I bought a while back that you guys probably seen before. This thing was huge back then, but like look in comparison, look how much bigger this one is than the old one. That's crazy. And then of course the PS Vita, which this thing is clearly modeled after. It's tiny in comparison. Like you got the same stick placements, the same buttons and directional placements, same start and select. There's also a button over here, same as the Vita, but I'll have to take the Made in China sticker off so we can see it better. But it's just wild. And then of course these thumbsticks here are the same as the DualShock 4. So as you can see, look exactly the same. The D-pad actually looks the same as the DualShock 4 as well. Now I'm not sure about these buttons because these are very deep buttons. I don't even know where those came from. I don't know if they came from a controller or if they custom made them. And then last but not least, we have to compare it to a PS2 Slim. So this thing is about the size of a PS2 Slim. Of course, it's actually fatter than a PS2 Slim, which is pretty skinny. This thing is not skinny at all. And oh, it's got some interesting ports on it. So let's kind of take a closer look at this portable in question now because it's man, this is the funniest one yet. This is wild. So like first of all, this thing's not even really playable. Like it's absolutely massive in my hands. I can barely hold it. But clearly on the front, you got your D-pad, your buttons, you got your 2 joysticks, you got your select and start. We got a Made in China sticker on the bottom as well. And then we actually have an Ethernet jack. We have our optical out. We also have an AV out. So that's actually pretty cool. I've not seen that on another console. We have our power jack and our power switch. And then Oh, I'm not actually sure. Oh, that's for auxiliary, so you can, I guess, plug in some headphones if you want to. Flipping over to the top, we've got USB input. We also have an SD card. Oh, so the SD card is actually flush with the system this time. So every other console I've purchased from AliExpress, the SD card stuck out like half an inch, so that's actually kind of nice. And then of course you can see some ventilation here for all the heat coming out. You've got a TV button, an M for menu, minus and plus, which is probably for the volume. And of course it's got the same design as a PS Vita on the back, exactly the same. I mean, we know what they were modeling after. So obviously it's not touch sensitive like the PS Vita, but it still just looks exactly the same. And yeah, this thing is wild. And the first thing I've actually noticed is that I think the left trigger is messed up. It doesn't click that great. I don't think it's messed up actually. I think it's just not great. There's also a few weird things in the description of this product, so let me go ahead and show you that stuff as well. So first thing you'll notice is this is real hardware, so it has a PS2 motherboard in it, not a Raspberry Pi or emulation or anything. Also has an 80-inch screen, lasts for 3 hours, has a 32G card, have game, has an 8M memory card, PS2 AV output to the TV like we saw, and it actually says it supports PS3 and PS4 wireless controllers. Not quite sure how, but I guess we'll try to test that out. Also says you can play GBA Arcade and other simulators. So not sure what they got on here, but let's check it out now. So I took off the Made in China sticker down here, and it reveals a nice little PlayStation logo button. And then up at the top, I don't think I really mentioned it, but we got 3D printed trigger buttons, which are not the best, but they feel okay. And then obviously the entire thing is 3D printed. It doesn't look great, but it's, you know, it could be worse, it could be a lot better. But let's go ahead and turn this thing on. So first of all, we need to flick this switch on, and it should turn the entire system on. Cool, so we have a light here. And if we press this PlayStation button right here, it should turn the PS2 on. Hopefully. We should boot into probably OPL, but we'll see. All right, cool. So we are on OPL now, and the first thing I noticed is this screen is actually really nice. So as you can see, I'm like changing the viewing angle for you guys, and it's not changing how it looks. It looks very good. It's definitely the best screen of the PS2 portables I've had so far. And as you can see, we've already got some games pre-loaded up. So these are all just loaded up on this SD card. So if you don't know what LPL is, it's essentially a way that you can play games off of like an SD card, hard drive, USB stick, that sort of thing, instead of a disk drive. Because obviously there's no disk drive here. If there was, this thing would be even larger, which would be absolutely unusable. But we got some games here like Call of Duty 2, Gran Turismo 3, King of Fighters Collection, King of Fighters 98, I think. It's always funny how on these games they like to do a lot of shorthand stuff. So if you don't know the shorthand for a lot of these games, you can't figure them out because they're just like abbreviated to 4 letters. But let's go ahead and try out one of these games. Actually, let's explore a little bit. So we got options here. You can see your game settings, cheat settings. This is normal stuff for OPL. If you press the start button, you can also see some other stuff like settings, display settings. I don't know if any of you guys want to see this, but I'll go to a couple of these screens so you guys can take a look if you want to. But yeah, just a few things to note there. And scrolling down, also in control settings, I also see that there's a pad emulator mode for DualShock 3 and 4. So I actually wonder if that's what they're referring to in the description where it says you can use DualShock 3 or 4 on this. Maybe that's just an OPL thing. I'm not too familiar with OPL, but let's try out a game. So we'll try Gran Turismo 3 because most people are familiar with that game. We'll boot it up and see how it plays and see if it runs well. Ooh, that's a little rough. So we're on the startup screen and it's skipping a lot. Like you can... Just listening to that audio, you can tell it's skipping a lot. So that's one of the issues with OPL, specifically when you're running games off of a USB stick or memory card, because the memory card, basically the speeds that the PS2 supports are so slow that it can't load what it needs to fast enough. So the disc is actually faster, or actually a better experience in this case on real hardware. Just something to point out, and we'll see if the game runs the same. And generally, it's an issue with like loading screens and like cutscenes, that sort of thing. But once we load up, it'll probably work okay, but we'll find out here. All right, so on the main screen, and this screen is running fine. No dropped frames or anything. We'll just do easy to keep it easy for now. We'll go to the Smoky Mountain, and we're just gonna do a little bit of racing here to see how it feels. And upon initial startup here, it's also jumping around a little bit, but now it's getting better. I imagine once we start, it's feeling better now already. Oh yeah, this is running well now. We're in a kind of like a dark environment, so it's hard to see. That's just because of the race I'm doing. It's like dark outside. I'll just race for a little bit and see how it feels. So I'm playing this game, and I thought I had rumble for a second because I got really close to a wall, and then I hit it, and then the console started vibrating a little bit, and then I figured out it was just the fan spinning up inside of the PS2. Would have been cool to have rumble in here, but I don't think that would have been good for the insides of the PS2 with the motherboard and everything in there. Probably would not have been a good idea. I'm on lap number 2. The buttons feel great. No issues so far. They're all responsive. Now, the left analog stick seems a little bit touchy. I'm not sure if that's because of the analog stick or just because I'm not used to playing Gran Turismo 3 on the PS2. Haven't played this game in forever. Or in fact, any racing game on the PS2 in forever. But other than that, things feel good. Start button works. All these buttons work. Triggers work. They don't feel the best, but they are functional, and they're not terrible, honestly. Now, fitting this thing in my hands is not quite as bad as I thought it would be. You know, if you have really small hands, this thing's gonna be way too big. You're not gonna be able to hold it, but with decent sized hands, it's not too bad. You know, you kind of gotta like find a little medium grip where you can reach the analog sticks and the buttons and the triggers. So it's kind of right here for me. It's not the most comfortable thing, but honestly, it's not terrible either. All right, so that's working with no problem. I want to go back to the PS2 menu, or the OPL menu. I think if you press the PS2 button right here, the PlayStation button, it'll just reset the console. So it should boot us back into OPL. And I'll see what other games we have on here already. And by the way, all you got to do is load an ISO file onto the SD card, and you can play more games off of here. They already got a bunch of games, so I'm just gonna play the ones they have here. We'll do Call of Duty 2. So something else I haven't really talked about much. We got 4 buttons up here. We got TV button, which changes your input. We're not gonna change the input right now because we only have one input from the PS2. We have the in button for menu. So when you press that, you got like brightness, backlight, contrast, all that good stuff. And of course, these minus and plus buttons are for the volume. So pretty basic. And yeah, we're playing some Call of Duty 2 now. Yeah, so playing Call of Duty 2 for a few minutes works fine, no issues at all. The only thing is that it's definitely a little bit harder to play first-person shooter games with this control layout just because you have to stretch so far from your analog sticks to your triggers. So not the best. I'm honestly not that great at FPS games in the first place, so not exactly showing the best example, but it's not something you're going to want to buy if you want to play first-person shooter games intensely. But it's definitely a cool like novelty device, and it's just like it's such an interesting device. Like I don't even know who came up with this design. Like, can you imagine, like I say this in every video now, but can you imagine being the guy that designs this and your boss comes up to you and says, we need to make a portable PS2 that looks just like a PS Vita, but is also absolutely massive in the hands and unusable in the hands. But I don't know, it's wild. Now my favorite part of these videos is when I open up this console and see what they did inside, because they always do some weird stuff. So let's go ahead and open this bad boy up. And I also want to mention that I did try out the AV port, AV out, works great, no issues at all, no lag. So that's actually a pretty cool feature. Time for the big reveal. Let's see which way this opens up. And oh, it's actually feels a little bit cleaner than the other ones. Actually, that looks a whole lot better than the other ones I bought. Wow, I am impressed. So first of all, your first thing you'll notice is these 3D printed buttons kind of fall out, which is typical. That's just how they're mounted in there. Now we actually have 4 screws holding down the motherboard. That is impressive. I have not seen that on the other ones. The other ones use like 1 screw and it just flaps around in the console, so that's good. We've got batteries on this side, batteries on that side. Got a little 3D printed flap holding them down. And then you've got of course, your PS2 motherboard in here, and you got your fan that blows it out the top. Then down here, you have your SD card wired into this board, which I believe connects up to your memory card. This is just a memory card stripped down a little bit. And then down here, we have our power circuit to charge this thing up. And now looking at the other half, we've got our massive screen with our screen motherboard. And then we have a bunch of custom PCBs that control the, the inputs from the analog sticks, the buttons, the triggers, all that good stuff. And then last but not least, you got these 4 buttons up here, which wire straight into the screen. And one other thing down here, for the speakers, it looks like you're using an amplifier on this board down here, which wires up to the 2 speakers. So I gotta say, I think this one looks a whole lot cleaner inside. Most of the wires are routed pretty well. Everything is strapped down. I don't see any random loose wires like I've seen on the other PS2 consoles. The other ones I've seen, I've had like random wires right here touching the chips and stuff and messing things up. So this one doesn't look nearly that bad. It actually looks pretty clean, and it doesn't smell like burnt flux like the other ones do. So that's obviously a good thing as well. And last but not least, I got to give this console a rating because that's what I do for all the custom consoles now. So there's 3 categories. There's usability, coolness, and execution. So first of all, coolness, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 because it's a neat product. It's such an interesting idea to combine the Vita, the DualShock 4, and a PS2 into portable form. Just a cool idea. So I'm giving that a 7 out of 10. Now usability, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10, mostly because it's so large. It's hard to hold in your hands. It's not the most practical thing. So I'm giving it a 3 out of 10 for usability. And for execution, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 as well because it actually works pretty well. I had no issues. Everything inside looks a whole lot cleaner than it has in the past. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 on this one. Now, last but not least, I'm going to add one more category, which is price for what you get. Now, we paid about $500 for this, and in terms of custom portable consoles, that's actually not too terrible. But of course, it's not a professional product. Most people are not going to pay $500 for something like this. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. That's just how I feel about it. So let me know what you think down below.
Number 9.
So here in this box is a custom portable Nintendo Wii console that I bought from a subscriber for about $400. Now, this console was actually built back in 2019 by a guy named Gman Mods, who is pretty well known in the portable modding community. Basically, these guys will take home consoles like the Wii, GameCube, PS2, that sort of thing, and they'll mod them and turn them into portable consoles. And this console actually sold for $1,500 back when it was originally made, so I think $400 is a pretty solid deal. Now, this console is actually called the Wii Boy Revision 3, so it's not the newest one. But let's go ahead and open it up and see what's inside. And I guess just some other details. This thing has a custom 3D printed case. It actually uses the original Wii hardware. And I believe it uses a software called Portabilize Me, which basically is a custom software for portabilizing your Nintendo Wii console. So we're packaged pretty well in here. Got plenty of bubble wrap. I believe it comes with a carrying case. Got some more bubble wrap in here. And man, I'm pretty excited for this thing. All right, so here it is. As you can see, it's in a hard case or a semi-hard case. Not sure how you want to describe that, but we got some accessories here. We've got, I guess this is the power cord. It uses USB-C for power, which is pretty sweet. So we got a USB-C to USB-C cord right here. We've got what I assume to be the power brick. Yep, definitely. That's a pretty high quality power brick too, power delivery. And then here's this little card, Gman mods. And down here should be the console. So we got a piece of foam here. Here it is. Here's this bad boy. Ooh, that looks nice, and it actually feels really nice in the hands. Let's go ahead and get all this stuff out of the way. Take a look at this thing. Looks pretty dang cool. Like I said, it's a custom 3D printed case, and it feels really nice. It doesn't even feel 3D printed, and it must have been printed by a pretty high quality 3D printing service, because usually when you 3D print something like this, you get a lot of little ridges and stuff that just makes it, you can tell it's 3D printed, but this one feels a whole lot nicer. So first of all, on the front, as you can see, you got your A, B, X, Y. Just like the Wii, you got 2 joysticks here, got a D-pad. It is a little bit of a different form factor because, the Wii has basically your nunchuck in one hand and you got your Wiimote in the other hand. This one is all together, so pretty cool. You got your left and right buttons on the back. You also have a Z button, which is actually pretty conveniently placed. Still kind of hard to, I can feel that being a little bit hard to click while you're playing, but gotta make some sacrifices on a portable console. And then here on this side, you got your volume rocker. You also have a power button here in the back. As we saw, you've got your left and right trigger, Z button. Also got a fan. You got some more ventilation on this side as well. And here in the bottom, I believe that's a headphone jack, so you can, obviously plug in headphones. And then here on the top, of course, we have a USB-C port where you can charge and also transfer data. And this console actually has the real hardware from the Wii built into it, which is kind of hard to believe considering how small this thing is. But I actually have a Wii that we can compare it to. So here's a real Nintendo Wii, like the fully intact. So it's pretty small. I mean, it's definitely a little bit chunky, but it's definitely some impressive board trimming to get that down to that size. So let's go ahead and turn this thing on. I'm pretty sure I have to plug it in first because it's in shipping mode, so it'll only turn back on if I plug it in. I got the little manual that came with this thing, which is pretty helpful. But basically, if you put it in shipping mode, you got to plug it in to the charger to actually turn it back on. And the other thing I forgot to mention is this thing was actually modeled after the original DMG Game Boy. So I have one right here, and actually that's almost the exact same size. That's impressive. That's extremely similar. I mean, if you put them side by side, you can see they look extremely similar. The screen shapes are really similar. You got basically your speaker down here that's similar. You got your your slanted bottom right there, which is very similar. Definitely a cool concept. So now I have it plugged in. Let's go ahead and see if it turns on. There we go. So I held it down. I can hear the fans buzzing up now. And there's a screen. As you can see, it says Portabilize Me, like I said. So I can't actually see it from the angle I'm looking at. As you guys can see, I'm kind of looking down like this. And I guess the screen does not display very good at angles, but I can see it when I look at my monitor. So I'm going to have to look over to the side to see this thing. But as you can see, we've already got some games loaded up on here. Now, obviously, you can only load up games that you own. So I'm going to have to delete some of these. But these are the games that this guy owns. So Luigi's Mansion, I do have that game. I have Metroid Prime. But as you can see, these are actually GameCube games. I'm not sure if he has any Wii games already loaded up on here. Let's see if we can figure this out. I've never actually used Portabilize Me, so I'm not sure exactly how to use it. So we're going to have to do some playing around. All right, so this middle button appears to be the home button. So if you click that, we can go to, I guess we're already on the games menu. Set default video game, show hidden games. I'm not sure what that means. Aha, okay, so if I scroll up, I can get to here. I can see Homebrew, channels, Wii games, GameCube, emulators. So let's go to Wii games and see what he's got on here. All right, cool. Mario Kart Wii. I have Animal Crossing Mario Kart Wii. So let's play, let's just try Mario Kart. And as you can see, the screen is a bit grainy, but it's not too bad. And considering the Wii and GameCube are not, super high quality anyway, it kind of fits the bill. And I can't even read exactly what that says, but it says some sort of bootloader is loading. And I think I mentioned earlier, but the guy did say that sometimes the games have some issues loading. He basically did like a hardware reset, or I don't know if he did a factory reset or something, but it seemed to start working better. But we're having an issue here. It's not loading up. Oh, and I also forgot, if you toggle through the power button, you can get these different RGB modes. So One mode will show you your battery status. So it looks like we're charging right now. That just has no LED. This one, I think, might be the RGB fade. Yeah, so as you can see, it's fading through the colors, which is pretty cool. I'm just going to turn the light off for now. And clearly this thing is not loading up, so let's go ahead and turn it off and turn it back on. Alright, so for whatever reason, this thing is not even booting up now, so I'm going to have to take this thing off camera and play around with it a little bit and try to figure this out. Alright guys, so we are back, and I have some good news and some bad news. First of all, I have gotten this thing up and running, and I've been playing around with it some. Bad news is it's still having the same issue that the subscriber mentioned, where it doesn't always boot up, and it doesn't always boot up games. It's kind of intermittent. I kind of have to try it multiple times before it works. As you can see, it's now loading up Portable Me. And so yeah, I figured it out a bit more. So we got Wii games here. You can go up to the top, and you can go to your GameCube games. I've been able to successfully boot up Wii games and GameCube games. Now, with the Wii games, I have to use the Wiimote. I've been trying to find online if that's how it is with Portable Me, or if I'm just on an older version or whatnot. I haven't found that answer yet, but I'm sure somebody in the comments will let me know. Or if I find that out before I post this video, I'll let you guys know. But basically, like I showed you earlier, you got your homebrew, Wii games, GameCube emulators. So under homebrew, we got a bunch of stuff, and I've tried to boot up a few different pieces of the software under the homebrew menu, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I did one time reconfigure the GameCube calibration. So basically, if you hold down Y, X, and A as you boot up, you can basically reset the GameCube calibration of the controller. And I did that, and then my X was inverted, so I had to go to GameCube Plus or GC Plus config and redo that, which was kind of a nightmare because it didn't open the first few times, and then also the words were like off the screen, so I kind of had to guess, and eventually I got it right. You can also use this visual controller test right here, where you can test the controller. I tried to boot that up a few times, and it worked like once. But not the other times. I'm guessing this issue is probably an issue with the file system, or something probably just needs to be reinstalled. I might need to upgrade to a newer version. You know, clearly I'm not an expert on Wii modding, so if you see anything that I'm saying wrong, please tell me down below, and if you have any info, that'd be helpful. So I had to turn it off to get out of the app, and if we turn it back on, it might boot up, it might not. I guess we'll find out here. So there we go, we got 2 times in a row it's booted up. So let's go ahead and show you a game. So GameCube games work great. I mean, everything I've booted up so far works great when it boots up. So let's try GameCube. So we've got some solid games on here. And I imagine if you're playing this thing, you probably want to play GameCube games. I know I'd rather play some of these GameCube games than the Wii games. Not that there's not any good Wii games, but just GameCube is a classic. So let's try... I tried Super Smash Bros. Earlier and it worked fine. Let's try Zelda, Legend of the Wind Waker. So we click on it, press A, and it boots up. Well, hopefully it boots up. We'll find out. Well, so I thought we were making progress because this was initializing the memory card, but it's still initializing, and it's been like a full minute, maybe 30 seconds, but it seemed to have already written the 512 kilobytes, so I'm not sure what's going on here. And at this point, I'm not sure if I should turn this off or not because I don't want to corrupt anything. We'll just give it a minute, and if it does nothing, then I'll turn the console off. And I mean, I guess while I'm waiting, I can kind of do some more comparison to the DMG Game Boy. As you can see, it's even got the ridges in the back. Clearly there's no little flap where you can open up the battery pack here, but it looks very similar. It'd be, it'd be next level is if they included a cartridge slot in here so you could play physical Game Boy games, but clearly that's not going to work, not in the scope of this, unless you made this thing massive and included some additional hardware, but that would have been cool. So clearly this thing is not working still, so let's go ahead and turn it off, and hopefully nothing's corrupted. We might have to try to turn it back off and on a few times, but it'll eventually turn on, hopefully. There we go. So on attempt number 4 or 5, it finally booted back up. So we're back on our GameCube games, and let's just try Ultimate Spider-Man, see if that works. And once we get this booted up and working, I'm going to show you a GameCube game and then a Wii game, and then we're going to open this bad boy up. I don't really want this video to turn into a troubleshooting session, because that's not really what this video is for. It's really kind of just to show off the console and take a look at it. But yeah, we'll try out a couple games. Once they get to loading, we'll take a look at them, and then we'll open this bad boy up and take a look at how nice it looks on the inside. I've seen some pictures of the inside, and it looks real nice, so I'm excited to check it out myself. Alright, so we finally got a game loading up, and it looks pretty crisp once you get into an actual game. As you can see, we've got Ultimate Spider-Man here. You can use your volume rocker on the side to go up and down. And again, this thing is really well built. It feels great in the hands. Well, it feels great for being a portable. It's still a little bit awkward. I mean, like, look at my hands. I gotta kind of flex them like this for it not to feel cramped. Like, I can do this, but it just feels really cramped. Alright, so we are booted up. It's kind of hard to see, to be honest, because it's a dark scene and I have a light shining straight on it, and the screen is honestly not that bright to start with, so a little bit difficult to see right now, but clearly it's working fine. I mean, this is real hardware from the Wii, so GameCube and Wii games should run fine without glitches. Let's go ahead and go back to the menu and we'll try out a Wii game. Alright, so attempt number 1, we're booted back up. So we go back up here, go to Wii games, we've got a few loaded on here. We'll go with Super Mario Galaxy. I wonder why we have 2 copies of Brawl, not sure. We'll try out Super Mario Galaxy and see if that works. And like I mentioned earlier, I haven't been able to use the actual controls on the console for Wii games. I have to actually boot up the controller. And first thing I'm noticing, I don't think I booted up Animal Crossing. So we definitely have some issues here. I think there's some stuff mixed around with the ROMs. I don't know, but it definitely should not have booted into Animal Crossing because I selected another game. So to sync up the Wii controller, you have to hold down the minus button on the volume rocker. And then, of course, you press the sync button over here. And here we go. So if I press A now, it'll work just fine. You know, I think I probably just need to plug this into the computer and try to resort the file system because clearly something wonky is going on here. But obviously the game is working. It looks nice and crisp. I think I need to adjust the screen ratio somehow because it's in, Wii games are widescreen and I can see that it's bleeding off the side of the screen. So I think I need to mess with that as well. There's definitely some stuff I got to figure out on here, but like I said, I don't want this video to be a troubleshooting video. I just kind of want to show it off to you guys. And last but not least, we'll go to the Game Boy Advance emulator and just boot up a game, and then I'll open this bad boy up. All right, so boot up attempt number 6. We're finally back in, and let's go up to emulators. And as you can see, we've got some Game Boy Advance games on here. So I just want to boot one up real quick and see if it works. All right, cool. So that booted up pretty quick. Well, I guess we're not officially into the game yet, but almost. All right, yeah. So there we are. Works good so far. It is an emulator, so there could be some glitches and stuff, but it's Game Boy Advance, so it should be fine. Well, let's go ahead and turn this thing off and open it up. I'm pretty excited to see what it looks like on the inside. And so it looks like we have 6 screw holes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it looks like that's all we need to take it apart. So it should be pretty straightforward. And I just looked on the inside and it looks like Phillips head. So let me go ahead and get out my iFixit toolkit. If you don't have one of these and you do any kind of repair, you got to check out the iFixit toolkit. It works great. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. If they want to sponsor me, let me know. But they definitely have some high quality tools. All right, so the funny thing is, after I just said that, these screw tips are actually not long enough to fit into there, because as you can see, the screw tip is only thin enough up to there to get down, so I can't actually reach the screw without a longer screwdriver that's skinnier. So I'm gonna go find one of my tools and I'll come back. So I found this random toolkit in my garage, but it should work. Should save the day. Let's go ahead and try to open this thing up now. All right, so I think I got all 6 screws loosened up, and here we go. It is coming apart. Got to be careful here because I don't want to break any wires. All right, so it looks like I can fold it open this way, and there we go. All right, so we do have some wires that are kind of just spanning across there. Not sure why there's like that, but I can't really open this thing up all the way without taking those wires apart. But we'll take a look at it this way. So this board right here is the Wii motherboard that's been trimmed down a whole lot. You've got your audio amplifier down here, I believe. Not sure what these other boards are. I know there's like 5 or 6 custom boards in here. I can't see all of them. But for being custom built, it's pretty clean in here other than these wires that are spanning across. These are some tiny wires though. I've never actually even seen. I don't know what gauge those are. Those are absolutely tiny. And then of course down here you got your batteries, which I believe give you 2 to 3 hours of playtime, which is not bad considering this is a full home console. But I mean, it looks pretty cool. You've got your 3DS. These are actually, I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but these are 3DS analog sticks. So you got one there, and of course a bunch of other stuff you can't really see. And it is pretty cool. Like I said, a lot of these are custom boards in here. If you look closely right there, it says Wii Boy Revision 3 controller PCB. So that's another custom part right there. Pretty cool. I honestly can't dig into it too much without, I don't really want to tear any of these wires apart. So let's go ahead and nicely put this thing back together. And there we go. It fits back together nice and snug. And man, I'm really impressed by this form factor. I know they actually released a DIY G Boy. I think it was pretty similar to this one, where you could buy the kit and basically build it yourself. I don't think they sell them anymore, but that was a pretty cool thing. To be honest, my guess is that Nintendo might have cracked down on them selling stuff related to the GameCube and Wii. I don't know. Nintendo's kind of weird sometimes, but overall, it's a pretty cool console. So I wanted to give one more quick update on this thing. I did a few hours of troubleshooting last night. I plugged this thing into the computer, checked out the file structure, went on the BitBuilt forums and searched through there. And as far as I can tell, all of the ROM structure, all of the file structure for the ROMs are correct.
I deleted a bunch of ROMs just to free up some space, and I also removed the spaces in the ROM file names so that it's a little bit more compact. I saw some people in the forums say that that might help, but it's still having issues. You know, at one point I got it to boot up like 6 times in a row, but other than that, it still a lot of times won't boot up, and I'll have to turn it off and boot it back up. GameCube games seem to work fine once I boot those up. Some of the Wii games are kind of hit and miss. So basically, I'm just looking to see if anybody knows anything, can help me out in the comments, point me in the right direction. It looks like Portabilize Me is not really used anymore. It looks like it's, extinct essentially, but let me know down below if you know anything, and I appreciate the help. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe so you can see future content. I really like checking out these weird, custom builds. I have a portable Dreamcast, a portable PS2, a portable PS4 that I have already purchased that I need to make videos on, and, tons of other stuff lined up. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day.
Number 8. So I'm back with another custom console that I bought, and this one right here might just be the craziest one yet. And honestly, I'm not even sure how to explain it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and open it up and show you guys. So here it is, got it out of the box. It's in a pink bubble mailer here, and it's supposed to be this kind of Game Boy Nintendo DS hybrid. It looks awesome. I saw it on Mercari, and I just knew I had to have it. Let's go ahead and open this up. So we're almost to the reveal, and I am very excited for this thing. Let's go ahead and see if we can slide it out of the bubble wrap, and ooh, there it is. Oh man, this thing is crazy. What in the world? Who made this? All right, so let me just give you a rundown of what we're looking at. So first of all, this is the top screen from an SP. This down here is a DMG Game Boy, and it has Nintendo DS hardware inside. I don't know who came up with this, but it's crazy, it's awesome, and I hope it works. So let me just do a quick comparison here. I have a DMG Game Boy. We'll put them side by side, and as you can see, looks exactly the same. So the base is a DMG Game Boy. It's a transparent shell, which is pretty neat. And as you can see on a DMG Game Boy, you usually only have an A and a B and a D-pad, select and start. Now on this one you have A, B, start, select, D-pad, and 2 additional buttons for X and Y, since a Nintendo DS has X and Y. And then if you flip it over to the back, the DMG Game Boy does not have anything on the back except for a battery, while this one has 2 buttons, I guess for L and R, which is a pretty cool solution. And of course, the other cool part to this is you have a flip-up screen like on the SP. So let me just pull up my SP I have here. And as you can see, it is just straight up an SP screen. So basically, they Franken-case this thing together. Now, before I turn it on, I would like to show you this console a little bit closer up to delve into the details. So let's go ahead and do that. So here on the front, as I already showed you, you get your D-pad, A, B, X, Y, start and select, all pretty normal. Now, as we move up the console, we have a screen here, and it's actually the touch screen from a Nintendo DS, which is pretty neat. And then, of course, moving up a little bit further, we have our main attraction, which is the Game Boy Advance SP screen, which flips up and down, clicks in place just like an SP screen. And at first glance, the main thing I would be concerned about on this console is how the joint from the SP screen is mounted to the DMG Game Boy. I don't know what the processes there are, so I don't know how they did that. I don't know how they morphed the SP hinge to the DMG Game Boy. Hopefully it's strong, hopefully it's intact and stays like that for a long time. But yeah, then if we flip over to the back, we have a couple of cool things. So first of all, on the top, you have a DS slot, so you can play DS games. Right below that, you have a GBA slot, which is basically the exact same spot as your original Game Boy slot, but it is for the Game Boy Advance. And then of course on the DMG Game Boy you have your battery slot here where you put 4 AA batteries, but here there is a Nintendo DS battery. You can access it pretty easily. And then if you look on the left hand side of the console, you have a USB-C slot where you can charge your battery. And then if you move over to the right side, we have our volume rocker and a covered up port right here. And then move up a little bit more, you have your stylus, which is kind of tight, but it does come out. But let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on and see if it works. So first of all, I guess this up here is a power switch. Let's go ahead and try it out. So it's basically like a normal DS. If you're familiar, you basically push up the switch and it'll come back down. So same as a normal DS, there you go. And we have a green light there. And the console is now on, and there it is. That is crazy. So we have 2 speakers down here. We actually have, I did not notice that, but we have one down here and one on the left side too. And now let's pull out our stylus and see if this touchscreen works. All right, so here we go, touchscreen, and the touchscreen does work, and it looks just like a DS. That's crazy. Username is DMG104. And so I just wanted to mention that the DMG104 is actually a real concept. Like other people have made very similar looking consoles. So it's not quite a new thing, but it's still very, very rare. So the D-pad is a bit finicky. So it works, but the D-pad you have to press like really hard, which is kind of odd. Like as you can see, I'm tapping it a little bit and it doesn't go to the side, but if I press it really hard, it does. So that's kind of weird. And then it's kind of the same with the A button. When I have to press it like really hard, if I just tap it, it does not do anything. I have to press it like all the way down. I feel like you could fix that with some better mesh pads on these buttons. I'm not sure what the issue is there, but that's kind of weird. At least the buttons do work though. Let's go ahead and turn this thing back on and let me put a game in.
So I have a couple games here to try. We have Pokemon Leaf Green for the GBA, and we also have Zoo Tycoon 2 for the DS. We'll try out a GBA game first just because why not? And the cool thing is it doesn't stick up at all. It fits perfectly. Turn the console back on, and it should boot up now. And there it is. We got start GBA game. Let's try her out. So as you probably know, on the DS, you can adjust whether you want to play GBA games on the top or bottom screen. Obviously, we're on the top screen right now. And the speaker actually works pretty well. It's very loud. You can't really hear it, but it is a very loud speaker. So here's something kind of weird. You can't actually turn the volume all the way off. It only goes down to like very quietly, but it does not go all the way off. So that's kind of odd. So I mean, as you can see, it is working fine. It is a bit annoying how you have to press down so hard though. Like going down and to the right is not too hard. Up and to the left, you have to press pretty hard though, and you have to press A and B pretty hard as well. I'm gonna open this thing up later and check that out, but it is a bit annoying. It does work though, but I figure that shouldn't be too difficult of a fix. So next up, we'll put in a DS game, and as you can see, this slot is up here, and it's actually kind of a little convenient slot. Pretty cool there. Let's go ahead and turn it back on, and there it is. It pops up. So the touchscreen works very well. I mean, it is just the DS touchscreen, so it should, but like I have no issues there. There's not as quite of a margin on the side like there is on a normal DS, which I figure I should probably show you a DS Lite just to give you an idea of how it looks. So I'm assuming they're using the exact same screens here. So like if you match this up, the touchscreen on the DS Lite and the touchscreen on this custom console look exactly the same size, which makes sense. And if you look at the screens up here, they look exactly the same size, which makes sense as well. So basically they just transported these screens into this form factor, which is pretty crazy, but it's definitely a cool idea. And honestly, I need to try a different game where I can use the X and Y and the R and L triggers. So let me swap games. So I found Mario Kart. I'm trying to play it now, and it is a bit difficult to play because of the placement of the R button, and because it's hard to press to the left side. So that does make some difficulty in playing and turning on the fly, but it's not terrible. And honestly, let me just put it this way. So if you're buying this thing, you're honestly probably not buying it to play it on an everyday basis. It's probably more of like a centerpiece, like on your gaming collection. I've had people contact me in the past about these custom consoles I buy, and they're interested in buying them, and they mentioned that they just want to put it like in their display case because it's such a cool piece. So honestly, like as bad as it sounds, the functionality of these things is not quite as big of a deal as you would think it is, because most people that are interested in these consoles are buying them for like a centerpiece, not to actually play on a daily basis. I mean, there's a reason Nintendo designed the DS Lite as the way they did. It was just best for functionality and use. It's just kind of hard to play games when you have buttons as triggers. So of course, the next thing I want to do is open this thing up and see what it looks like on the inside. So let's go ahead and open this bad boy up. So there's only 4 screws holding this thing together, and we got it apart now, and here it is. And man, I won't be able to open this up very far because there are a bunch of wires kind of strapped together, and ooh, one of the screw posts is broken. That's not ideal. And I mean, as you can see, this thing is definitely Franken cased together. Just a ton of wires here. I can't really open it up that well without I need to take apart some ribbon cables to get to it. I really do not want to mess this thing up though, because it does look very fragile. So here's the board that we're having problems with. So the DMG control board, it looks like it's honestly not tightened down quite enough just from looking at the screw right here. Now the problem might be that the screw is too long for this terminal here, so I don't really want to tighten it down right now. Actually, I do not think that's our problem. I'm pushing up on the board on the bottom and pressing A. Still nothing. I have to press really hard. So I think it's just a matter of what button and membrane are used there. Probably needs to be replaced to get better button functionality there, but I personally do not know what to put there. So honestly, this thing is awesome. It does have some slight issues. I do not personally want to mess with it and try to fix it because I don't have too much experience with messing with these portable consoles like this, and I don't want to break it. So I'm going to put it back together, and maybe somebody that's watching this video wants to buy it and they want to, improve on it, or maybe they just want to make it a display in your gaming collection, which is kind of what I want to do. I might do that. I don't know. But check out my website. I'll put a link down below. I might sell it there. I have not decided yet. I hate selling these things because they're so cool, but like I just can't keep all of these $1,000 devices. But yeah, let me know down below what you guys think. This thing is honestly probably the coolest thing I've seen. So if any of you guys build custom consoles, you do anything cool with consoles, let me know down below. I will buy something from you. If it's a cool console, I will definitely buy it from you. I'm super interested, so let me know down below. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and hope you enjoyed.
Number 7.
So ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another custom portable console that I bought from eBay. Now this one was supposed to be a portable Nintendo Wii. I'm excited to check out what we get, and as always, I spent a lot of money on this, so go ahead and roast me down below if you think I spent too much. And if you didn't know, I actually bought a portable GameCube sort of like this from the same seller on eBay a few weeks ago. Pretty excited to see what they sent us. Pretty small box, but that makes sense since it's a portable console. But like I said, it's a portable Nintendo Wii.
Has real hardware. It's completely custom. You know, this is not something you get from Nintendo themselves. This is somebody taking a Wii motherboard, trimming it down, putting it in a custom 3D printed case. And yeah, all right, so we got some packaging. We got a little case here. Looks similar to the GameCube case. Oh man, let's go ahead and see what's inside of here. Oh, that's pretty nice. That's a whole lot smaller than I thought it'd be, to be honest. The GameCube one was much larger than this. This is pretty sweet looking though. That is a neat looking console. Like I said, this thing is actually pretty small, so just for size comparison, it's about the size of my hand, which my hand is not massive, it's not tiny either. But just to check out the other few things we have in here, we have our charging cable, of course, nothing special, but it is a pretty nice USB-C to USB-C charging cable, and of course your power brick. So the first thing I want to do real quick is actually just compare this to the portable GameCube, so you can kind of see the size difference. And just look how much larger the portable GameCube is. I mean, this is probably 2/3 of the length, 3/4 of the length of the GameCube. And then in terms of thickness, it's actually a whole lot thinner. Probably, you know, half as thick as the GameCube, which is kind of amazing. They both have trimmed down motherboards from the Wii in here, so it's interesting that there's such a huge size discrepancy here. But I like the compact form factor. It's nice, especially if it's got all the same functionality as the portable GameCube, but we're about to find out. So at first look, it looks like the same type of 3D printed case as the GameCube. Somebody in the comments of the other one told me it was resin printed. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but actually from this angle, it looks like doesn't look as perfect as the other one. It feels nice, but it looks almost like there's cracks there. I don't know if that's just a thing with resin 3D printing. Not sure, but overall it looks pretty nice. You know, usually 3D printing has an interesting texture to it just because that's how the process goes. But of course here on the back you can see your fan. As always, you need a fan for cooling. Here in the front you obviously have a screen, which I believe is a 5-inch screen, IPS screen. And then of course you got your B, A, X, Y, and you got a little, I guess that's the start button maybe? Looks like the same plus button they have on the Switch. I don't know, we'll figure it out. And then here on the bottom you have a button here, which I would assume is maybe power, because I don't see another switch. We also have a USB-C port, which is for charging and data transfer. Have a headphone jack. Your heatsink has a little hole right there. And then there's 3 other buttons here. Not sure what those are for. I guess we'll figure it out later. And then here on the top, we have our left trigger, right trigger, and then our Z button. And then these thumbsticks look familiar. For some reason, I can't remember off the top of my head where these came from. This might be from a Pro controller for the Wii. And then we have a D-pad that actually feels pretty solid. And then last but not least, if my dog will stop barking in the background, we got a light up here, 2 speakers, and yeah, let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on. So like I said, I assume this is the power button here, but I probably need to plug it in because usually these things are in charging mode, or in shipping mode, excuse me, so I can't power them on unless I plug in the charger. All right, so I have it plugged in now. We'll try this power button, see if that is a power button. Aha, it is. Okay, so I held it down. We have an orange light flashing over here now, which I assume means charging, and hopefully the screen will turn on. Oh, there it is. That was actually a pretty quick boot. So it has RV Loader on it, which is essentially a custom built firmware for these portable consoles. Some guys in the BitBuilt forum built it, really smart guys. I don't know how they do it, but they do. So a couple of cool things up in the top right hand corner, we have our charging percentage, or our battery percentage, so you can see how much it's charged. We also have a temperature gauge right here. I'm not sure where that temperature is being read at, but I would assume at the hottest point in the console, which is probably the CPU, GPU, something like that. And now here's an interesting thing. I just unplugged the charger and it dropped from 97% to 88%. Not sure why I did that, but oh well. All right, so in terms of settings, we have different themes you can select. So here we only have one theme right now. We can load up some other themes and it kind of just changes the background of the screen, which is cool. If you come over to controller, you can test out your buttons. And as you can see, it's actually just recognizing it as a GameCube controller. So I'm trying to figure out how to go back now. It says press L plus R to go back, but when I press it, it doesn't go back. I'm not sure what the deal is there. And by the way, this is the start button. When I press the plus, it lights up the start button. And also, by the way, I just pressed the buttons, the 3 buttons on the bottom that were mysteries, and apparently it controls everything on the screen, so you can change our contrast, our hue, saturation, brightness, all that good stuff, so that's nice. So an interesting thing on the buttons tester I just figured out, so you can press down and it's kind of like a half press, and then if you press even further, it actually clicks. So it's kind of like 2 different settings to the triggers, which is interesting. And so when you use the right stick, you can select which page you want to go to. So we'll go to Homebrew, and we should see a few channels here. Yep, so we got BB Loader, Nintendo, and RB Loader. Now these other channels, we can go to Virtual Console, you can go to Wii games, GameCube games. Now I need to load up some games and stuff, so let me go ahead and plug this thing in, load up some games, and we'll come back and test this thing out. So I got some stuff loaded up on this console, and in that process, I found out a few things. So first of all, I figured out where I recognize these joysticks from. They are Switch joysticks, and also the buttons are from the Switch as well. just all different colors, which is why I did not recognize them at first. And I also learned that this thing is called the Louie. It's actually a portable design that the Ginger of Oz created a few years ago. I guess he released blueprints so that other people could copy it, but let's go ahead and turn this thing on, and I'll show you what I loaded up and we'll test it out. First of all, so I loaded up some stuff. So we have our channels here. As you can see, we're already on our channels. I actually loaded up the internet channel for the Wii and the Wii shop channel. No idea if it's going to work at all, but I want to try to boot it up and just see what it does. So I guess it doesn't work because it's been on this launching screen for a while now, and I'm not too surprised because Wii channels and Virtual Consoleware are in beta right now on RVloader, according to bitbuild.com. So some stuff works, some stuff doesn't. Not surprised it doesn't work. But let's try out our Virtual Console. So this is basically like Virtual Console stuff you can load up on your Wii U, that sort of thing. So we got Mario Kart 64 and Kirby 64. I'm going to try out Mario Kart 64 and see if it works. Alright, well apparently that does not work either because I'm on another black screen. And something else I just thought about, how do I change the volume on this thing? Because there is no volume rocker on the bottom or anywhere else on this thing. And I've gone through the settings on here and there's nothing for volume. So that's a mystery. We'll try out some Wii and GameCube games. And just by the way, Wii games work on here, but you can't use the Wii remote. Like for some reason, you can't sync it to this thing. Not sure why. I know in RVloader in general, you can sync a Wii remote, but I guess some sort of limitation on this specific device makes sure you can't use Wii remote. But as long as you find a game that doesn't need to use the pointing functionality, it should be okay. So apparently the sound does work because we're on Animal Crossing now and it's nice and loud, but I don't know how to change the sound. Also, I think I need to map my buttons to the correct Wii remote stuff because it's not working at all right now. So if you press B on the game, we should be able to configure it and enable GC2 Wiimote. Yes, and then configure it. All right, cool. So now we can map out our buttons. So I think I have everything mapped out now. Let's go ahead and try to boot this up again and see if it works. All right, so I did actually figure out the volume buttons. So this is down, this is up. You just don't see any visual anywhere, but that changes it. Cool. All right, so that works. A works now. Now the question is, do we have to use this Wii remote right here or this the pointer to do stuff? All right, so I finally figured out all the GC2 Wiimote stuff. So I enabled it so that the cursor goes away after you're not touching the C-stick, and I made it so the C-stick actually controls the cursor. But the problem is it's still pretty hard to type here. Like, I mean, as you can see, it's pretty dang sensitive, but it does work. It is possible. Once we get everything typed in on, you know, when you go to screens and you have to type stuff in, that's gonna be a pain in the butt. But then once you get to, you know, normal games, and it shouldn't be too bad. Well, let's go back and try a GameCube game. Use our C-stick, go up to the top right-hand corner. We got Gotcha Force and Mario Kart Double Dash. We'll go ahead and go with the classic Mario Kart Double Dash. I probably need to enable my GC2 Wiimote, but we'll see what happens. All right, there it is, Mario Kart Double Dash. So to be honest, I've never actually played Mario Kart Double Dash. I've played pretty much every other Mario Kart, but I've never played Double Dash. I mean, maybe like once or twice, but I don't remember it, to be honest. But, you know, just playing this game, it plays great. I've had no issues once I get a game up and running. And, I mean, that makes sense because it's real hardware, so it should play Wii games and GameCube games flawlessly once they're up and running. And something else to mention is, honestly, I don't think the camera does the screen justice. Like, it's a pretty crisp-looking screen for a GameCube and Wii games, which were like 480p games, so or even less for GameCube. But it's a pretty solid-looking screen, pretty solid-looking device, and I actually like the form factor. Like, this thing is pretty small. It's not that large, especially compared to the GameCube portable I have. And I also wanted to go back to Virtual Console and try Kirby 64 and see if that works, because Mario Kart 64 did not work. Alright, so Kirby 64 appears not to work either. I do know there are some Virtual Console games that work because I have played some Virtual Console games on the portable GameCube, so I guess just the ones I downloaded today do not work. And one more game, I also wanted to do a little bit of gameplay of Gotcha Force. Alright, now I had no idea how to play this, so we're going to see how this goes. I'm just mashing buttons right now and slamming people. It's very chaotic. It's definitely a very interesting game. I guess I have some sort of power up right now. No idea how to really play, so I'm just kind of going at it right now. So last but not least, I want to open this console up and see what it looks like inside. I imagine it looks pretty good, considering, you know, how good the outside looks. But let's go ahead and open it up and see what it looks like. So it looks like it should be pretty straightforward to open up. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. So all the screws are out. Let's go ahead and take this thing apart. I got to figure out which way to open it up without stretching a bunch of wires. Alright, so if I go this way, the batteries stay intact and I don't rip out any wires. I always want to be careful with these things because there are a lot of wires that are straddling across the two sides. The good thing about this is it looks like it was designed pretty nicely, so there's no wires like straddle from up there to down there, which is really annoying, but this looks good. Frankly, I don't know all the components in here. It's actually kind of cool. It's got a little Louie right here, so that's apparently a custom board. I'm sure there's a few other custom boards in here that looks custom That looks custom. That down there looks custom. Looks like the USB. Actually, that's a micro USB down there, so that's what connects to your Wii and basically controls the brains, or is the brains. And then of course up here is the screen. You got 4 battery cells, and then you have your Wii right here, which gets a little bit hot. That's why there's a fan, but it's not like terribly hot, so nothing crazy. And you also have a battery down here so you can keep time in your games. I guess that's how that works. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think this thing looks really nice inside and out, and it's a pretty impressive device. I think it is worth the money if you have that money to spend and you're looking for a custom device like this. I know there's a lot of people that are going to go on there and say that this thing should cost $300, but frankly, it's just never going to be $300 because of the time, effort, money that's put into something like this. So yeah, let me know down below what you think of this console, and thanks for watching.
Number 6.
I bought a handheld Nintendo Wii console for almost $600, and in this video, we're going to unbox it, test it out, tear it down, and see if it's any good. And pulling it out of the box here, it looks like we have a nice little Pelican type case here. All right, let's see what's inside of here. And ooh, oh, okay, that's pretty nice. So first of all, we got some nice foam padding everywhere. Honestly, that's pretty nice. Let's take it out and take a closer look. Now, the first thing I noticed here is it has that spice orange type of color that the original GameCube had back in the day. I think it's a little bit darker, but I really like it. It's nice and vibrant. You got, of course, the purple Z button up top, and it really just looks like a GameCube controller on the front here. Of course, you have your analog stick, your C stick, your B, A, X, and Y all look the same. Now, these buttons are clearly like third party of some sort because they don't feel quite OEM, and of course, they probably have some custom PCBs inside, so it's not going to feel the same as a GameCube controller, but honestly, pretty dang good for being a custom one-off build here. And let's just kind of take a look around the device. We got a bunch of buttons on the bottom. Looks like we got 6 buttons. No idea what those are all for, but we'll of course find out later. We also have an auxiliary jack, I would assume, there for headphones. And then just looking at the top, of course, you got your Z button, your R and L buttons, which all feel pretty nice. C button is basically like a clicky button, and these two are mesh buttons, it feels like. So I just wanted to mention that these triggers are actually very similar to the original GameCube controller, where it's got like a soft press that's analog, and then a hard press, you can click it down and get the digital click. So yeah, kind of cool. Power button's right there. Not sure what that is, but we'll find out later. That's our charging port. We've also got our heatsink right there, and basically where our fan probably blows out the top, you would assume. Actually, no, there's a fan. Okay, so that fan might be, actually that's the intake fan. Okay, so intake fan goes in there and pushes heat out the top there, which is cool. And yeah, you can pretty clearly tell it is a 3D printed case. You can just tell by the texture here on the front and the top, but it is a very uniform texture. It's a very nice 3D print. It's not top of the line 3D print, but very good for a custom portable device, and just feeling it in the hands, like it's actually pretty comfortable. Yeah, I mean, I could see you playing this for a few hours and not really hurting your hands at all. But let's go ahead and compare these to some of my other custom portables I have, because I have a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I have a problem here. This is these are not even all of the Wii portables I have. But starting up here in the top right hand corner, we have, of course, the brand new Wii portable that I just bought. Left hand corner, we have this one I got from AliExpress, and right off the bat, it just feels like junk, honestly, compared to this one here. We also have the very first Wii portable I ever bought. I don't remember what they called this one, but it was very nice. Just a little bit smaller, very similar form factor. And then, of course, the most impressive one, my favorite one. I got this one about a year and a half ago, I think. And you can see it's basically a GameCube controller stretched out with a screen in the middle, and it's awesome. And when you start comparing these 4 devices, the first thing you really notice is we actually have a 4x3 screen on our new orange portable. The other ones are all clearly widescreen, and it's kind of cool because, I mean, back in the GameCube era, you're of course using a 4x3 screen, you know, on your CRT or whatever. Of course, as you got into the Wii era, you're using widescreen and 16:9 interface. But yeah, we might do some more comparison later. But let's go ahead and put all these to the side, and let's go ahead and try to turn on this this orange boy right here and see if it works. Come on. Yeah, there we go. Nice. It was a little scary for a second because the screen flashed like 4 times, and it finally popped up with RV Loader here, which, in case you don't know what RV Loader is, you'll find out in a second. But it's basically a custom software just for portables like this. But let's go ahead and explore a bit. So first of all, you'll see we have our settings here, and you go into Loader, you can actually change your theme and change your background image. And, ooh, wait, hold on. Oh, that's not great. Okay, so actually I just noticed my first issue. It's somewhat of an issue. Basically, when you press to the right side, you got to make sure you really go exactly to the right side, otherwise you're actually accidentally going to scroll right and up at the same time, just like that. But honestly, that's just kind of the thing you run into with custom portables like this, where you're building like a one-off machine. But after your loader here, you can scroll down and check out the controller. You got a buttons tester, a sticks dead zone, triggers mode, so you can switch between digital and analog depending on what has been installed here, rumble intensity, that sort of thing. Now, I don't think we have rumble on here, but we can test that out. If you go to buttons tester, you can basically see as I press the button, it'll show up here. You got the 2 triggers. And let's see, press A, B to activate rumble. Yeah, definitely no rumble. That would actually be awesome if there's rumble in the portable controller or portable console like this, but I think that would cause other issues like the batteries coming out of place and that sort of thing. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on here. You can go down to power, you can see your current and all this other nerd stuff that most of you guys probably don't care about. Let's go ahead and check out what kind of games you got on here. So essentially you use the C stick and you can scroll between this home, this GameCube, Wii, Virtual Console. Let's just go ahead and start with GameCube here and see if there's any preloaded games. Ooh, oh yeah, we got some stuff. We got Beyond Good and Evil, Chibi Robo, which is like a $500+ game if you buy it physically. F-Zero GX, and just a ton of stuff. Herbs, oh dude, I played Herbs Sims in the City on the DS back in the day. I put too many hours into that. Let's go ahead and check out the rest of the stuff here. We'll check out Virtual Console. And I've had problems with Virtual Console in the past where some of these games will work and some of them won't. Now, apparently in RV Loader 2.0, they work better, I think. Plenty of other stuff on here. Now, let's go back up to the Wii games here now and check out the real star of the show, the Wii games. I mean, this is a portable Wii. It's literally, I didn't mention it yet, but it quite literally is a Wii inside of this thing. You'll see later. It's a trimmed up Wii board, which is just awesome. And yeah, you can see we have Animal Crossing City Folk. I love that game. Mario Kart Wii, of course. Everybody played Mario Kart Wii. We have a bunch more Spider-Man games. I guess the guy I bought it from is a big Spider-Man fan. Can't blame him. Spider-Man games are fun. And then also some other classics like Sims 2 and Paper Mario. But let's go ahead and check out the homebrew page as well. So the homebrew page is pretty similar to the homebrew on just like any old regular Wii if you hack it. And you see, your Wii 64, you got your Super Nintendo 9X, GX, and just other stuff like that, so you can play some other emulators. Let's just boot up the Super Nintendo emulator and see if there's anything loaded on it. And sure enough, there's a bunch of stuff. We got hacked ROMs, Super Nintendo library, which has a ton of games, maybe. Oh yeah, it's got some music. Yo, let's go. It's got music. Hold on, let me turn this volume up. Oh yeah, just some classic like Wii-esque background music for the Super Nintendo emulator here. Gotta love that. But yeah, as you can see, tons of other homebrew applications here. And I will say that this D-pad is getting kind of annoying because as I try to scroll through, I'll accidentally scroll to the right or up when I don't mean to, but custom portable, can't expect too much. Let me try out Wii 64 and see if there's anything loaded here. Okay, so under here we have a load from DVD option, which is funny considering there's obviously no DVD drive here, but that would be, this is a portable Wii, but like if you attach a disc drive to the portable Wii as well, that would just be awesome, next level. I really want to see somebody do that. Maybe somebody has. Let me know down below if you have, and if you have, I will definitely buy it from you. But now we are frozen because there is no DVD drive here, so I think I just completely destroyed it. But let's restart it. Now guys, let's go ahead and do what we've all been waiting for. Let's play some Wii games on this bad boy. Now as you can see, I'm already on the Wii screen here, and basically you scroll around, you press A to boot a game, and more importantly, you press B to configure the game. So let me just show you that. Basically go on Mario Kart, press B, and you can enable Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, USB saves, and most importantly is enabling the GC2 Wiimote, which basically turns your GameCube controller here into a Wii remote. So you could, assign A to the one button if you wanted to. You could assign X to the shaking your Wii remote if you wanted to. You can even assign like your C stick to control the hand on the Wii. Basically, you pointed the sensor bar with your Wii remote and it controls the hand on the screen. You can actually assign that to a stick here if you want to. And apparently there's actually a button inside of this thing where you can sync a real Wii remote to this, but I'm not going to do that right now. But just cool to mention. And also there's a bunch of other settings down here that honestly I don't know what they do because I just updated the software of this thing to RV Loader 2.0, which someone in the Discord told me about, link down below. But yeah, let's go ahead and just boot up Mario Kart and see how it runs. Cool. You guys know what it is. First place, never in doubt. But there you go, guys. I'm actually pretty impressed with this thing. Buttons work great. I did mention earlier how it'd be comfortable to hold for hours. I'm going to take that back because just for playing for a little bit, you can see I got some red marks on my middle finger just from holding the back of the device. It is kind of sharp back there, but again, custom portable device. It's more for looks, honestly, than playing this every day. Now, also, the screen is really nice. I will mention a few things here. So first of all, these are the volume buttons. I also figured out these are the buttons to control the screen. So basically, you press here, and you can control the contrast, the brightness. You can also go through and see the volume. And then most importantly, you can actually change your horizontal position, vertical position, and do an auto sync on the screen. So before I did the auto sync here, it actually, the screen resolution was not matching up with the game properly. So I was getting a lot of vertical banding on the game. But when I ran auto, it works fine now. And the screen actually looks really good for a portable device like this. Now I will say the triggers are a little bit frustrating because they have the analog and digital action where you can kind of press softly here. And also you can click it hard, but you gotta like put a lot of force to click it. But anyway, let's go back to the main menu. Let's play some GameCube games now. Now here in the GameCube games, basically the same deal as the Wii games where you scroll around, you can pick your game, press A to boot, and press B to configure the game. Now I'm going to pick Lego Star Wars 2 because it's a classic, but let's go ahead and select B, and I'll show you what we got here. So you can force progressive scan. You can also do widescreen, and then also a bunch of other stuff here that honestly I'm not quite sure. I mean, it's pretty obvious when you read it what it does. But yeah, let's just go back, boot it up, and see how it runs. Cool, so unsurprisingly, the GameCube game is working fine. I mean, like I said, it is straight up real Wii hardware inside, and Wii natively runs GameCube games, so not surprising that it runs fine. Now, I will say that the screen looks a bit worse in the GameCube game, just because I see some of the vertical banding on some of these colors here. It's probably really hard to tell on the screen, but, you know, it looks good, but it could look better. Honestly, I'm not sure there. But I will do a quick comparison now where I show you all of the Wii portables I have on the screen so you can kind of see a quick comparison of the different types of screens and how they run, that sort of thing. Just kind of interesting to see. But guys, let's go ahead and move on and open this bad boy up and see what it looks like on the inside. All right, I got all the screws out. And this is where things can get a bit dicey because sometimes you see portables that look great on the inside and very clean and very organized, and sometimes you get ones that look just really bad. Now, to be fair, even portables that are messy inside are many steps above me and what I've been able to do on this kind of stuff and what anybody in the normal public can do, so props to you if you've built one of these things, but some just frankly look better than the others on the inside. And yeah, opening this one up, we got the Z button fell out, which is expected, and yeah, we got a few wires straddling the top and bottom, but not bad at all. Sometimes on the AliExpress ones, you'll have wires going from like there to there, so you can't even open the console up all the way. But this one's super clean. You know, you've got, let's just kind of break it down here. So starting at the top, or actually this is the back here, but we have 4 batteries here. I'm not sure what the capacity on those are, how long it'll last, but you saw we were playing for like an hour and I only lost like 10 or 15%, so that's pretty good. And then also, the star of the show is the Wii board right here. So this right here is quite literally the Wii board. Like from a Wii, this is literally the PCB from inside a Wii that they trimmed down. Some geniuses basically figured out that you could trim down the Wii and still get a functioning Wii for a portable like this. Just amazing work there. And we also have a couple buttons here on the board, and I think one of these is for syncing Wii remotes. The guy that I bought this from sent me like some images, some screenshots about how to do that. I'm not gonna do that in this video, but it's pretty cool. And then taking a further look, it appears that we have, I would assume, our power management PCB right there. We also have our micro SD plugged into a USB right there, so I think there's 128 gigs on board of this thing. But then moving down to the front of the console here, you can see obviously we have our screen right here. We also have another custom PCB that basically integrates everything into the screen and into the console. You can kind of see that's why the wires are going back and forth. But you got these joystick breakouts right here. Also got your D-pad and your buttons just all integrated very nicely. And yeah, this is very clean compared to most of the ones I've seen. So guys, I always love seeing these things. Guys, let me know down below, or send me an email if you got a custom console you want to sell or just want me to check out. Always willing to take a look at it, and definitely looking to buy some, or maybe even just just borrow some for you guys to make a cool video. But guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.
Number 5.
So I bought a portable Nintendo 64 from eBay. It's completely custom, and I guess I'll go ahead and get into my first concern, which is the fact that this box is completely missing a corner. I guess it got smashed up in the mail. I'm not sure if that was an issue with the packaging or if the postal service just kind of threw it around, but I'm hoping nothing is broken in here. I guess we'll find out in a minute. But yeah, I bought this on eBay for about $300, which is actually on the low end for a custom portable like this. There's actually a small community of modders out there that'll build custom consoles like this, like the 64, NES, Super Nintendo, just pretty much anything that's not portable and make it portable. And some of them do commission-based projects, but for a whole lot more than $300. So I'm interested to see what we find in here. You know, from looking at the pictures, it doesn't look super high quality, but it is supposed to be. It did look like it uses all the original parts, and you can actually use your own carts. So I have, you know, a bunch of Nintendo 64 games here that we'll try out and see if they work. Now, I love looking at stuff like this, just custom stuff that people make, just because it's so far from the ordinary. So I'm pretty excited to take a look at this. And yeah, so this entire side is just gone, and there's honestly not a lot of packaging in the first place. Yeah, that's questionable. See, you should have bubble wrap on every side, not just the front and back. These sides don't have any bubble wrap. It does look pretty hardened, so I don't know if there's any damage here. But I mean, here's the console, and it looks pretty interesting. Obviously, it's 3D printed, or actually, it doesn't look 3D printed. It looks like they took, I'm actually not sure what kind of material this is, maybe acrylic or something, and they just kind of cut out pieces, so it's a little rough. But it is a cool looking thing. Now, first thing I noticed is it looks like they haven't taken off the screen protector, which is odd. But clearly, real buttons. Looks a bit dirty, which is interesting. This stick right here it actually feels pretty tight, which is good to see. So this little bubble mailer was in here. I guess they just used it as packaging because there's nothing inside of it. And I'm pretty sure they included some games. So I guess those are in here. We shall see. All right, so yeah, there are some games. Oh, they're Japanese games. Interesting. I don't know if these are real Japanese games or if they're like knockoff Japanese games. I'm gonna have to look, but that's interesting. He did say in the listing that it plays US games and Japanese games, I guess based on the board type. But the great thing is I just got a huge collection in from a subscriber. They included a bunch of Nintendo 64 games, so I have a bunch to try. I got some really good ones like Star Fox 64, Diddy Kong Racing. So in case you're interested, I just went ahead and laid all the cartridges out. This is part of the collection I got from a subscriber. There was a whole lot more, like 4 consoles, like I don't know, 30 games. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this console. And clearly it's a little rough around the edges, which honestly I expected. I mean, even from the pictures I could tell it was pretty rough. But like I said, $300, that's kind of what you got to expect. I'll try to take off the screen protector in a minute, but the one thing that's odd is that it's still kind of dirty. I don't know why people can't clean their stuff. Like, there's still dirt on there. All you got to do is take a wipe or some isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip and wipe that stuff down. Pretty easy to get off. But the buttons feel good. A, B feel good. Start feels good. These buttons feel a little soft. The top one is definitely a little soft, but they all click. D-pad is decent. And like I said, the joystick here is actually not bad. It's pretty tight. You know, these things are known for going loose, but as you can see, it's not too terribly loose. And then I guess we got 2 speakers down here. And yeah, like I said, it's pretty jagged, as you can see. Obviously you can't feel this, but just running my finger over it, it feels pretty jagged. That part right there you can tell is, you know, kind of out of whack. Same around the whole outside. My guess is that they got a sheet of whatever material this is and just, you know, cut it with a Dremel or something. Now here on the top, we got some stuff. So I guess that's a fan there. You got your right trigger, which is, the right trigger is completely jacked up. Yep, I bet you that happened in shipping. Oh man, that sucks. I bet I can fix that, but I don't know if I want to try, considering I just bought this, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, as you can see, this thing is super far recessed, and I can't actually press it. I mean, I guess I can. I don't know if that's actually triggering a button press, but super far recessed. We got some other buttons here. Not sure what those are because they're not labeled. We got a volume rocker probably here. I assume this is power. I guess that's where you plug in to charge it. And the listing is said it lasts for like 2 hours on battery. And then down here you got your cartridge slot, and man, that cartridge looks nasty. That thing's been through the ringer. I hope it works. Man, that thing's kind of ugly. But over here, this the L button over here feels fine. And this thing is a monster. I mean, let me go ahead and just get out my actual N64 console and kind of give you a comparison. So I mean, as you can see, the portable console is actually a little bit wider than the original 64, and the 64, it's not a tiny console, so you can imagine how large this thing is in your hands. It's honestly not too terribly heavy, but it's still pretty massive. So I'm not sure how much they cut in this board, but obviously not too much. They probably cut a portion of it and then you know, rewired the cartridge slot to the back, which I've actually done that before. You take the pins out and you just solder like 48 wires, I think. You can put the cartridge slot in a different spot, and here's what it looks like from the back. You know, just some pieces. These pieces look kind of glued together. It was definitely probably this guy's first try. I'm not knocking anybody because this is probably better than I could do. I honestly tried to do a portable 64 like a decade ago. I didn't get very far. I basically rewired the cartridge port and then didn't proceed any further because I got busy and just forgot about it. Let's go ahead and try to take this screen protector off. So actually I'm going to leave this screen protector on here for now in case I return this console. I don't want to take anything apart yet. Let's go ahead and try to turn this thing on. So I think this is the on button, and it is. I'm not sure if anything will show up now because I didn't put a cartridge in. That was my bad. So I guess we'll start with one of the ones he gave me. We got the Japanese Mario Kart. Slide that in there. Feels pretty good. It was owned by Karen. Interesting. And let's go ahead and turn this thing on. Oh, that's pretty loud. Oh crap, that was loud. Those speakers are real loud. I guess that's not a bad thing, but oh, so these speakers get extremely loud. I'm not sure what kind of speakers are in there, but I'm gonna keep them quiet for now, but it gets super loud in there. All right, so we got a little fan right here, and you can actually feel the air being pushed out, so that's kind of cool. Press the start button, and we'll go ahead and just play a game and see how it works. It actually doesn't feel terrible in the hands, but it is kind of annoying having these jagged edges right here, because the back, your fingers kind of rest on that part, and so that's a little bit annoying. But like I said, this is a budget system, so I can't expect too much. I forgot I'm on 50cc, so I'm just flying by everybody. Oh, but I can't drift, I guess, because I can't use my R button. Oh, I can use it kind of. I'm trying to use it. There we go. Whoa. So you know what I just realized? I'm not sure where the Z button is. So I have my original controller here, and as you can see, you got basically your C stick up here, your C D-pad, your A and B, your start. That's all good. You got your D-pad over here. Got your joystick over here, L and R on the back, and there's also a Z right here, but I do not see a Z on here. There's nothing on the front. On the top, there's these 3 buttons, which I'm not sure what those do. So I guess you press the middle button, you can go through some settings, and you press these other 2 buttons to scroll through the settings. So yeah, I don't see a Z button. That's gonna make some of these games. Oh wait, no, there it is. There it is. That's the Z button. I bet you that's it. So honestly, I can't even tell what kind of material they use for the Z button, but it clicks. So I guess I'll try it out. I'm not even sure. Okay, so yeah, there we go. So it does work. So if you press the Z button in Mario Kart 64, it shoots a shell, or not a shell, but it shoots whatever item you have. Man, I'm playing like junk right now. All right, yes, we got an item now. If I press the Z button, it shoots the shells out. All right, cool. I got worried for a second there. Well, it looks like that game works. Let's go ahead and try out a different game. So let's try out one of my American versions. So we got Super Mario 64, an absolute classic. Let me know down below if you haven't played this game. Actually, let me know down below if you have played this game, because that's going to get a whole lot more comments, because I imagine most people have played Super Mario 64, but it's not showing up. Well, that's not good. I know these games work. I just tested every single one of them on my Nintendo 64 this morning. I cleaned the contacts on every single cart like really well, so it should work. There we go. So I'm not sure why Super Mario 64 did not work. That's the weird thing about cartridge-based systems. You know, there can be some weird things that don't work. And yeah, as you saw, this is Legend of Zelda. So something to mention that I've seen on the really nice portable systems that are made is that people will sub out all these buttons for better buttons, like GameCube buttons, like GameCube analog sticks, because the GameCube analog stick is a whole lot better than this thing. Man, I'm not sure why Nintendo decided to use this. I guess it was one of the first analog sticks, but it's just, honestly, these things wear out so quickly and over time. It's kind of sad. So I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but apparently this is a 7-inch screen, and it actually doesn't look too bad. You know, it is kind of a little tacky to have the little borders right here, the little, I don't know, silver borders where the edge of the screen are. I wish this blue part would have covered those up a little bit, but you know, like I said, $300, I can't ask for too much. So clearly the Zelda game is working. I can't really do much because I'm going through the story mode. I'm going to turn this off and try out another game they sent me. So I actually decided the next thing I want to do is open up one of these Japanese cartridges and just make sure it's you know, real and not one of the repos. I'm pretty sure it's real, just based on looking at some pictures that I just did a little bit of research online. We're gonna open it up, and there's some pretty obvious signs on the circuit board when you open it up. So I got my handy dandy iFixit toolkit with the tools I need here. Go ahead and take this apart, and oh, that looks interesting. All right, so now we got it opened up, and as you can see, it says Nintendo on the circuit board, so I'm pretty sure this is an official game. If it didn't say Nintendo there, then it'd probably be fake, but it definitely looks legit. And I've never really done a comparison myself of fake Nintendo 64 games versus real ones, so I wasn't sure exactly what to look for, but you can usually just tell by looking at the cartridge if it looks real or not. You know, the gray looks fine there. The cartridge cover or the artwork right there looks pretty good as well. Usually if it's a reproduction, the colors will be off and things will just look odd. This one looks pretty good. The main reason I was thrown off is because it's a Japanese game, but thinking about it more, Japanese games usually sell for less, so it's not too surprising that he sent me some free games. Now, if he had sent me some free US games that were 2 Zeldas and Mario Kart, those would be worth almost as much as the console, because retro Nintendo games sell for so much money. So like I mentioned earlier, I was trying to decide if I wanted to open this thing up or not, and I think I am. It doesn't look too hard. There's like 3 screws up here, and then a couple on each side, and then a couple on the bottom, and then I think the back will pop off. I don't know. We'll try it out. My only concern with doing this is that some wires might pop out. I don't know how how well the wires are secured inside of this console. That'll actually be pretty interesting to see, so I'm glad I'm opening this thing up now. So I think I have all the screws off now. Let's see if this thing pops apart. Gotta be really careful here because I don't want to break anything. Alright, so there it goes. And boom. Oh, it's actually routed pretty decently. I could actually pop that on pretty easily. So you got this is your cartridge slot, as you can see. So you got 48 wires that run here. They're all glued down here. You got your heat sinks here. Oh, then you got a little fan up here, like I mentioned. That's probably just wired into the fire 12 volts somewhere. You got a little board right here that looks like something they added in to control probably power and charging, I would assume. And then down here you got 2 speakers. I'm not going to take the whole board apart, but it is pretty interesting to see what they did down here. So I zoomed in a little bit because I wanted to take a look at this soldering. Soldering doesn't look perfect, but it looks, I guess, good enough. That wire looks like it's about to come off. I'm not going to tug on that too much. It could definitely be better, but it could definitely be worse. So right here's your charging port. Those 2 wires go down somewhere, and I'm actually thinking this might be a board to control the controller. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell because I'm not super familiar with the circuit board in here. I've never really done any breakdowns except for this. Like I mentioned earlier, I have done this wiring before, so I'm not sure what everything in here is doing, and I can't see the other side. I'm not going to take it apart because I don't want to just destroy this, but it's definitely pretty interesting to see what's going on in here. Now the Z button wiring up here looks a little messy, and they even got some tape still left up here, but I guess as long as it works. Now the real question is, how do we fix this R button? So if we look at the left side, which is the one that's working, you can see that there's kind of some swivel action right there. So you press it down, you press the pad down there, and then it kind of got a little post right there that it rests on. So it looks like this has become unattached from the post. So it's kind of hard to show, but I think I can wedge this little button out and then wedge it back into that post. I'm gonna have to do it off camera. Oh, actually, there we go. Well, that was easy enough. So it still looks a little bit loose there. I might try to mess with that later and strengthen it up, but for now it's good. That actually wasn't too hard. I just kind of pushed it back into the post, and now it's working again. But yeah, that's definitely pretty loose. I feel like it's going to come loose again at some point. It might help with the stability if you had something that attached to that little post and then up to this part of the case. Not sure if I can figure out how to do that, but let's go ahead and close this thing back up. So actually, one other thing to mention real quick is that they said the expansion pack was included right here. So as you can see, it's just kind of stripped down. They took the plastic off, and yeah, that's the expansion pack. So if you have any experience breaking down the N64 board, let me know down below in the comments. Tell me anything I'm missing. I'm sure I'm missing a lot, but I'd be interested to learn some more if you guys got some more info about why things were done here and that sort of thing. But yeah. Alright, so I got everything back together now. The both triggers are working now, and the other thing I did is I took off that screen protector, and the screen actually looks a whole lot better now. It had a bunch of scratches before, but it looks a lot better, and now that I'm actually looking at this, I see a whole lot of scratches on this case. I think some of them are smudges that I could get rid of with some isopropyl alcohol. But let's go ahead and test this thing out one more time. So Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Let's go ahead and try that out in there. Hopefully it works. And nice, there we go. Expansion pack enhanced, like I said. I got an expansion pack in there, so that's good to see. And the screen definitely is not too bad. I actually like it. And as you can see, it seems to be working just fine. I think I've tested out all the buttons except for, I haven't tested out the D-pad. Something I want to try, a good game to try all the buttons is Super Mario 64, because I actually know what all the buttons do. But it wasn't working earlier, so I'm going to try that one more time. And we're going to see if we can verify that every button works. So for some reason I can't get this game to work, and I know this game is clean and works because I did it on my other N64 this morning actually, and I already cleaned it. I'm going to try to clean this cartridge slot right here, which you can actually clean that by using a credit card with a microfiber cloth wrapped around it and some rubbing alcohol, so let me try that out. So I figured out the cartridge slot was definitely the issue. I basically took the game out. Like I said, I got a microfiber cloth around a little card, and I put it down in, and you slide it up and down, and it cleans out the contacts, and as you can see, pretty dirty right there. And then I put this game in, and it immediately worked. So we'll try it one more time. Stick it in, turn it on, and there you go. And it works just fine. So let's go ahead and boot this up, and I'll make sure all the buttons work. Alright, so right trigger, left trigger. I'm actually not sure if the left trigger does anything in this game, but all the C-stick buttons work. B works, A works. I'm also not sure what the D-pad does in this game. So I just looked it up, and not very many games actually support the D-pad and the L button, just because if you look at the controller here, usually you play like this, and the D-pad and L buttons over here, so those games were not designed to be used on very many games. And the games that they are used for, I don't have those games, so I guess we can't test that out. But as we saw, all the other buttons work just fine, and the system seems to work just fine. I'm actually pretty pleased with this thing. It's pretty cool for $300. It's not too bad of a price considering what other custom consoles like this go for. You know, it's ergonomically, it's not the best. It's got some jagged edges, and it's a little bit rough, but honestly, it's a cool system. I might try to mess around with it myself one day and you know, change some things, but it's definitely a cool concept, and I'm glad I picked this up. So thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe down below. And like I mentioned earlier, let me know if you got any trade-ins. I'll send you a price. Just send an email to jacobr@jrobgaming.com. I'm going to have an actual form on my website soon, but it's not there yet, so just send me an email for now. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a great day. Number 4.
I paid $1,200 for this custom portable GameCube from Etsy, and in this video, we'll take an in-depth look at it and see if it was worth the money.
Let's go ahead and open this bad boy up, and there it is. Oof, looks so nice. Man, this is supposed to be black, but that's not really, it looks more grayish, honestly, but that's actually a very nice color. Ooh, I like that. So obviously we have a charging cord, a charging brick, got a nice little custom cutout for the portable GameCube, and yeah, let's take a closer look at it now. So if you guys have watched my channel before, you've probably seen a custom portable that looked kind of like this before, and that's because it's based on the same design or a similar design. This one I bought from Etsy, though obviously the other one came from eBay. This one came from Gman himself, who is known as one of the top modders in the community. So pretty excited to check this out. I got high expectations for this. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a closer look. So like I said, it looked black in the pictures, but it looks more grayish here, and I actually really like it. Obviously 3D printed. It's called the Ashita design, and yeah, just feels very nice, feels premium. I think he said in the description what type of 3D material was used to print this. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I'll throw it on the screen. So let's go ahead and take a look at the front. So obviously, it's modeled after a GameCube controller. So basically, you take a GameCube controller, you stretch it out, you put a screen in the middle, and that's what this is. And it feels just like a GameCube controller. So you've got your left analog stick here, no resistance, feels great. Got your D-pad here, C-stick, which feels very nice, B, A, Y, and X, and you got your triggers, your Z buttons. Actually got a second Z button as like a modifier, and all the buttons feel very nice, very premium. The other GameCube portable I had a few like kind of hiccups here and there. This one so far seems like perfect, honestly. Looking at the back, you have a little hole right here, assuming that's for a fan. Here on the top, you got some more ventilation. Looks like a heat sink on the inside. And then, of course, a USB-C charging port. You can also, of course, transfer your data to here. So basically, this is based off of RV Loader, which is a custom-built software that allows you to play your Nintendo Wii on the go. So there's actually Nintendo Wii hardware inside of here. I call it a GameCube because clearly it was modeled to be a GameCube, but it can play Wii games and GameCube games. GameCube compatibility is actually a bit better because obviously it's like this is a GameCube controller, and a lot of Wii games you need a Wii remote, so those games don't always work great. But yeah, so here on the bottom we've got a few more buttons. One here, got a switch, got an auxiliary jack. I'm assuming a volume rocker, and yeah, it's 2 speakers up here. This thing looks very nice. I'm excited to turn this thing on. So I guess I'll do the honors. Let me go ahead and peel this protective layer off the screen. Give us the nice crisp screen here. Ooh, yeah, that looks nice there. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and turn this on. Assuming this switch down here turns it on. Let's see. And nothing. All right, it might need to be charged. So let me go ahead and plug it in and see if we can charge it up. All right, it's turning on now. It appears I just needed to plug it in to get some charge to it. So I forgot that usually these things are shipped in shipping mode where you have to plug in the charger for it to basically boot up. And there's some cool stuff in here. So we have select, let's go here, select theme, background image, solarized, sure, why not? We'll do save config, we'll see what this looks like. Background still looks about the same to me, but maybe that changes on a different screen. Let's go down to controller so you can test out the buttons. As you can see, that's pretty cool. You can see your analog stick there, your C stick, your D-pad. I think down here is your start button, maybe? There we go. That's my start button down there. So on the left side, start button. B, A, X, Y, or excuse me, Y, X. That Z button, there. Hold A and B to activate rumble. I'm pretty sure we do not have rumble in this. It would be pretty sweet, but honestly, it'd probably mess up the insides. Let's go ahead and go back. Sticks wizard, sticks dead zone, triggers mode. We'll go ahead and leave all that as is. And this is kind of cool. So you got some power settings here, or some power stats, excuse me. You can see our charging current. You can see your charging voltage. You can see what kind of power button you're using. So we can actually make it so that it's a toggle button like this, or you can make it so you just have to flick it up once and it'll turn on. Flick it up again, turn off. Bunch of cool stuff here. Let's go ahead and go back, status, about. And if you use the C stick, you can change which page you're on. So if you go to home, I think that's where we're at right now. Actually, never mind. All right, booting back up. So yeah, we were in settings. Home does nothing. Right, GameCube. So if you go here, you can see your GameCube games. Obviously, oh, we have Super Smash Bros. On here. All right, I thought it came with no games, but we do have one game. We got Wii games on here. We got Mario Kart Wii. We got Wii Virtual Console, which does classic games. Then we have this little, it looks like a Super Nintendo controller. I'm pretty sure that does nothing right now. We got Homebrew, so you can see your Homebrew apps. So let's see what we have on here so far. We got BB Loader, Nintendo, and RV Loader. I love the names that modders come up with for these. We got our Wii Homebrew, or excuse me, our Wii channels, and then back to our settings, which is what you just saw. So let's go ahead and go to the GameCube, and we'll just play some Smash Bros. So first, I think we need to configure our game so you can force progressive. Should be on yes. course, widescreen, no. I think what we can do is, there's something we can do. Yeah, we can configure our button selection. So this is pretty cool. I guess Gman already went in and configured the button selections because everything matches up so far. We'll go ahead and just boot it up and see if it plays. And here we are booting up, and I gotta say the screen on here is pretty nice. I'm pretty sure it's an IPS screen, which makes sense because you can see it pretty well from most viewing angles. And man, it's just, I don't know, I love these portable consoles, especially just the looks of this one are insane. It looks just like a GameCube controller. I need to pull out a GameCube controller and do a little comparison. But for now, let's play some Smash Bros. Pretty satisfied so far. Honestly, this is even a good bit better than the other one I bought. Everything is pristine, no issues. Speakers sound good. This is working amazing. The screen looks really good. All the buttons are very responsive. There's no dead zones, at least that I've found so far on any of the analog sticks, the analog stick or the C stick. Triggers feel good. Man, I'm impressed. So we've explored the menus, tried out a GameCube game. Everything seems to work great so far. Screen looks good. I want to do a few comparisons though. So first of all, this thing looks exactly like a GameCube controller. So let's take an actual GameCube controller and just compare. And I mean, as you can see, the left side looks the same, right side looks the same, and then there's a screen sandwiched in the middle. The only thing I think might be slightly different is I think the handle might protrude a little bit further out on the actual GameCube controller than here. But I do think this one feels very nice. I don't have any complaints at all. Might actually feel nicer than the GameCube controller, maybe. And I also want to compare to the other GameCube portable I have, so let me pull that up. So here we are, and they're basically twins. They look almost the same, but there are some key differences. So first of all, this one's white, this one's like a blackish gray. The build quality on this one feels just better. Like the buttons feel better. The analog stick on this one is not the best. I think it's a third-party analog stick, which is a little bit disappointing on a device that expensive. C-stick is not quite as good. The buttons are not bad, but you can just tell when you play it, the build quality is not quite as good. I'm not going to call it bad by any means, but just not quite the same level. And then like little things like the bottom here, there's a fairly large gap there. And on this one, there's a tiny gap, but not too much. I mean, that's not a big deal, but just something to point out. And then real quick, I just want to compare the screens because I do think they used slightly different screens, the two builders. This one on the white one is a bit brighter. The black one is a bit darker, but it's kind of debatable which one looks better. This one, if you like really bright, this one's good. If you like just, I guess, more accurate colors maybe, this one I think looks better. It's harder to compare because it's not exactly the same screen or not exactly the same stuff on the screen. So we got some comparison out of the way. Let's go ahead and turn this one back on, and we're gonna explore a little bit more, and I'll show you a few more things. So I went ahead and plugged into my PC and loaded up some more games. So now we have some virtual console games, which we'll try out. Also have a channel on here, a Wii channel. So let's go ahead and try out a virtual console game. Now the thing is with RV Loader, virtual console games are kind of hit or miss, so not sure if it'll even work, but I got 4 games loaded up on here, so we'll see if at least one of them works. So I finally have a virtual console game booting up. We got Super Mario World, and ooh, that color looks nice. It isn't widescreen, but it is working for now. And I tried a bunch of Nintendo 64 games, none of them worked. And from looking at BitBuilt's forum, it seems that that's typical. For whatever reason, a lot of Nintendo 64 games don't work on the RV Loader. And I'm not sure if my controls are configured correctly. That works. Yeah, I can jump. I don't think Y and X are assigned correctly though. That game works great. I tried downloading the Mii channel and playing that. That did not work. Not surprising, but most GameCube and Wii games should work. Now let's try Mario Kart for the Wii, which we already had on here. We'll try booting that up and just see how it works. Now, if you want to play a Wii game on here that uses motion controls, and you have to point at the screen, that sort of thing, you can play those games, but you have to assign your controls so that basically your motion, like if you're pointing at the screen, is assigned to a button on here. So you can like assign your Wii remote to the C stick and basically point at the screen and emulate the little hand that's on the screen. Kind of cool, but pretty cumbersome. So I'm not going to do that in this video, but it's just something to point out that you can do on this device if you want to. So I'm playing Mario Kart Wii, and it works great. No issues at all. Yeah, I mean, this thing's awesome. I think the next thing we want to do is open this bad boy up and see how it looks on the inside. I do want to compare it to the insides of the other portable GameCube I have and just see how it compares, but I'm expecting pretty good things from this one. So let's go ahead and open it up and see what it looks like inside, and then we'll do comparisons. First of all, nice. This one is very easy to open. The 2 Z buttons fell out, but that's kind of expected. And we just have a few wires flexing between the top and bottom. Other than that, this thing looks extremely nice on the inside. All the custom boards are in place. So you've got our C stick over here, our analog stick over here, our buttons up here. We got our triggers are on the back side here. And of course, this board right here is a screen. We do have a piece of electrical tape basically protecting these contacts from
this custom board right here, which appears to have something to do with controlling the buttons so that they go to the appropriate price on the Wii motherboard. Which, by the way, this is actually a Wii motherboard in here, trimmed down, which is amazing. It's amazing how small these things can be trimmed down and still work properly. Because obviously, if you've seen a Wii, it's like, that size, and then it's trimmed down to this little piece right here. We have 2 identical batteries. The weights are even, which is nice. I've seen some portables where both batteries on one side and the portable is like lopsided. So this is nice that they're both spread out to the sides. And then if you look closely here, you can see the Kingston flash drive here, which keeps all of our games and whatever other files you want to load onto the device. And then we have some more custom circuitry down here. Everything lines up so nicely with the outside of the case. You can tell this guy's been doing this a long time. And now let's go ahead and do a comparison to the other one. They should look pretty similar, but honestly, there should be some differences as well. So let's go ahead and break this bad boy open, and here we go. And oh yeah, that looks a lot different actually. All right, so clearly the makeup is pretty similar. We do have the same custom boards on the right and left side for the analog sticks, C-stick and analog stick. And for these little stoppers right here, we got the same ribbon cable that slides across. The motherboard being trimmed is very similar. Obviously, they're each trimmed slightly differently. It does appear that we do have slightly different batteries. They might be the same battery, just a different color. Not quite sure. We do see our Kingston flash drive down there, just like on here. But honestly, the main difference is probably the screen. As you can see, clearly this one is a blue motherboard. This one's green. They do have a pretty similar layout. Like the chip is in the same spot. The ribbon cable here is in the same spot. There are some differences, but clearly they're slightly different screens, at least because they look different, and then the circuitry is a bit different. But then if you look at the custom circuitry below the Wii motherboard, it does appear to be exactly the same, because it's a black motherboard on this side and on this side, and all the controls at the bottom sit in the same spot. So I would say the build quality on the black one is a bit better than the white one. White one's not bad, but I think the buttons are just not quite as good for whatever reason. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and have a great day.
Number 3. So here in this box is a portable PlayStation 2 that I bought from AliExpress. Now there's not too much information about it. The listing on AliExpress was pretty basic. It just said real PS2, and that was about it. The pictures look pretty cool. It looks like a neat product, and I guess a professionally done product when you look at it. And also, by the way, I paid about $450 for it, which if you've seen custom portable consoles, that's actually not too crazy of a price. All right, so open it up. We have a big hunk of bubble wrap, which I assume is the PS2. And here on the corner, we have a power supply to charge your PS2. And like usual, we have made in China plastered all over this thing. It's actually not quite as much as it was on the most recent one I bought. I bought a portable Dreamcast, portable Sega Dreamcast recently. I'll throw that video up on the screen if you want to go check that out. And this is interesting. So it says PS2 V7, and they use the legit PS2 logo and PlayStation logo. V7, I don't know if they've revised this thing 7 times or what, but that's kind of interesting to see. And so let's go ahead and open up this box and see what's inside of here. And wow, this thing is huge. Holy crap, that is big. I did not expect it to be quite that big. I guess it makes sense. I don't know if they had to trim down the motherboard. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this yet or not, but it's supposedly real hardware. At least that's what they said in the listing. And I guess that makes sense. It is so large, but man, this thing is a monster. You probably can't tell. Let me pull out some comparisons so you can see just how large this thing is. So we'll just start with the tape measure here. So from end to end, it's more than 10 inches long. That thing it's huge. 5 inches tall, and the depth is like a little under 2 inches, 1.5 inches. But it's huge. And then here's a PS2 Slim. So if I set that down, you can see that this console is actually longer than a PS2 Slim, wider, whatever you can call it. And height-wise, it's actually pretty close. And then if we take a fat PS2, it's actually almost as long as a fat PS2. Now, clearly the fat PS2 is a lot fatter and taller, that sort of thing. But I'm assuming they used a PS2 Slim motherboard in here. I guess we'll find out when we open it up. And now, like I said, this has real hardware in it. At least that's what they said. I'm assuming it's real hardware because it's so large. But you basically load games off of this USB drive, which has an SD card in it, where you can load games into it. So I'm assuming the console has to have homebrew on it, so you can do that. And then let's just kind of take a look at this console. So you got your D-pad, which does not feel like original D-pad, PS2 D-pad. The buttons don't feel original either, but they at least look pretty solid. They have the actual, X, square, triangle, and O. You got your analog sticks, which, I don't know, those might actually be the same analog sticks that are used for the PS3, maybe. You got your start and select. You've got your, I guess, home button here. And this thing really looks very similar to a PlayStation Vita, which is why you're probably wondering, like, where have I seen this shape before? Let me pull out a PS Vita and we'll compare. So here's a PS Vita, and as you can see, it has pretty much the same shape. Got the same contours around the edge. You have your two little handle kind of holes here. Very similar, just obviously a whole lot larger. I mean, PS Vita is like not even half the size. And let's take a look at the top. So as you already saw, SD card, where you load your games up. I'm assuming this plus and minus here is for the volume. The buttons are kind of wonky for some reason. You got M and TV. So, I wonder if it has a TV out. I don't see any TV out for it yet, but we'll find out. And then here on the bottom, you have some ventilation. As you can see, lots of holes. You got your 8.4 volt charging jack, which is interesting. It's the same voltage that was used for the Sega Dreamcast I bought recently. Not sure why they went with 8.4. It's just a kind of random voltage. Got your on and off switch. And then back on the top, I didn't mention yet, but you have your L1, R1, L2, and R2, which are just 3D printed buttons, which are a little bit different than everything else. Now, the case appears to be 3D printed, which makes sense because that's just kind of how custom stuff is nowadays. And if you see all these ridges, that's definitely like a 3D printed kind of texture. And of course, you got a speaker here, and then one over on this side as well. And then flipping over to the back, that thing even more looks like the PS Vita on the back. They added the two little ovals here, just like the PS Vita, which are kind of your spots where your fingers rest. And then, of course, there's no touchpad back here, but the PS Vita, that's actually a touchpad. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty neat console. It is massive, but it's actually not too bad in the hands. Not crazy heavy, maybe like a pound, maybe a little bit less. But let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on and see what it does. But actually, first of all, I would like to peel this screen film off. Ooh, satisfaction right there. Nice. All right, so now we'll turn it on. Flip that on switch, see if we have some battery. And it appears that we do have some battery. It is supposed to be an IPS screen, so I'm expecting it to look nice. Clearly, it's a widescreen, not 4x3, which is, standard for this time. No signal. All right, well, that's not good. We should definitely have a signal here. It should boot up the PS2 when you turn it on. This appears to just be turning the screen on and not the actual PS2. Not sure what the deal is there. Maybe that button does something. Still no signal. Press it again. So it does appear to switch between inputs when I click that button, but still nothing booting up. All right, well, that's not good. It's not working so far, so let me go ahead and mess around with this thing and see what I'm missing. So I've had a pretty wild ride trying to figure this thing out, and long story short, I found some solder debris that was laying across a few pins on the AV chip, and it was causing it, I guess, to short out and cause the console not to turn on. So let me just show you real quick what I'm talking about. So I'll give you a more in-depth look in a little bit of the insides, but as you can see, here it is. And the main thing to note is you have this chip right here, this custom PCB connected to a chip that's just laying here. And the audiovisual chip is actually right under here, so I didn't even look at it for hours. I was just looking around this thing, trying to figure stuff out. I did not even look under it because this thing was covering it up. But once I did, I found this debris right here. I'll zoom in on it so you can see it. So right here, this is the debris I'm talking about. My camera can barely even focus on it because it's so small. But it's basically solder debris and like the ends of wires, and somehow it came loose, I guess either in shipping or they were just careless when soldering, and yeah, it was basically straddled across a few pins on the chip. So a closer look, here's the PCB that's just kind of flapping in the wind, and the audiovisual chip is right under that. So if we prop this up and lift the PCB up a little bit, there's actually a chip right here, and you can kind of see some of the debris where I had to basically peel the solder off because it was stuck to it. It was basically straddled across those few pins right there. I know it's kind of hard to see, but just trust me, it was pretty bad. And there were also a few other things I ran into along the way, but that was the main thing. And let's go ahead and just turn this thing on, and I'll show you that it is working now. The funny thing is I had actually made an entire segment kind of ending this video because the console just was not working, so I assumed it wasn't going to work at all, but here we are. And one of the other things I figured out is that once you turn the switch on the bottom, you actually have to press this little home button right here, and that's what turns the PS2 on. So that was my first issue, but even when I figured that out, it still didn't work because the AV chip was messed up. But now it should boot up, and there it is. Cool. So it did boot up this time. Booted up into OPL, which is basically a way to play games via the USB drive on the PS2. So I'm assuming this thing has FreeMic boot loaded into the memory card, and then we can load up some homebrew. So we got OPL as the homebrew and basically a way to play games. I guess these are some games. So that looks like Tekken 4. I'm not sure what VR4 is. Looks like a bunch of abbreviations. Let's try TK4, assuming that's Tekken 4, and we'll see if it plays. So there it goes. It's loading up. And one thing to note is that apparently on the PS2, the USB drive is actually slower than disk drive because the USB drive uses USB 1.1, which is extremely slow. So kind of similar to the Sega Dreamcast I bought, the volume actually gets extremely loud. Oh, that's way too loud. Let me turn that down. I'm not going to call the speakers good, but they're serviceable and they get very loud. So it is Tekken 4. Buttons seem responsive. That's good to see. We'll go with hard. Why not? Yeah, so far the D-pad seems responsive. We'll go ahead and just go to arcade. One thing to note is the D-pad is actually kind of squeaky. Oh, actually. Oh, man. You got to press pretty hard on the left D-pad to go to the left. As you can see, I'm pressing left right now, and it's not doing anything. I have to press like all the way down. That's kind of disappointing. We'll go with Steve. That's a classic name. I mean, overall, the feel of this console is actually not too bad. It's pretty heavy, but it's manageable. And you can get your fingers up here pretty decently to press the trigger buttons. And I'm actually pretty impressed with the 3D printed trigger buttons. They actually don't look too bad or feel too bad. Analog stick is not working. I wonder if I have to press a button to enable that. All right, D-pad is working a little bit. X is working. Square works. Triangle works. The buttons seem okay. I can just tap them and they work. The D-pad is what's kind of crappy, and the analog stick's not working right now. I'm assuming that's something in the settings. That actually might be something in the main console settings. But let's check out these other buttons up here. So plus and minus are the volume. TV is changing inputs. I'm not sure what that does. Oh, okay. So it just changes. You can basically adjust your brightness, backlight, contrast, saturation, all that standard stuff. All right, so let's go back to the main menu. Maybe if I press it once, it'll go back. I guess we're about to find out. All right, yep, so here we are. We're back on the main menu. And let's see if we can get back to the PS2 menu. So I exited OPL. We are back on the standard PS2 menu. And there it is, boom. We've got our, standard browser right here. Browser, system configuration, the system menu we all know and love. I'm actually going to turn this thing off, see if I can load up my own game, and see if it works. So I went back and added a few of my own games. This one you can ignore, it's just fragmented. I need to get rid of that. But I had a Scooby-Doo Unmasked and NBA Street, and they seem to work pretty well. I had one issue with NBA Street where when you go left on the joystick, it seems to pause sometimes. Not sure why, because I tried that on Scooby-Doo Unmasked and it doesn't seem to be an issue, so it might be an issue with this file. But I'll just boot it up and show you some gameplay. The biggest issue I had so far is the left D-pad does not work unless you press it down really hard. Fortunately, you don't use the left D-pad all that often. Probably some games you do, but I mean the screen looks pretty good. It's an IPS screen supposedly. I think it looks solid for a PS2. Clearly this is a widescreen. Some people aren't going to like that, but honestly I'm not too deterred by it, and it's pretty comfortable in the hands. I played this for a little while and haven't had any issues except for the going left on the joystick in this game and then left on the D-pad. See, I get paused every once in a while. I think it's just something wrong with the game because, like I said, I played Scooby-Doo and didn't have the issue, so I'm not sure what the issue is. So I figured I'd show you a little bit of the Scooby-Doo gameplay as well. It doesn't look quite as good on the screen here just because it's in a dark area, so honestly it's kind of hard to see Scooby when he's running around, but it's not all that bad. So the last thing I want to do is open this thing up and show you a bit of the inside. I have a little bit of experience with the inside now that I was poking around in there so much when I was trying to fix this thing, but it's pretty simple to take apart. There's 2 screws in the bottom, 2 screws in the top, and then 2 in the back. So I have mixed feelings about the insides of this thing. Honestly, it's not terrible considering it's a custom portable. It is version 7, so I'm sure versions 1 through 6 had some issues. But there is a little 3D printed thing to hold the batteries in, so that's nice. You've got a lot of custom PCBs in here, at least they appear to be custom. There's an entire PCB behind the screen for, I guess, routing the controls, controlling the screen, that sort of thing. So lots of stuff here. Another thing to mention is that the soldering doesn't look great. Just look up here, there's some big blobs. They left a bunch of flux. So it's could be worse, but it also could be a whole lot better. I mean, my main issue was the fact that they left debris under this chip attached to the AV chip, which literally caused the screen to not turn on. And so yeah, that was pretty annoying. But I mean, overall, for a custom portable, the insides look pretty good. They're routed decently. You're not strapped too hard. These cables are a little bit taut right here, so you can't actually lay this thing down without either taking this piece off or unplugging this cable right here. But unless you're coming in here to do a bunch of major work, that's not a huge deal. And one other interesting thing to point out is there is an HDMI jack on the screen, which is why you saw 2 inputs, and one was HDMI. So I'm assuming you can plug something else into here and play it on the screen. Not sure the point of that, but just something to point out. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, let me know down below what your favorite PS2 game is and if you would buy this thing. And yeah, have a great day.
Number 2.
So we're throwing it back a bit today. I have a Sega Dreamcast here, and it's not just any Sega Dreamcast. It is a portable Sega Dreamcast that I bought from AliExpress. So let's go ahead and open this thing up and see what they sent us. And now I don't know too much about this console. The description honestly did not give hardly any info at all. They had a few pictures, and it looked pretty neat from the pictures. I mean, it looked like a real Sega Dreamcast with real hardware, but we're about to find out. As you can see, it's plastered with made in China all over it. I'm assuming that has something to do with shipping it internationally. Not sure, to be honest, though, but it looks like a pretty big boy from the packaging. So we have two things here. I'm not sure why the bubble wrap is so yellow, but let's start with the little small package and see what's in here. Alright, so it looks like in the small package, it's just our AC adapter. And like I said, it is a portable console, so you need a way to charge it. So I'm assuming that is the charger for charging your console. Let's try to get this thing open without cutting anything important. So let me know down below if you guys have ever played Dreamcast before and what your favorite game is. So I guess it comes in a little case. And again, it's plastered with Fragile and made in China. Again, I'm not sure if, I guess this has something to do with customs. I'm not sure. It's almost like a little lunchbox or a first aid kit. It has some Velcro on the back. Dude, this is definitely a first aid kit. Hold on. Let me tear these stickers off. So they really tried to cover it up. It's clearly a first aid kit. As you can see, it says first aid kit. That's pretty funny. I guess they're repurposing a first aid kit for the case. But I knew because, first of all, the red looks like first aid, and the back has Velcro, and usually these things are Velcro to the wall for first aid, but oh well, that's besides the point. I just thought that was pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and see what's in here, and we have more bubble wrap. And by the way, did you know this thing was made in China? So we're finally almost there, and it's looking promising. I will say these guys do a great job of bubble wrapping. I mean, you can't go wrong with too much bubble wrap, but here it is, and that thing actually looks really sweet. That is a neat product. That looks a whole lot better than I thought it would, to be honest. My first thought, of course, is, you know, they couldn't have cleaned the buttons off a little bit dirty, but not a huge deal. But as you can see, huge screen right here, probably a 5-inch screen. You've got your VMU screen right here. You have your analog stick, D-pad, start, A, B, Y, and X. All looks like legit buttons and hardware. Here in the back, you have your left and right trigger, which are not legit. Those look to be 3D printed. The screen looks good. Well, we'll see when I turn it on. You got a fan back here. Yeah, there's a fan down there you can see, and then there's, you know, your opening there. And this is how you play games. It has a GDEMU, which I honestly don't have much experience with. I just know it essentially acts as a disk drive, so you don't have to put a disk in. And there's your SD card that goes into it. It's a Samsung SD adapter, and then we have a 32 gig Teclast. So some sort of knockoff, most likely, that they get for super cheap. And then here on the top, we have, as you saw, your SD card made in China again. You've got a, I guess that's your power jack, 8.4 volts. That's interesting voltage. And you already saw the back here. Here on the bottom, you have some holes, I guess, for additional ventilation. Here on this side, just, you know, more ventilation, some screws. And then same on this side. I'm assuming this is a volume rocker of some sort. But this thing actually looks pretty professional for, you know, not being official hardware. They call it a DCSX. I'm not sure what that stands for. Dreamcast something solutions xylophone. I don't know. We got some more holes here for probably a speaker on left and right speaker there. And looking closer, I think they might have just 3D printed this entire case, because as you can see, you've got little kind of ridges, which tells me that this is probably a 3D printed case all the way. So they matched the you know, how a controller looks very well. I actually have a controller here that I'll compare it to. Let's go ahead and do that. All right, so here's a Dreamcast. Here is a controller, and you can tell it's very similar but off a little bit. I think the dimensions are just slightly off. Obviously, this controller is a little bit different color, probably because it's aged some, and clearly it's very dirty. This is, you know, it's old, so it, you know, yellows and stuff, but I think this is completely 3D printed, because I don't think the Dreamcast controller was ever quite that white. But otherwise, the analog stick looks exactly the same. Buttons look the same. Actually, maybe they don't. So looking at the buttons here, I'm trying to get them next to each other so they can both focus, and man, that controller is dirty. But I believe they are official buttons. I don't know. The lettering looks a little bit different on the two. Like the size is a little bit different, so maybe there's not official buttons. I'm not 100% sure, but if they're not, they did a pretty good job of matching them. And just for another size comparison, here is a legit Dreamcast console. Here's the portable, and so I'm assuming they took the board, maybe trimmed it down some, put it in here. Obviously the disk drive is not in this one because you have SD card, and I mean the size matches up fairly well, so that's probably what they did. Now let's go ahead and do what we've all been waiting for. Let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on. Flip the on switch, and there it is. That's a pretty solid looking screen, not gonna lie, man. This is a cool console. Let me go ahead and tear off the screen protector. And it's not actually a screen protector, it's like the screen film that comes by default, and I can't really get it off. It's just peeling off this little piece right here. I might try that later. I don't want to mess that up on camera. But it's clearly in Chinese, I believe. I guess that's Chinese. So I clicked on the disc icon, and it's loading up GD menu. As you can see, it shows on the VMU and also shows on the screen now. And we have some stuff already downloaded. NFL 2K. Actually, I wonder if they put everything on here. Nope, just 17 games. So we have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, NFL 2K1, and it looks like it shows the disc down here. Like I said, I've never actually used the GDEMU. I just know what it is in general. So let's go ahead and try out a game. Let's go with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. At least that's in English, so maybe the game will be in English. And these speakers are actually pretty dang good. They get really loud. Like I had it on 50 volume for a while, and it's blasting my ears, so I need to turn it down. But I mean, like I said, the screen looks really nice. It's very crisp for a Dreamcast, you know, something from the 2000s or late 90s. The VMU is always a cool device, PS2. And frankly, I don't know how well these games run off the SD card. I don't know if it's flawless like a disc would be, because I'm not sure. I guess correct me down below if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure if it'd be considered emulation, because you're not emulating it. You're just essentially transporting the data to the actual hardware via USB instead of a disc. So from that sense, I would think it shouldn't run flawlessly. Not sure, that's just my logic I just came up with in my head.
Hey, Editor Danny here, just cutting in to explain real quick that the GDMU is actually not an emulation device in terms of like emulating the entirety of the Dreamcast. All it's doing is replacing your CD drive. So if you were to install this on a normal Dreamcast, which I would highly recommend by the way, all the Dreamcast would see is that the game is being loaded normally. And it actually has better performance than the default disc reader anyway.
But I mean, so far so good. This thing looks good. Let's go ahead and go to single session, and we'll just play a little bit of Tony Hawk. And I never actually played the original Tony Hawk 1 and 2, but I have played the remaster on the PS4. The game is a whole lot of fun. Sad that I missed out on it in the early 2000s or late 90s whenever it came out. And this thing is a beast in the hands, which is not unexpected. I mean, the original Dreamcast controller was a beast in the hands to start with, but it's honestly not terrible. So far, all the buttons work great. No issues there. I'm actually really impressed. This might be the best thing I've purchased from China so far. I've purchased a lot of stuff from AliExpress and Wish.com for videos on my channel, and most of it is you know, serviceable, but honestly junk. This thing is pretty dang cool. I finally got the corner of the screen film to start peeling, so let me give you this satisfaction right here. Ooh, that is always satisfying, and now the screen looks even better. So I guess the only way to go back is to turn it off and on, as far as I can tell. So I'm trying out the charging port now. I believe when you have it unplugged, it shows as green right there. When we plug it in, it shows as orange. Well, it was a second ago. Well, maybe it's already fully charged because the AC adapter is not doing anything, so I guess I'll try that again once I've played it some. So I took a pause and kind of messed around with this thing for a bit, and I gotta say it's pretty awesome. And I did explore this power brick a bit more, and I think the green light is when it's not plugged in, and then it turns red when you do plug it in. So I guess we're essentially using the power brick light to indicate whether we're charging or not. As you can see, it's red now, so it should be charging. And I did actually add a game. There were 17 games here. I added Crazy Taxi, downloaded it, and put it on here, and it works great. You know, I've had no issues. I've played a few different games. I've played NFL 2K1, NBA 2K2, played Crazy Taxi for a while. There was something else on here I played as well. And I mean, everything works great so far. You know, the Crazy Taxi game I downloaded was a GDI file. The other ones have been CDI, so those are compressed a bit, but I haven't seen any issues yet. And I know some people in the comments will probably not like this is a widescreen, but you know, honestly, I don't mind widescreen. It's looked pretty good to me.
All right, just cutting in here again to explain that the screen is actually normally outputting something closer to like a 5:3 aspect ratio instead of the traditional 16:9. And then during some games, it looks like it's doing more like a 3:2 sort of thing. I don't really know why it's doing this. So it's not as bad as if you were to stretch the normal Dreamcast out to a 16:9 widescreen. I don't think it looks that atrocious, but it's just strange that the designer of this console decided to go with this weird in-between screen size.
I will note that there is a hot spot right here. It's not like terribly hot, but it is kind of hot, and I don't know what component's in there, but it's probably what's causing the heat to concentrate on that point. But overall, this thing feels pretty nice in the hands. It's not quite as good as an original controller because it doesn't have, you know, the kind of like contoured grips. It's just like a big block. But you know, it's not terrible at all. It's actually pretty good. And I really like this thing so far. So next thing I want to do is actually open it up and just kind of take a look inside. So I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. Now let's go ahead and take those out and we'll see what this thing looks like on the inside. All right, got the 4 screws out. Let's go ahead and see which side pops off. All right, so kind of just comes apart together. Not sure if I should have done that. It looks like the cable management doesn't really allow for this to be taken apart very easily. As you can see, the cables are basically strapped across there. So we have two different boards here, and the cables are basically, like I said, strapped across the two sides, and they're pretty taut right there. So we have our motherboard battery right there. I believe that just keeps track of time and that sort of thing. Here at the top, we got our screen, as you can see. I've got a controller right here. I mean, everything looks pretty clean. My main complaint is the fact that these cables are kind of just straddled across the two sides. And then down here, you can see a few of the battery cells. And then there on the back, you can't see it because I'd have to take this this piece off, but the GD-EMU is back there. And yeah, I mean, overall it looks pretty clean except for the fact that the cables are straddling across the two sides. So let's get this back together carefully. So there you go, guys. I gotta say, this thing is pretty sweet. Honestly, don't have any major complaints. The VMUs work great. All the buttons work great. The only thing to note about the buttons is the right and left triggers are not the best, but they're actually still pretty solid for just being 3D printed. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this thing. I don't really have any major complaints. It did cost about $500 or so. I'll throw the actual price up on the screen because I don't think I mentioned it yet. But considering this is a custom portable, you know, I don't know that that's too terrible because this takes a long time to put together and stuff. I'm actually not sure where this this portable is sourced from because I saw multiple sellers on AliExpress selling this thing. So I don't know if there's one person making them and they're all selling them or what the deal is there. But it looks, you know, pretty professional, to be honest, with all the grooves and everything here, and looks like a Dreamcast controller here. So let me know down below what you guys think, and thanks for watching, and have a great day.
Number 1.
So I bought another PS2 portable from AliExpress. This one has real hardware inside of a Wii U gamepad, which sounds pretty interesting, right? I'm pretty excited to open this thing up, see what's inside. Let's go ahead and open this thing up and check it out. This is a very interesting packing job. I'm not sure why it's not in a box, but they really wrapped it up good with bubble wrap. And I don't remember exactly how much I paid. I'll throw it up on the screen, but go ahead and roast me down below if you think I paid too much. So we're getting close here. And this thing actually has a PlayStation design on the back of it. I guess that's the back. Here it is. Oh man, that is wild. That is straight up just a Wii U gamepad with a PS2 built in. That's crazy. And then of course we also have a power brick in here, pretty standard. So here it is, and man, this thing is very interesting looking. First of all, they shrink wrap the whole thing, and this joystick is kind of tilted to the left. I hope that's not an issue. I guess let's go ahead and unwrap it. Now I'm not sure where they got the Wii U gamepad from. I don't know if they harvested it from a working system or a non-working system. Not sure. And there is our SD card. So this is how you play games. We'll get into that later. And here are our thumbsticks and our buttons. Supposedly all the buttons are like, uh-oh, we got an issue. No way, dude. The ZR button doesn't click. Come on, this thing was looking cool, looking good. ZR button doesn't click. Come on, man, it's always something. All right, so let's just go through this thing and then we'll turn it on and see if it works. So here on the back, we have a interesting PlayStation logo. I see what they're trying to do here, but it honestly looks a little bit sloppy. I would have just left the whole thing black on the back. But clearly it's more beefy than a Wii U gamepad. I actually have a Zelda Wii U gamepad here, like a real one. So we can compare real quick and see what they look like side by side. I guess first of all, let me take off this cover right here. It always feels good to remove a little bit of plastic wrap from a glossy surface. So take about 1 second, look at these game pads, tell me down below which one is the real one, which one is the PS2 portable. I'll go ahead and tell you the one on the bottom is the PS2 portable, one on top is the real one. And as you can see, they're very similar. Now the colors actually seem slightly different, so the colors on the legit gamepad is a little bit more golden than this. This looks a little bit faded. So I'm not sure if they like recreated this, reprinted it. I don't know if it's from a real Wii U gamepad, but everything, the button placements look perfect. You know, the buttons here, they feel exactly the same. Even the clicking feels exactly the same, but these are golden buttons, these are white. These have different thumbsticks, and this thumbstick does appear to be tilted to the left just a bit, so hopefully we don't have any drift there. Clearly there's no camera here. Doesn't appear to be a camera because we don't need a camera on the PS2. Actually, that would be really cool if they integrated the PS2i into this thing, but I doubt they did that. But I mean, otherwise they kept it, you know, pretty much the same. It looks very similar. Now comparing the thickness, just from the top, they're actually about the same. I'm not sure if we're going to focus here, but clearly the PS2 portable on the bottom is a whole lot thicker than this one up here. It's just like thick all the way down. This one has some contours for your hands. So on the real gamepad, you can see all the contours. It has easy access to the battery. And then obviously on this one, it's just like a flat back. So back to the PS2 portable, the buttons actually feel very nice. It feels like the real buttons, which supposedly they are. You know, you even have your power, your TV controller. I don't know what the TV controls here, but then here on the top, it's actually got the, you know, the real buttons. But of course, like I mentioned earlier, ZR is not clicking. I'm not sure what that issue is. You know, it might be because they wrapped it up so tightly. I don't know. And then right here up top is where your USB stick goes, which some people mentioned this in the last video when I had another PS2 portable. It had the same issue where you have a USB drive sticking out of the top, which is a little bit annoying. It's not the end of the world, but I agree it would have been cool if it was flush. So I guess let's go ahead and turn this thing on, and hopefully it does turn on. I'm not sure what the actual power button is. Okay, clearly power does not power it on. Maybe this powers it on? Yep, there we go. Alright, so that at least turns on the screen and gives us power. Now to turn on the PS2, maybe we click the home button. Oh, that's actually really cool. So when you click the home button, it turns green. And there it is, it's definitely turning on. Very loud. Oh, this is interesting. So the power button is volume up and the TV button is volume down. I guess that's cool that they reused the buttons, but that's just kind of random. And yeah, here we are. It is a legit PS2. The only thing, oh man, it kind of would have been cool. You know, I like how they kept the buttons here, the same as the Wii U gamepad, but it would have been kind of cool if they swapped this out to an X, a circle, a triangle, and a square, because it is a bit annoying. You know, when I see A and B, I always want to click A to advance, but it's actually B on the PlayStation. But yeah, let's see if we can boot up into this USB drive and check it out. So we are booted into OPL now. As you can see, there's some games here. These are preloaded from the AliExpress seller. And just a few notes. So first of all, it took me a while to get into OPL. It kind of was just random. You know, I couldn't figure out any specific button sequence to get from the main menu to OPL. So I'm not sure if this is the right way, but I finally figured out how to boot into OPL. So if you click on browser and then click on the memory card and then hold down R1 to back out of the memory card and then back out onto the main screen, it'll boot into OPL. And then it takes like 10 or 15 seconds, but it loads up. And also this R2 button, it does work. It just doesn't click. Like as you can see, press L2 there, press R2, and it does go to the end of the list, but it just doesn't like have the full click to it. So still not perfect, but at least it does work. And by the way, if you're not familiar with OPL, it is an open source software where you can basically load up games from an external drive or USB drive and homebrew, that sort of thing. So I'm not going to claim to be any sort of expert on OPL or FreeMcBoot or anything. So if I miss anything in this video, make sure to let me know down below. So yeah, supposedly this is an IPS screen, and the viewing angles actually are pretty solid. So I guess it probably is an IPS screen. 6.5 inch, and let's go ahead and I guess we'll just boot up a game. Alright, so we got a lot of random games here. We got Black, God of Hand, God of War 2, Killer 7, Kingdom Hearts, Mafia. It's like they just loaded up random games. NCAA Football 08, Silent Hill 2. Honestly, I'm going to load up NCAA Football because it's a pretty bright game, so it'll be easy to see on the screen, hopefully. So it seemed like I was having some issues booting up. It was like flashing from black to blue like 10 times, but I mean, it seems like it booted up now. Yeah, here it is. And so the screen actually looks a little bit better in person than it does on the camera. It is a little bit, the frame rate's not perfect. It's a little bit jittery, but I mean, I think that's just the PS2. I mean, it is from the PS2 era. It's, you know, it's not perfect. It is stretched out. I think we can change that in OPL, and I'll try that later. So I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but it is a bit slow to load games, and cutscenes are a bit slow, and that's because it's loading off a USB. And you know, back in the PS2 era, the USB was not the fastest, so it actually loads slower than it would on a disc. But of course, the benefits there is we're using a USB drive instead of a giant disk drive, which I've had people ask in the past why we don't use disk drives on these portable consoles. I feel like it should be pretty obvious. I mean, that would make the console just absolutely massive. So I'm just going to show you some gameplay while I talk about this thing a little bit more. It's actually pretty impressive. I mean, so far the buttons are responsive, screen looks good, no issues with loading times. I mean, we are in a sports game, so we're not like going through cutscenes or anything, so that helps. Buttons are good so far. You know, I haven't had any issues with stick drift on the right stick, which I was worried about because, you know, it seemed to be stressed a little bit in shipping. So far my only issue is the right trigger, which like I said, it works, but it just doesn't click all the way, which is a little bit weird. But I mean, it's working. And one thing I figured out earlier that I don't think I mentioned yet, this home button down here actually has 2 levels. So if you press it down all the way, it does reset or turn off the system. If you press it down just a little bit though, it loads up this menu on the screen where you can change the brightness, contrast, that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. Now let's go back. I want to try a different game now with some loading screens, and we'll see how that performs. So I've played through Silent Hill for a few minutes, not very long at all, but I am in the first cutscene and no issues, no jittering or anything so far. You know, there's probably some games it's worse with. I read that Final Fantasy is bad for playing off a USB drive, but regardless, what I'm most interested in now is turning this thing off and opening it up and taking a look inside to see what's really going on inside of this bad boy. So I have the back cover unscrewed now. There are only 6 screws here, pretty easy to take apart. Now let's see if the back comes off. There we go. Just want to make sure I don't break anything. So, you know, at first glance, this thing actually looks pretty solid on the inside. My favorite part is the fact that the cables from one end to the other
just jump across right there. I have seen portable consoles where you have a cable from here to like here, and you just can't open it up very easily. This one you can open up pretty decently, and you have two massive battery packs here. This one started falling out of place, and actually I'm noticing now that this battery was soldered pretty poorly. It's just completely disconnected from the solder. So zoomed in here, we have our positive terminal, and it's supposed to be soldered to that port, but it's not anymore. It's just loose. So I think it touches enough to give it power when I turn it on. Kind of the same thing on this side as well. As you can see, it is a bit loose and not actually soldered to the point. So that's something I can try to fix by resoldering, but honestly, these are not the best battery terminals. They should have used the, typical battery terminals where you have a spring on one side and then the contact on the other. I mean, there's a reason why they use that and not whatever they did here. Not a big fan of that. Now, if you look at the other battery, it clearly uses a contact that's a bit better for batteries, so it results in a better contact with the battery. Honestly, I'm not sure what this red battery is for, or if they're just trying to add capacity by sticking a random battery in here. Not sure. These are pretty beefy batteries, though. Supposedly, this thing has 3 to 5 hours of battery life. Now, I have not tested that out, but that's just what they claim. So, just taking a look at other stuff in here, there is a PS2 9000 motherboard down here. I'm not a big fan of what they're doing out here. Let me zoom in real quick. So, we have this custom board right here laying on top of this chip on the PS2 motherboard. Not a big fan of that. It could get shorted out. It'd probably be okay because it's propped up a little bit, but yeah, just not a huge fan. And so here in the middle, we have a heat sink just glued to the motherboard. I guess this is a fan just blowing the air out that way, out of the bottom. That's interesting setup. It's only covering like half the heat sink. And then we have this board down here that's just kind of propped up against the side of the case. We definitely have some sketchy stuff going on in here. Even this ribbon cable looks a little bit sketchy. But it's just kind of what happens with custom stuff like this. Now the top here where we have the screen actually looks a bit better. But let's go ahead and investigate this right trigger, and it's clicking fine now. I wonder if has something to do with how the case is wrapping around it. So I just put it back together, and the right button seems to work fine now. So I'm not sure what was going on, but it's all good to go now. Let's see if it still boots up. I'm hoping it does. So this thing does still boot up, which is good to see, although when I tilt it this way, it seems like the battery sometimes comes out of place, and it actually did turn off on me just a second ago. So I'm probably gonna have to resolder that battery in there. But other than that, this thing actually is pretty solid. It's a really cool device. I think it's awesome they integrated it into a Wii U gamepad. It's not perfect because the B, A, X, and Y are just a bit annoying since you're playing a PS2 with Nintendo configurations. But once we got this right trigger working, everything on the outside seems to work fine. And yep, there it is. So the battery came disconnected and it turned off. So I'm gonna have to fix that. But other than that and a few sketchy looking things on the inside, this thing is pretty dang cool. Let me know down below if you guys would buy it. I'll probably sell this on my store at some point in time because I don't need this many portable consoles. But yeah, let me know down below what you think about it. And thanks for watching.
I spent over $2,000 on custom PS2 portable consoles from AliExpress, and in this video, we're going to take an in-depth look at all of them and see if they're worth the money. Alright, so right here are the 4 custom PS2 portable consoles I have, and yes, that is a Wii U gamepad. It's pretty ridiculous, but honestly, it's pretty cool, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And for those of you who don't know what you're looking at right now, these are literally portable PS2 consoles. Like, there's an actual PS2 motherboard inside, so it's real hardware, no emulation, and they're fit in the portable form, custom built by people in China. Apparently, I don't know how they custom design it. They do, though, and yeah, they have batteries and everything, so 100% portable. So we're going to start by taking a look at the physical differences between all of these. Now, first of all, the most intriguing one, at least to me, is this, the one that looks like a Wii U gamepad. It literally is a Wii U gamepad, and specifically the Zelda Wii U gamepad, but they kind of bulked up the back so they could add a PS2 motherboard inside, and they even put a nice little PlayStation logo on the back. It's kind of funny how they do this stuff, but it's literally a Wii U gamepad with all the Wii U controls. Pretty neat. Now, this one right here is very interesting. This one, it's not square, it's just more of like a rectangle with a little cut off piece right here. I can't figure out what it's supposed to model, but I'm sure it's supposed to model something. And it's got like Nintendo Switch joysticks, it's got PSP buttons. It's just a plethora of just random stuff. It says time on the back. You never know what you're gonna find with these AliExpress consoles. And then these two right here, I frankly think represent the PlayStation brand the most because they look just like PS Vitas. I mean, let me pull out one and show you the difference. All right, so this right here is obviously a PS Vita, and I mean, just look at the resemblance there. They clearly modeled them both after a PS Vita. First of all, this one right here is just absolutely massive. It's huge. This one is really big, but this one is just like, it's a mammoth. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, I mean, you can see the joystick placements are exactly the same as the Vita. All the button placements are the same. And then if you look at the back, it even has the same design on the back. Like, look at that. You got your 2 little ovals right there. You got your 2 ovals there as well. No camera on this one, unfortunately. Not sure what you'd use a camera for on the PS2. And what I think is most interesting about these portable consoles from AliExpress is like,
who is taking the time to do the R&D on this stuff? Who is designing these, building the custom boards, putting them together, and just like, why? From a business perspective, I don't understand it, because you can even look at AliExpress and see how many orders these consoles have, and they don't have that many. Like, each one of them has like, I don't know, 3 or 4 orders maybe. So like, how is it worth their time to design these consoles and build them and ship them out to 4 different people? I mean, I don't know, because it's not like they're charging outrageous prices. I mean, they charge $500, which, if you consider the time and effort it takes to put these together and design these, like, I don't think it's worth it to them, but so be it. But now I want to do an in-depth look at these individually. So we'll start with this one. This is actually the very first PS2 portable I bought from AliExpress months ago. Pretty neat. It did have an issue when I bought it. Like, it wouldn't turn on. It wouldn't work. Ended up opening it up and finding that there was solder debris just laying across some chips inside. So that was bad. Yeah, just for a little size comparison here. This is a PS2 Slim. So they're using a PS2 Slim motherboard inside of this console, and you can see it's a pretty similar size. So they trim it down a little bit and then add some little goodies and stuff. We'll take a look at the inside later, but just wanted to give you a little size comparison. So this console, it's pretty large, but it's actually not too terribly large. Like, it does fit in your hand pretty well, and it's not like a behemoth like the other one over to my left. But something else to point out is you've got these 3D printed not analog sticks. These are triggers. Why could I not think of that word? These are 3D printed triggers. You got a 7-inch screen here. You've got all these buttons on the front that look like PS2 analog sticks, PS2 buttons. And honestly, I think it's a cool design that they modeled after the PS Vita. And you got some little goodies in the bottom, like you can turn off the screen, you can charge it up, you can adjust your volume, all that good stuff. And then moving over to the second PS2 portable I bought, which is the Zelda one. So the Zelda Wii U gamepad, just a little size comparison, about the same size again. So you got a PS2 Slim motherboard in here, and this one literally is a Wii U gamepad. Like, it's not made to look like a Wii U gamepad. It is a Wii U gamepad. And actually, I did a comparison one time. This might be a knockoff because the colors were off a little bit, and it's like a little bit grainy there. I don't know. It looks pretty darn good if it is a knockoff. Everything on the front is the same. You got your TV controller, power, all your buttons. The only annoying thing here is that obviously you have A, B, X, and Y, which doesn't match up with PlayStation. But you do have the nice triggers. You don't have those crappy 3D printed triggers. You have like the real Wii U triggers. And then here on the back, like I showed you, it's kind of buffed up a little bit, which obviously is needed to fit everything inside. And if we're looking at a Wii U gamepad, I might as well do like a real Wii U gamepad comparison here. So here's a real gamepad, and as you can see, looks exactly the same size and everything. Really, the only difference is the depth there. So you can see on the real Wii U gamepad, it has like some contours. This one, the PS2 portable, does not. And then looking at the third one I bought, this one is really interesting. This one is very small. I don't know what it's modeled after. It honestly feels the worst in the hands because you got kind of jagged edges. You've got this weird ribbed edge. It's just kind of squarish. And it's actually, one thing that's really interesting is it's heavier on this side than this side because they put all the batteries on this side, which are pretty heavy. And so that was weird, but just a little size comparison to a PS2 Slim here. This one is clearly like by far the smallest. So they did a pretty good job of cutting down that motherboard. I mean, like, I don't know. It's cool in its own respects. I don't think it's as cool as the other ones just because it's modeled after, I don't know what it's modeled after. It's just like a kind of a rectangular thing. If you know what this is modeled after, let me know down below. I'm not sure, but it's just got weird angles. It says time on the back, got some interesting ribs. Almost it's got like an X there for Xbox. I don't know what's going on with this one. And then, of course, it's got like the Switch analog sticks and the PSP button. I don't know, just weird stuff. And last but not least, honestly, I think this one, and I'll show you later, I think this one is actually the best one, except for the fact that it's so large. Like, this one is absolutely massive. I can't even describe how large it is. Let me just find something to compare it to. Like, actually, you saw it versus the PS Vita earlier. And the PS Vita is not like a tiny console, but it looks tiny compared to this one. I don't know how to explain it, but this one is it's a behemoth. But the cool thing here is you have a really large screen. It's an 8-inch screen. You've got PS4 analog sticks. You got PS2 buttons, I believe. You do have these kind of crappy 3D printed buttons, but because it's so large, it still has all the ports. Like, you can actually do AV out. You can use your Ethernet port and your optical jack for whatever reason if you need to. You got a USB port, and you actually have your SD card integrated so that it's not sticking out like it is on the other ones. But anyways, let's go ahead and turn one of these on, and let me just show you how it works. So first of all, on this one, we'll flip the on switch, and that actually does not switch the console on. It just turns the screen on, which is actually a separate device from the console. So if you press this button here, it should turn the console on, and I can hear it turning on now. and it should show up now. So it's booted up now, and it boots straight into OPL. And if you don't know what OPL is, it's essentially a software that allows you to play PS2 games off of like an SD card, hard drive, that sort of thing. So in this case, we have an SD card plugged into the USB slot. And unfortunately, it's slower than like a real disk drive, just because USB speeds back in the PS2 days were very slow. So like cutscenes and stuff will be slower than if you played on an actual PS2, but it's not emulation. So all the games, other than that, games run great. And let me just show you a little bit. So right here is example A of the slow cutscenes. I'm loading up Gran Turismo 3, and it's just very choppy and slow loading up. All right, so we're booted up into Gran Turismo 3 now, and it works fine once you get in here, but I want to point out that the screen looks very nice. It's like an IPS screen, and yeah, like you can see here, showing it at all angles, looks really nice. I think this is actually the best screen, so now is probably a good time to show you all the screens. So let me go ahead and put these side by side. All right, so all booted up into OPL and side by side now, and right off the bat, you can see some pretty stark differences in these consoles. Now, first of all, the two on the top seem to be on a different version of OPL than the two on the bottom. Like these two have the same home screen. These two are slightly different. And you can just see the temperature differences of the screens. This one is very cool compared to these two are very warm, especially this one is like a very, very warm screen. This one is also pretty cool, but it's just like stark differences. And you can tell these angles. This is a matte screen right here. This is a matte screen. That's a matte screen. This is a glossy screen. So while the glossy screen is glossy, it actually has the best viewing angles. And then, of course, the difference in aspect ratios. You can see this one is a 4:3. This is a wide screen. This is a wide screen. I believe this is widescreen. Kind of hard to tell because it's so large. It actually might be 4:3, but you can just tell that there's just stark differences. And it's so weird to me that most of these come from the same store on AliExpress. And like I said earlier, I don't understand what the business motive is to design all these in like random forms and fashions, different games and all of them. Some of them have some overlapping games, but like you've got Yu-Gi-Oh and Simpsons over here, which are not on any other ones. It's just like random mixes of games, random features, different parts used. I just don't understand the point. Now, in terms of buttons, I'm sure it's no surprise to you, but the Zelda Wii U gamepad has the best buttons because it is native Wii U gamepad buttons, which are frankly just better than the buttons they put into these other consoles here. And the other interesting thing is there's like an interesting smell coming from all of them. I don't know how to explain it, but like if you stick your nose up next to the exhaust, which is on the bottom of most of them, that one's actually not bad. Most of them have like a little bit of a smell like burnt flux, which is always great to smell from electronics. Like that one, yeah, definitely some burnt flux, which is not surprising because when you open these up, you'll see some flux in there that's not been cleaned up. So just a little bit sloppy. In terms of pricing, like I said earlier, these are all about $500, which I think is, like for what you're getting, it's hard to say because if you're the target market for this and you want a PS2 portable with real hardware, which is like a very, very small portion of the population, but if you're in that little tiny portion of the market, then like $500 for one of these is not too bad of a price, considering all of the work and time and materials that goes into this. Like you're not going to find one of these for $200. It's just not going to happen unless somebody made a really crappy one and they're just trying to get rid of it for a cheap price. Maybe you'll find it then, but from AliExpress, you're just not going to find one of these that's super, super cheap. Now, I'm sure you want to see some footage of these things in action now, so let me just show you some gameplay footage for a minute or so. But now that you've seen all these in action, let's go ahead and open them up and see what they look like on the inside, because some of them are just very interesting. So one thing I wanted to do real quick before I open up the consoles, I want to show you a few of these just titles and photos and listings they use for these AliExpress products. They're just funny, weird, interesting. And I'm actually going to do a little throwback here to a title on one of the PS2 AliExpress listings here. So take a look at this. 5 inches IPS screen, 32G mini arcade game console modified by PS2 motherboard, no Raspberry Pi, not simulator, double joystick. Yes, that's a little segment I made back on the Squarish portable. Just the titles are ridiculous, and actually this price has gone up a lot. It's $610. When I bought it, it was about $480 or $500, something like that. But then the descriptions are weird as well, like send 32G card, have game, just like weird stuff like that, odd photos. And man, I don't understand the business play here. Like as you can see, they have 4 orders on this product. Like what is the point in making all these different PS2 portables, different varieties, and having 4 orders on each of them? I don't get it, but I guess you do you. But anyways, let's go ahead and open up the consoles now. I have all the screws taken out of the consoles now. We can open them up. Now, I think by far this is the worst one in terms of opening it up because, actually don't mind those, they already fell out. But there's only 2 screws here holding the whole thing together. The other ones are a little bit better. Let's go ahead and just open them up and compare the insides. So I have all the consoles opened up now. We have the 8-inch, the Behemoth right here. We have the 7-inch one that's pretty big, but a little bit smaller right there. That's the tiny square one or rectangular one. And this one right here is a Wii U gamepad. Now these three right here look all pretty similar. They have similar layouts. You can see the motherboard pretty clearly. They have like some of the similar components. Like this right here is a stripped down memory card. Same there and same there. And actually this is where I had the issue on this one. Underneath the memory card, there was some just solder debris that was shorting out a chip. Just like great quality control and stuff. But this one actually also has a bunch of flux just dried up on it, which I'll show you in a second. But these three right here look pretty similar inside, have similar components, similar batteries, a lot of the same custom boards. You can even see the heat sink, you know, with a little tinfoil on it to blast the air out the top. Now the Wii U gamepad is a little bit different. It has some of the same components, but just like mapped out differently because it is a different shape. But yeah, it's just interesting looking at the insides of these. I think the Wii U gamepad actually looks pretty solid on the inside. Probably the best one is this 8-inch one, very clean, no like, at least not much like solder residue and that sort of thing. Actually, as I say that, I just touched a piece up here that is covered in solder, covered in flux that's dried up. But the worst one, I think on the inside by far, is this one on the top right-hand corner, the very first one I bought. Let me just kind of zoom in on it for you. All right, so first of all, like I said, below this memory card right here is where the solder debris was, which is obviously pretty bad. Now, if you go to the top here, you can see just tons of flux just kind of dried up on the board. And by the way, I'm trying to hold this together, but it's hard to do when you got wires strapped across. But like, look at all that solder or that flux there, all up there, just dried up, not cleaned up at all. And I think that's the smell. You get like burning flux smell when you turn the console on. It starts blowing out at the top. It doesn't smell that bad, but it's just a little bit annoying and kind of just crappy quality control, honestly. Now I say quality control, but it is coming from AliExpress, which I don't really expect much quality control in the first place, which is sad when you're paying this much money for something. But yeah, these consoles are just interesting to take a look at inside and out. So let's just say you have some money to spare and you really want to buy a custom PS2 portable. Which one should you buy? I think I'm gonna have to recommend the Wii U gamepad one, basically because it's got the best functionality. So I mean, it feels like a Wii U gamepad in your hands because it literally is one. You got all the good buttons, the good joysticks, the good triggers. These triggers are so much better than the other ones. Now, if the giant one wasn't quite so giant, I would have to recommend this one because it has the best screen, it has the best functionality, it has the best quality control so far of all the ones I've purchased. But the fact that it's so large, it's not playable for like 75% of people. You need like really large hands for it to be playable longer than like 10 minutes. But there's one other thing I want to do real quick. So I noticed that a lot of these consoles actually have HDMI ports on the screens. So like if you look inside here, it's an HDMI port. So I'm going to try to plug in my PS5 and see if we can play PS5 on this PS2 portable, because I just think that'd be kind of funny. So I have my PS5 ready to go, and the way I have it set up is the HDMI cable is plugged into the PS5, and the other end of the HDMI cable comes into the screen on the Wii U gamepad. Well, Wii U gamepad PS2 console, whatever you want to call it. And I actually realized, I didn't notice this earlier, but it's using some sort of HDMI conversion to display the PS2 on the Wii U gamepad. And by the way, obviously, as you've noticed by now, I did have to take the Wii U apart to plug the HDMI cable in because there's no port on the outside. But let's go ahead and try it out. So, all right, power is on. We don't need to turn on the PS2 because we're not using the PS2, but if we press this TV button, I think it changes our inputs. One of them does. Let's turn on the PS5 and see if it just shows up. And our hope here is that the PS5 screen will show up on this screen, and it should look pretty good because it's a widescreen. Oh, there it goes. Haha, perfect. That was really quick too. All right, so here it is. Got my controller as well. So obviously the thing that's a little bit janky here is I'm still using my PS5 controller on the PS5. Literally all I'm doing is plugging the HDMI cable into this right here, so I can't like use these buttons or anything. It's not a great solution. It's just kind of a novelty, and I thought it'd look kind of cool. And here we are. So we're on the PS5 menu, and yeah, I mean, doesn't look bad. Let's check out what the resolution is at. All right, so checking on the resolution, we do have 1920 by 1080. So yeah, and it looks pretty good at first glance. Obviously, the viewing angles on this are not the best, but it is a matte screen, so you don't have any glare, and it looks better in person than it does on camera, honestly. So let's go ahead and boot up a game and just see how it looks. And in reality, this obviously has like zero usefulness at all because you have a PS5 with you, you have your controller with you have to plug your HDMI, you have to take this console apart. Just not useful at all, but I think it's just kind of cool, kind of a novelty to plug your PS5 and play a PS5 on a Wii U gamepad that has a PS2 inside. It's just it messes with your mind. It's just weird, but it's kind of cool. And I'm playing some Deathloop, having no problems at all. Obviously, it's just a screen, so there aren't really many problems to have, but no lag or anything. And by the way, guys, this really big PS2 portable, the 8-inch one, the one that I called Behemoth,
it stopped working. It turns on but won't show anything on the screen. So just if you guys are interested in buying it, go message me on my website and let me know, and I'll list it for you. I'll probably list it for like half the price of what I bought it for, and maybe you can repair it. I don't know. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know down below what your favorite PS2 portable in this video was, and have a great day.
So guys, thanks for watching this full compilation. Leave a comment down below saying, I love custom portable consoles, if you watched till the end. And guys, I'll see you next time.